वेलकम बैक फ्रेंड्स, कैसे हो आप सभी। सबसे पहले इतना प्यार और सपोर्ट देने के लिए दिल से थैंक यू। और जैसा कि मैंने प्रॉमिस किया था, आज लेकर आ गया हूँ डुलूरो कॉन्टिनेंट स्टार्टिंग विद साइंग मास्टर्स ऑफ डेथ गॉड पार्ट 2। इस वीडियो में हम चैप्टर 13 से चैप्टर 50 तक की पूरी स्टोरी कवर करेंगे। मुझे पूरी उम्मीद है कि ये पार्ट भी आपको पसंद आएगा, तो ज़्यादा टाइम वेस्ट ना करते हुए शुरू करते हैं।
Chapter 13, 1000-Year Spirit Ring. The giant spider was over 10 meters away from Chenluo and Elder Pussy. Its body alone was nearly a meter long, and if one included its 8 spear-like spider spear legs, it was at least 2.5 meters. This was the first time Chenluo had seen such a large spider. Even though he knew that spirit beast bodies were relatively larger than ordinary beasts, he was still shocked by the giant spider in front of him. Besides its large size, the appearance of this giant spider was also very distinctive. Its body was covered in a black carapace that shimmered with a black radiance. Its 8 spider spear legs were incredibly slender and sharp, sinking easily into the earth. The moment it appeared, Chenluo saw its abdomen. There, many white markings formed an extremely ugly human face, which was particularly eye-catching against its black body. It also had 8 thumb-sized eyes glowing with a purple light, which were extremely eerie. These iconic features confirmed it was a man-faced demon spider. Thinking back to the spirit beast corpses he had seen while walking with Elder Pussy, it was no surprise that they were the handiwork of a man-faced demon spider. After all, this creature was notorious and held the title of Evil Slayer. Chenluo stared at the man-faced demon spider ahead, his hands gripping the Reaper's scythe tightening involuntarily. He mocked himself, "We were just talking about the man-faced demon spider, I didn't expect to run into one so soon." "Brat, don't be too nervous. This man-faced demon spider is at most just over 1,000 years old. As long as you stay by my side, there will be absolutely no danger to your life. I can take it down in at most a quarter of an hour," Elder Pussy said confidently. Chenluo nodded vigorously. Understood. There was no time for a long standoff. The moment the man-faced demon spider appeared, a battle was destined to break out. Before Elder Pussy could make a move, the man-faced demon spider acted first. This evil, bloodthirsty spirit beast was incredibly fast, its 8 spider spear legs moving flexibly, instantly closing the distance between it and Elder Pussy and Chenluo. Elder Pussy did not stand idly by. He immediately made his move, his white spirit ring flashing as he activated his first spirit ring. Spinning hammer. With a low shout from Elder Pussy, he threw the pitch-black great hammer in his hand forcefully toward the man-faced demon spider, carrying a terrifying amount of power. The man-faced demon spider was fast, but its reaction was even faster. It charged straight toward Elder Pussy and Chenluo. Upon seeing the pitch-black great hammer thrown by Elder Pussy, it immediately swerved, dodging the attack with ease, and was able to quickly adjust its posture to continue advancing. The reason the spinning hammer was called the spinning hammer was, of course, because of the word spinning. Elder Pussy's pitch-black great hammer passed by the man-faced demon spider. After flying a certain distance, it flew back with even greater speed and force. This time, the man-faced demon spider had no time to react and was smashed hard by the pitch-black great hammer. Bang, crack. The sound of a heavy object colliding and the sound of bones shattering rang out almost simultaneously. Elder Pussy's pitch-black great hammer directly smashed 3 of the man-faced demon spider's spider spear legs, and finally flew back into Elder Pussy's hand. While feeling the pain of its broken legs, the man-faced demon spider lost its balance, slammed hard onto the ground, and rolled several times before coming to a stop. A real battle is not turn-based. Elder Pussy would not foolishly stand there watching the man-faced demon spider react. The moment the pitch-black great hammer returned to his hand, Elder Pussy had already rushed out, even predicting the position where the man-faced demon spider would finally land. Chenluo's reaction was also very fast. The second after Elder Pussy moved, he immediately followed. He had not forgotten what Elder Pussy had said about not leaving Elder Pussy's 3-meter range, even though the battle situation was very favorable. During the rapid advance, Elder Pussy gripped the pitch-black great hammer tightly. The second spirit ring on his body flashed with yellow light, and his second spirit ability was activated. Heavy hammer strike. In an instant, the pitch-black great hammer in Elder Pussy's hand grew much larger, and Elder Pussy himself gained a bit more sense of power. The pitch-black great hammer was swung up forcefully by Elder Pussy and then slammed down fiercely. In this brief process, Elder Pussy had closed the distance between himself and the man-faced demon spider, and the pitch-black great hammer was about to slam into the man-faced demon spider's body. The man-faced demon spider did not sit and wait for death. Its remaining 5 spider spear legs instantly bent into a terrifying arc, and then launched its entire body away. Boom. The pitch-black great hammer fell, and the ground was smashed into a huge crater with a diameter of over 3 meters. But the man-faced demon spider had escaped from under the pitch-black great hammer a step earlier and was already more than 10 meters away. Elder Pussy seemed to have anticipated this result long ago. Without the slightest hesitation, he picked up the pitch-black great hammer and gave chase. Chenluo followed closely behind Elder Pussy, always maintaining a 3-meter range. Even though he did not join the battle, watching the fight from such a close distance still made him excited and thrilled. So this is what a spirit master is. Fantastic, powerful, shocking. Elder Pussy's strength was unquestionable. Dealing with a man-faced demon spider of around 1,000 years was completely more than enough. The reason Elder Pussy had previously said it would take a quarter of an hour to resolve the battle was that most of the time was actually spent chasing the man-faced demon spider. The man-faced demon spider was very cunning. Being bloodthirsty, it loved to slaughter the weak, but when it encountered the strong, it would flee without hesitation and at all costs. Even with only 5 spider spear legs left, the man-faced demon spider's speed was lightning fast. But unfortunately, it still couldn't outrun Elder Pussy. After a while, Elder Pussy caught up with the man-faced demon spider. With the enhancement of his third spirit ability, crushed the pitch-black great hammer fell heavily. The man-faced demon spider instantly lost its ability to fight, its entire body covered in cracks, and it sank into the mud. The battle was over. Elder Pussy put away his pitch-black great hammer and glanced at the man-faced demon spider indifferently. This kind of evil spirit beast deserved to die. Brat, I didn't expect your speed to be quite fast, to actually be able to keep up with me. Withdrawing his gaze from the man-faced demon spider, a look of surprise appeared on Elder Pussy's wrinkled face. He turned his head slightly to look behind him, but Elder Pussy did not receive a response. Before Elder Pussy could react, a figure rushed past him, holding a huge scythe, filled with killing intent. It was none other than Chenluo. Pucci. The Reaper's scythe was raised high by Chenluo and then fell heavily, choosing the crack on the man-faced demon spider's body with extreme precision. The entire blade of the Reaper's scythe sank into the man-faced demon spider's body. The man-faced demon spider, which had already died, suddenly trembled, and its remaining 5 spider spear legs suddenly stiffened. Chenluo seemed to have anticipated this situation long ago. After completing the attack, he had already retreated in advance, just in time to dodge the incredibly sharp spider spear legs. If he had hesitated even a little bit, his body would have been pierced by the man-faced demon spider's spear legs. The trembling of the man-faced demon spider's body lasted for a very short time, and within a few breaths, it had no movement, but the stiffened spider spear legs did not change at all. A purple spirit ring rose quietly from the corpse of the man-faced demon spider, symbolizing the end of the evil slayer's sinful life. You brat, you are really something. You dared to do such a dangerous thing. If you hadn't taken a step back, you would have been done for here. Witnessing Chen Luo complete the final harvest of the man-faced demon spider, the slow-to-react elder Pussy suddenly became angry. In his old, hoarse voice, besides annoyance, there was a trace of lingering fear. This was also my negligence. I forgot that this evil guy is a cunning creature that knows how to play dead. It was so close just now. That was dangerous. Brat. Elder Pussy was originally going to say a few more words of lament, but suddenly discovered that Chen Luo's actions were a bit off, and immediately shouted, "What are you doing? You don't intend to absorb the man-faced demon spider spirit ring, do you? Are you crazy, kid?" Chen Luo was already sitting cross-legged in front of the man-faced demon spider spirit ring, and indeed, as Elder Pussy had said, he had begun to absorb the man-faced demon spider spirit ring. This was Chen Luo's best opportunity, and Chen Luo certainly didn't want to let it go. Even though there was a huge risk, for him, as long as the gains were sufficient, no risk was too great. How many such opportunities can a person have in their lifetime? With Elder Pussy guarding him, there was no need to worry about being affected by external factors during the process of absorbing the spirit ring. This was the reason Chen Luo was so decisive. Chen Luo had already started absorbing the spirit ring, and Elder Pussy also noticed this. Once the absorption of a spirit ring begins, there is no possibility of stopping it halfway. Unless it really reaches an irreversible situation, it will be forcibly terminated, but the consequences of doing so would be very serious. Elder Pussy did not lose his temper at Chen Luo again, but his extremely ugly expression explained everything. Elder Pussy suppressed all his emotions in his heart, trying hard to restrain himself from affecting Chen Luo. His withered fists were clenched very tightly, and the veins on his hands were bulging. This guy is really not afraid of death. It's such a pity. During the battle just now, Elder Pussy had noticed Chen Luo's situation and was very satisfied with Chen Luo's performance in all aspects. If it were an ordinary child, when encountering such a terrifying spirit beast, it would have been good enough not to be scared to tears or wet themselves. But Chen Luo was very calm, just a little nervous. Just in terms of mentality, this child Chen Luo was already very extraordinary. In the subsequent battle, the speed and reaction Chen Luo displayed were also very terrifying. Being able to keep up with the combat rhythm of a spirit ancestor already indicated Chen Luo's extraordinariness, even if this spirit ancestor had deliberately slowed down his speed and made the rhythm of the battle simpler. Elder Pussy was originally very satisfied with Chen Luo as a person, although Chen Luo's innate 7-level spirit power had added a lot of points for Chen Luo. But after the battle, Elder Pussy was even more satisfied with Chen Luo's abilities. During the battle, Elder Pussy had already thought that after the battle ended, he must carefully select a good spirit ring for Chen Luo, and in the future, no matter how much he had to pester him, he would take Chen Luo as his disciple. As long as one is not blind, one can see that this child will definitely have achievements in the future. It's just a pity, everything has become a dream. Elder Pussy not affecting Chen Luo did not mean that Elder Pussy held any hope for Chen Luo forcibly absorbing a 1,000-year spirit ring. Absorbing a 1,000-year spirit ring as the first spirit ring was simply impossible. What hope could there be? The reason he did not immediately take action against Chen Luo was because this was not the best time to interrupt, even though Chen Luo had just started absorbing the spirit ring. At this time, Chen Luo was like an empty jar being filled with water, and the speed of filling was the fastest and completely uncontrollable. If Elder Pussy acted rashly, it would cause the water to fill the jar all at once, or even burst it. Only by waiting for the speed of the water filling to become steady would there be a chance to change the situation. Of course, even if he waited for the best opportunity and changed the situation in front of him, the jar would still be greatly affected. Being crippled might be the best outcome, and exploding was still a highly possible event. Elder Pussy watched Chen Luo silently, waiting for the opportunity to interrupt Chen Luo's absorption of the spirit ring. There was no room for choice, even if he knew the result, he had to do it. Compared to Chen Luo's life, this was the only hope. As the spirit ring was absorbed, Chen Luo's complexion began to look bad, but it seemed that all this was still within Chen Luo's range of endurance. Time passed second by second, and Elder Pussy still hadn't found a suitable opportunity. His expression became increasingly strange. And it was in this situation that Elder Pussy discovered with shock that Chen Luo was about to complete the absorption of the spirit ring. Chapter 14, Poisonous Flame. The process of absorbing the spirit ring was much easier than Chen Luo had imagined. It wasn't painful at all. Chen Luo felt as if he were constantly using his soul hunting ability to harvest souls and increase his strength, clearly sensing his power growing at a terrifying speed. If one had to point out a point of discomfort, it was that he felt too full. Yes, that's right, too full, the kind of feeling one gets after eating too much. However, that sensation did not come from his stomach, but from his entire body. During the absorption of the spirit ring, all of Chen Luo's meridians were expanding. Every time they expanded even a fraction, they would be filled with energy again, only to expand further. If one were to compare Chen Luo's body to a container, he had originally been a jar, and now he was constantly expanding toward the size of a water bucket. This process lasted for an unknown duration until the feeling of being full completely vanished from Chen Luo's body, which also signified that Chen Luo had completed the absorption of the spirit ring. Chen Luo slowly opened his eyes, and his entire temperament had undergone a heaven-shaking change. In that instant, although he still looked like a child, he gave people a feeling of great power. Is it over already? Chen Luo still felt a bit unsatisfied. Opening his left hand, the Reaper's scythe appeared. At the same time, a purple ring of light rose quietly from beneath Chen Luo, extremely eye-catching. From this moment on, I am also a true spirit master. Chen Luo gripped the Reaper's scythe tightly, his heart filled with excitement. Absorption of the 1,000-year spirit ring successful. Special task completed. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a general reward, Poisonous Flame. Poisonous Flame enhanced 1,000-year spirit ability. Special tasks had a certain chance of yielding top-tier rewards. It seemed his luck wasn't that good this time. But having an enhanced 1,000-year spirit ability was already quite good. Elder Pussy had been watching Chen Luo silently, his eyes full of shock, his aged face covered in astonishment. It actually really succeeded. When Elder Pussy saw the purple spirit ring rise from Chen Luo's body, the emotions he had suppressed for a long time finally erupted. A miracle, this is a miracle. Only then did Chen Luo notice Elder Pussy's presence. He had been so immersed in his own joy that he had forgotten about Elder Pussy. Old man, I succeeded. Chen Luo smiled, his heart filled with too many emotions to express. Elder Pussy nodded vigorously, wanting to reach out and touch Chen Luo, but fearing he might defile the miracle before him, he eventually withdrew his hand, his entire body trembling slightly. It is simply incredible. You are definitely the first person in history to absorb a 1,000-year spirit ring as their first spirit ring. And you are very likely the only one. From the moment Chen Luo killed the man-faced demon spider to the end of his absorption of the spirit ring, Elder Pussy had seen it all. Throughout this process, countless emotions had surfaced in his heart, but right now, there was only shock. Chen Luo grinned. Whether I am the first, I don't know, but I am definitely not the last. There aren't that many onlys in this world. If Chen Luo remembered correctly, many years later, there would be a kid surnamed Huo on the Douluo Continent whose first spirit ring was a million-year spirit ring. The shock on Elder Pussy's face transformed into a smile. He laughed very happily, looking at Chen Luo as if admiring a perfect work of art. How do you feel after absorbing the spirit ring? Elder Pussy asked. Chen Luo said, my whole self has become much stronger. This is a purple 1,000-year spirit ring, something I have never even possessed. It's certain you have become stronger. What is your current rank, and what spirit ability did you obtain? Elder Pussy asked excitedly. Hearing this, Chen Luo paused for a moment before saying, my current rank should be 11. As for the spirit ability, it's poisonous flame. The rank is only 11. Elder Pussy frowned immediately. Compared to the spirit ability, he was more concerned about Chen Luo's rank. Chen Luo nodded. That's right. Of course, his rank couldn't possibly be only 11. His rank had already been 19 before absorbing the spirit ring, so how could it decrease? It was just that after absorbing the spirit ring, his rank hadn't changed, so he reported it according to the rank a normal spirit master would have after absorbing a spirit ring. Perhaps due to the uniqueness of his spirit, others couldn't see through Chen Luo's true strength, which just happened to allow him to better hide his power. That shouldn't be. You absorbed a 1,000-year spirit ring. Even if your rank didn't increase by a shocking 10 or 8 levels, an increase of more than 3 levels is absolutely possible. It's impossible for it to yield the same benefits as a normal spirit ring. Elder Pussy mused. Chen Luo said, although my rank didn't change, the spirit power within my body has increased several-fold. Oh, really? Elder Pussy regained his spirit, the confusion on his face vanishing instantly. If that's really the case, then it's understandable. And this is even better than the benefits brought by directly increasing one's rank. Chen Luo nodded. I think so too. Although his rank hadn't changed, his spirit power had increased tremendously. In this regard, Chen Luo was indeed not lying. This might sound a bit awkward at first, but it would be very easy to understand if described in another way. Compare spirit power to water. At the same rank, other people's spirit power is equivalent to a basin of water, but the spirit power in Chen Luo's body is a pond. And the rank symbolizes one's ability to draw water. With the same water drawing ability, others only have a basin of water, but Chen Luo has a whole pond. This was the benefit brought by Chen Luo absorbing the 1,000-year spirit ring of the man-faced demon spider. The smile on Elder Pussy's face grew even richer. I really don't know how to describe you. You are simply a monster. Things that were fundamentally impossible, you actually accomplished, and you even created more impossibilities. Elder Pussy seemed even happier than Chen Luo. Although he was only a witness, he was genuinely happy for Chen Luo from the bottom of his heart. Chen Luo raised the corner of his mouth, revealing a smile he thought was very handsome. Old man, I hope you can keep this a secret for me. Elder Pussy nodded immediately. Don't worry, I know you brat are afraid of trouble. Chen Luo and Elder Pussy looked at each other and smiled, understanding each other without words. Oh, right, quickly show me your spirit ability. Let me also witness what a 1,000-year spirit ability looks like. Elder Pussy suddenly remembered the spirit ability and said immediately. Chen Luo looked at Elder Pussy with some confusion. Old man, why don't you have a single 1,000-year spirit ring? Can I take that as you mocking me? Of course not. Elder Pussy said, I was young and ignorant before, and no one taught me knowledge in this area, so I foolishly obtained a random spirit ring. This is also the thing I regret most in my life. So later on, you started to continuously study knowledge regarding spirit masters and spirit beasts. That's right, although it was already too late. Alright, old man, let's not talk about your sad past, and don't look so dejected. Let me show you my spirit ability. As Chen Luo spoke, he gripped the Reaper's scythe tightly with both hands, lowered his body, and shouted in a low voice, poisonous flame. The purple spirit ring hovering on Chen Luo's body lit up instantly. The next second, the Reaper's scythe in Chen Luo's hand bloomed with black light, and a layer of black, mist-like substance attached itself to the blade of the scythe. Chen Luo exerted force with his legs, rushed toward the nearest large tree, swung the Reaper's scythe, and slashed fiercely at the tree. Kai. The Reaper's scythe left a huge gash on the tree with extreme ease, and the cut was covered with black flames that were continuously corroding the trunk. After doing all this, Chen Luo put away the Reaper's scythe, walked toward Elder Pussy, and introduced his spirit ability. Poisonous flame. After using it, it allows my scythe to be coated with the special substance you just saw. That thing is highly corrosive and contains a potent poison. Elder Pussy stared at the gash in the tree. The black flames were rapidly corroding the tree trunk, quickly making the gash larger, until finally, the tree could no longer bear it and crashed down. After a long while, Elder Pussy slowly spoke. Very shocking. If you don't use this spirit ability, does your scythe blade contain poison? Chen Luo said, it is, but the poison isn't very strong. At most, it has a numbing effect. Elder Pussy nodded. That is already very good, at least it achieved the result of imbuing your spirit with special attributes. When you displayed your spirit scythe just now, I didn't notice any changes did, and I thought this special attribute didn't exist. Chen Luo said, it exists, it's just not visible on the surface. Elder Pussy sighed with emotion. Today was truly an eye-opener. It seems that my insistence on helping you hunt spirit beasts to obtain a spirit ring was a very wise choice. This might be one of the few right things I have done in my life. Chen Luo's first spirit ring had been obtained, and the purpose of the trip had been achieved. Elder Pussy did not take Chen Luo to linger in the soul hunting forest for any meaningless time. After resting for a while, they set off on the return journey. Interestingly, on the way back, Chen Luo and Elder Pussy most likely passed by the site where Tang San obtained his spirit ring. Although the spirit beast's corpse was somewhat mangled, one could tell at a glance that it was a datura snake. Chen Luo and Elder Pussy returned to Nuoding City by noon the next day. The trip to the soul hunting forest had taken several days, with most of the time spent on absorbing the spirit ring. Fortunately, everything went very smoothly. Having obtained his first spirit ring, Chen Luo had officially stepped into the ranks of spirit masters. Before returning to the academy, he went with Elder Pussy to the spirit hall to complete his spirit master registration and collect the 1 gold coin subsidy for spirit masters. Going to the spirit hall to register and joining the spirit hall were two different concepts. Elder Pussy certainly hoped that Chen Luo would officially join the spirit hall, but Chen Luo refused. On this matter, Elder Pussy did not pester him too much, and the idea of taking Chen Luo as an apprentice also vanished, not because Chen Luo was unworthy, but because Elder Pussy felt he was unworthy. As for the fact that Chen Luo's first spirit ring was a purple 1,000-year spirit ring, this secret could of course not be kept, but all of Chen Luo's information was recorded by Elder Pussy himself. Elder Pussy did not publicize this information widely within the spirit hall. He knew Chen Luo was afraid of trouble and filed these records away to be kept as long as possible. Returning to the Nuoding Junior Spirit Master Academy, the first thing Chen Luo did was return to the dormitory to find Xiao Wu. But the dormitory was empty. He went to the cafeteria, but couldn't find her either. Wang Sheng and the others seemed to have disappeared as well. Chen Luo's ominous premonition grew stronger, and he immediately headed toward the back mountain of the academy. Chapter 15. I will protect you forever. The back mountain of the Nuoding Junior Spirit Master Academy was not inside the academy, it was located outside the academy's back gate. Chen Luo was fast. In no time, he reached the back mountain and entered the woods there. From afar, Chen Luo could already hear the shouting of a group of students. With your trashy self, you want to act like a tiger. You're not even as good as a cat. Wang Sheng, you kid are too stupid. Do you really think Lu Long's stick is an ordinary stick? That's Lu Long's spirit. Little Rabbit, your people have lost, and there's no one left to fight, right? Why don't you come up? Who are you calling Little Rabbit? Call me Sister Xiao Wu. I'll come, so what? Who's afraid of you? It was Xiao Wu's voice. Chen Luo immediately pushed his speed to the limit, running toward the source of the sound, and arrived at an open space in just a few breaths. At this moment, two groups of students were at daggers drawn. One side was a group of senior students, and the other was a group of work-study students. On the side of the senior students, all of them were around 10 years old. The leader was tall and straight, and looked quite handsome, but the contempt and disdain between his brows made people feel very uncomfortable. The leader of the work-study students was a little girl, delicate and cute, with her hair braided into a scorpion braid hanging behind her. She looked unyielding at the moment. It was none other than Xiao Wu. Behind Xiao Wu, Wang Sheng and all the other work-study students had arrived, only Tang San was missing. Judging by the situation, Wang Sheng had just fought a match. He was bruised and swollen, with many wounds on his body, looking extremely disheveled and miserable. The appearance of Chen Luo instantly drew everyone's attention. As soon as Xiao Wu saw Chen Luo, her originally pouting expression instantly changed into a smile. Chen Luo, you're finally back. Chen Luo also grinned. Missed me? Hee, a little. I missed you too. Hey, are you kidding me? This is a place for fighting, not a venue for you two to show off your affection. Xiao Chenu couldn't watch it anymore and pointed his right hand forcefully at Chen Luo. Kid, I'll be sure to greet you properly in a moment. Chen Luo's gaze remained on Xiao Wu the entire time, completely ignoring Xiao Chenu's existence. Arriving by Xiao Wu's side, Chen Luo let out a long breath in his heart. Good thing I made it in time. Since that time when everyone from room 7 went to the cafeteria to eat and Xiao Wu had a verbal conflict with the senior students, Chen Luo had known that the day when the conflict would fully erupt was bound to come. Fortunately, he made it in time. He would not allow anyone to bully Xiao Wu. Since he has already gone, there's no need for me to go, the matter should be settled. Tang San returned to the dormitory from Grandmaster, intending to greet his roommates, but unexpectedly, no one was there, so he went out to look for them for a while. On the playground, Tang San heard the conversation of the senior students and immediately understood that Xiao Wu and the others had gone to fight someone. Tang San had originally intended to go over, but when he arrived at the back mountain and saw that Chen Luo had already gone up, he dismissed the thought and prepared to go back to cultivate. Xiao Chenu, 6th grade student, Spirit, Wolf, rank 11, One Ring Battle Spirit Master. Xiao Chenu's voice echoed in the woods. Behind him, his lackeys had all lost their combat capability. They were either sitting on the ground or lying on the ground, occasionally emitting wails. In just a few short minutes, after Chen Luo arrived, he had created the scene before them. No one was a match for Chen Luo. Even though some of those senior students had already obtained a spirit ring, they were still completely beneath notice in front of Chen Luo. Even from start to finish, Chen Luo had not yet activated his spirit. Xiao Chenu was the boss among the senior students and was also the only combat power left. Under the gaze of his many lackeys, Xiao Chenu couldn't let go of his face and had no choice but to bite the bullet and go up. What kind of monster is this guy? He's already this powerful without even activating his spirit. If he activates his spirit, that would be unimaginable. Xiao Chenu's previously arrogant and contemptuous appearance had long since vanished. At this moment, his face was tense, and his eyes flickered with a hint of fear. Chen Luo, 1st grade student, Spirit, Scythe, rank 11, One Ring Tool Spirit Master. Chen Luo said indifferently. After a polite response, he still did not activate his spirit. The battle began quickly. Xiao Chenu was already a bit afraid in his heart, but there was no way around it. With a crowd of lackeys watching behind him, he was really too embarrassed to shirk the fight, so he activated his spirit and charged toward Chen Luo. After activating his spirit, the muscles on Xiao Chenu's body swelled up, filled with power. His eyes turned pale green, his nails became long and sharp, and his entire aura underwent an earth-shaking change. But in front of Chen Luo, Xiao Chenu still appeared very insignificant. Mainly, before the fight even started, Xiao Chenu was already afraid. The outcome of the battle was already set. Xiao Chenu's speed was fast, and his strength was even fiercer. He had once, in the state of having activated his spirit, easily crushed a stone to pieces. At that time, he was incomparably confident, but at this moment, even with the reliance of his spirit, he still felt that the Chen Luo before him was like a massive mountain. The distance of several meters was instantly closed by Xiao Chenu. Xiao Chenu did not hesitate. He raised his right hand and swiped toward Chen Luo's forehead, his sharp claws gleaming with a cold light, seemingly able to shred everything. Bang! Before Xiao Chenu's claws could fall, Chen Luo's foot had already kicked Xiao Chenu in the lower abdomen, and Xiao Chenu was sent flying backward instantly. What was even more terrifying was that Chen Luo could even catch up to Xiao Chenu. Seeing Chen Luo's not so large hand tightly gripping Xiao Chenu's throat, a sense of suffocation struck instantly, stimulating Xiao Chenu's nerves. The feeling of death approaching caused Xiao Chenu to fall into complete fear. Remember this feeling. If you dare to trouble Xiao Wu again in the future, my hand will be a bit firmer, and I won't mind turning you into a corpse. The cold voice rang in Xiao Chenu's ear. This would be his shadow for a long time to come. 1 year later. Today was the day the Nuoding Junior Spirit Master Academy went on break. Most of the students in the academy were busy going home. Only a very small number of students chose to stay at the school. One semester of school life lasting a whole year was truly too long. During the school term, students could not go home. Only relatives could come to the school to visit. During this year, the old village chief and Lu Dehei came to visit Chen Luo several times. Even though Chen Luo had long told them that he could go back by himself during the break and they didn't need to go to the trouble of coming specially to pick him up, in the end, the old village chief and Lu Dehe still came to the academy. Grandpa village chief, brother Dehe, you're here. At the academy gate, Xiao Wu smiled and greeted the old village chief and Lu Dehe. Although they had only met a few times, it seemed that Xiao Wu was more familiar with them. Chen Luo, who was on the side, just watched silently. As early as a month before the break, Xiao Wu had been pestering Chen Luo, saying that she must go home with Chen Luo. Chen Luo could only reluctantly agree. The times the old village chief and Lu Dehe came to visit Chen Luo, Xiao Wu was always there. This little girl was naturally very lovable. After meeting once or twice, they became familiar. On the way back, Xiao Wu chattered non-stop with the old village chief and Lu Dehe, making the old village chief extremely happy. The rarely smiling Lu Dehe also kept a smile on his face. Only Chen Luo looked like a passerby, following behind them, silently reviewing the things that had happened at the Nuoding Junior Spirit Master Academy this year. In fact, every day was repeating yesterday. Besides cultivating and attending classes, it was just accompanying Xiao Wu to eat, drink, and have fun. Xiao Wu was quite happy. Ever since she and Chen Luo subdued Xiao Chunyu at the back mountain of the academy, Xiao Wu had become the boss of the academy. Every day she was very carefree. The work of the work-study students was taken over by Xiao Chunyu and the others, and she didn't really go to classes, living very leisurely. Let's talk about the gains of this year. In terms of strength, there was only a little progress. A year ago, his spirit power rank was 19. 1 year later, it was still 19, just closer to rank 20. This was not because Chen Luo was lazy, he was very diligent every day. Excluding the time spent with Xiao Wu, the rest of the time was almost entirely spent on cultivating. As for why Chen Luo's spirit power rank improved so slowly, in Chen Luo's own view, it had to do with his spirit power capacity. The spirit power in his body was truly too terrifying. As far as he was currently concerned, it could completely be described as inexhaustible. It was precisely because of having a massive amount of spirit power that Chen Luo's cultivation results were more manifested in consolidating his foundation. This was a process of accumulating and then breaking through. When this process ended, Chen Luo would return to the process of rapidly increasing his spirit power rank. Of course, Chen Luo also had a method to increase his strength other than ordinary cultivation, soul hunting. It was just that soul hunting could not be used casually. This matter of harvesting souls also depended on the opportunity. Not all souls could be harvested, and one had to constantly pay attention to the gazes of others. Wantonly harvesting souls would only lead people to classify him into the ranks of evil heretics, which was an extremely dangerous situation. And Chen Luo also wanted to steadily and surely improve his own strength. In terms of the system, because he had not obtained a second spirit ring, the new missions had not yet been reorganized and could only be temporarily shelved. In terms of romance, cultivating it from a young age, everything was going very smoothly. As long as one was a person, they would like Xiao Wu. Who could refuse such a beautiful and cute girl? There was no shortage of beauties in Douluo, but Chen Luo was uniquely fond of Xiao Wu. Chen Luo had originally thought that he would be in a competitive relationship with Tang San, but now it seemed that Tang San didn't even have the qualifications to compete. Returning to Grass Dog Village, it was already evening. Chen Luo, bringing Xiao Wu along, of course, returned to his own small wooden house. The two of them continued to sleep on the same bed, with a bundle still serving as a boundary line in the middle of the bed, but this boundary line seemed not to exist for Xiao Wu. Xiao Wu's hand crossed the boundary line, occasionally tugging at Chen Luo's clothes. Chen Luo, I didn't expect your bed to be in such a good position. I can just look at the stars in the sky through the window. Chen Luo, we bought so many ingredients today. Will you make something delicious for me tomorrow? Okay. I heard from Grandpa Village Chief and Brother Dehe that your cooking skills are excellent. Of course. Xiao Wu said, and Chen Luo responded. Xiao Wu and Chen Luo seemed to have endless things to talk about. After talking about many plans for the vacation, Xiao Wu fell asleep without realizing it. Chen Luo carefully covered Xiao Wu with the quilt, then gazed at her gently for a few seconds. I will always protect you. Reluctantly withdrawing his gaze, Chen Luo looked out the window. The moon was like a silver plate, and the sky was full of stars. Tomorrow should be another good day. The vacation was so long, he had to find something to do. If it were up to Sister Xiao Wu to arrange it, every day would just be eating, eating, and eating. How about, after a while, visiting Saint Spirit Village? Perhaps that kid Tang San was making hidden weapons. Since they were roommates after all, if he went a long way to visit him, it would be embarrassing if he didn't give him some hidden weapons, right? Chapter 16. Only 2 rooms left. 5 years later, Ballot Kingdom, Soto City. On the street, 3 young people were looking for a restaurant. There were 2 boys and 1 girl, all only 12 or 13 years old. The girl walked side by side with one of the boys. She wore a small pink top and white long pants. Although her outfit looked somewhat simple, it perfectly accentuated her figure. Whether it was her slender waist or her long, straight, beautiful legs, everything was aesthetically pleasing. In particular, the girl had a delicate, rosy little face. Though it carried a hint of childishness, she was stunningly beautiful. She had long, jet black hair braided into a scorpion braid that hung down behind her back, reaching her calves. The boy beside the girl was over 1.7 meters tall, dressed in a black martial outfit with a well-proportioned figure. He wore a black bracelet on his left wrist and had short black hair. He looked very sunny and spirited, and possessed a very handsome face. He and the girl looked like a match made in heaven. There was another boy walking in front, dressed simply in a light blue martial outfit. Around his waist was a belt inlaid with 24 jade stones. He had an ordinary appearance, and standing with the 2 behind him, he always gave people a sense of being out of place. These 3 were none other than Xiao Wu, Chen Luo, and Tang San, who had come from the Nuoding Junior Spirit Master Academy. I really don't know what you were thinking. There were so many intermediate Spirit Master Academies we could have chosen from, and they all offered us incredibly generous terms, yet you chose to come here to attend some unknown, broken academy. Xiao Wu was complaining, pouting, with an unhappy look on her face. Tang San smiled slightly. Teacher only asked me to take the exam, he didn't ask you and Chen Luo to come. HMPH, if it weren't for Chen Luo going, I wouldn't go to that broken academy. Xiao Wu's pretty face carried a hint of disdain. When she turned her head to look at Chen Luo beside her, her large, watery eyes were full of resentment. Chen Luo, I really don't know what you were thinking. Don't overthink it, maybe that academy will give us a surprise, Chen Luo said. Seeing that Xiao Wu was still unhappy, Chen Luo suggested, we traveled quickly, and there are still 2 days before the academy starts. I'll accompany you to explore Soto City properly for these 2 days. To soothe your young heart. Xiao Wu immediately beamed. Is that a promise? My word is my bond, Chen Luo said. Hee, Chen Luo, you're the best. Xiao Wu smiled and linked her arm with Chen Luo's. Ahem. Tang San coughed twice. Could you at least acknowledge my existence? I may be walking in front, but I'm not blind. Chen Luo, Xiaowu has been the big sister of Nuoding Academy for 6 consecutive years. If her heart is still young, then the students of the entire Nuoding Academy don't need to live. Third brother, you talk too much. Xiaowu made a face at Tang San. There's a restaurant up ahead, let's go there. We've been eating dry rations the whole way, it's time to improve our diet. Chen Luo said, after we finish eating, we'll go find a hotel to stay in. Great, third brother is treating. He's worked at the blacksmith shop for so long, he must have earned a lot of money, and he's never treated us to a proper meal. Xiaowu immediately said. Chen Luo grinned, that's all third brother's hard-earned money, how can you bear it? Tang San appeared very generous, it's fine, if I'm treating, I'm treating. Money is meant to be spent. Arriving at the restaurant, as if to ruthlessly rip Tang San off, Xiaowu ordered many dishes. Before the dishes were even fully served, the three of them had already started digging in, eating with great satisfaction. During the meal, Chen Luo briefly reviewed the past 6 years at Nuoding Academy, a faint smile unconsciously hanging on his face. During the 6 years at Nuoding Academy, every day for Chen Luo had been very fulfilling. Apart from diligent cultivation, the rest of his time was given to Xiaowu. With Xiaowu's company, every day was very happy. In the 6 years, Chen Luo and Xiaowu's relationship had grown better and better, to the point where it could be described as inseparable. Besides Xiaowu, Chen Luo had also cultivated a good relationship with Tang San. Although they couldn't be considered as close as brothers, they could be counted as very good friends. Both Chen Luo and Xiaowu called Tang San, third brother, from which one could see their relationship. In terms of strength, Chen Luo's current spirit power rank had reached rank 29. P.S. Spoiler alert, the protagonist takes off after rank 30, so stop obsessing over the rank. It took Chen Luo over half a year to progress from rank 19 to rank 20. After stepping into the rank 20 tier and obtaining his second spirit ring, his spirit power rank grew rapidly. As early as a year ago, Chen Luo's spirit power rank had already reached rank 29. Just like the previous process from rank 19 to rank 20, Chen Luo had arrived at a new bottleneck period. He was destined to spend a lot of time further consolidating his foundation, but his spirit power rank remaining stagnant did not mean his strength was the same. By the way, Chen Luo's second spirit ring was a nearly 3,000-year-old fire lizard, also purple. To obtain the second spirit ring, Chen Luo almost cost Elder Pussy his life. Even though Elder Pussy had the strength of a spirit ancestor, his spirit ring quality was, after all, too poor. Fortunately, in the end, there was no danger. After finishing the meal, Chen Luo and his group began looking for a place to stay. Chen Luo and Tang San both thought about finding an ordinary hotel to stay for 2 nights, but as luck would have it, Xiaowu took a fancy to a very unique hotel. Looking at the 3-story hotel in front of him, with its exterior decorated in rose red, a wry smile curled at the corner of Chen Luo's mouth. He thought to himself, are some things unavoidable? Rose Hotel, Chen Luo, third brother, let's stay here, Xiaowu said happily. Chen Luo nodded, okay. If it's a blessing, it's not a disaster, if it's a disaster, it can't be avoided. Some things just have to be faced. Tang San had no objections and nodded. Thus, the three of them walked into the Rose Hotel. As soon as he stepped inside, Chen Luo immediately smelled the fragrant scent of roses, and his mood improved significantly. The interior decoration of the hotel was also warm and unique, with only white, silver, and rose-red colors appearing very elegant. Going to the counter, Chen Luo ordered rooms. Please give us 3 rooms. Are you sure you want 3? The waiter behind the counter winked at Chen Luo. Chen Luo pretended not to see it. Yes. Sorry, there are only 2 rooms left. Chen Luo turned back to look at Xiaowu and Tang San. Xiaowu said, that's enough. I'll sleep in a room with you, and third brother will have 1 room to himself. Tang San nodded. That works. Chen Luo looked at the counter. Then let's have 2. The waiter behind the counter looked at Chen Luo with great envy, then immediately said, Sir, please wait a moment. Subsequently, the waiter began to process the formalities for them. Just as the paperwork was about to be finished, a loud voice suddenly rang out, my room is still available, right? Chen Luo and the others turned to look and saw 3 figures who had entered the hotel at some point and were walking towards the counter. 1 man and 2 women. The 2 girls seemed to be twins, their figures and appearances were like they were carved from the same mold. Both were dressed flashily, around 18 or 19 years old, with graceful figures and beautiful faces. But none of Chen Luo's group kept their eyes on the 2 girls, instead, they all stared at the man between them. The man was at least 1.8 meters tall. He didn't look very old, perhaps even younger than the 2 girls. He had a tall, upright figure and a handsome, resolute appearance. A head of long golden hair hung straight down his back. His 2 eyes were deep blue, with double pupils, looking very wicked. Things have changed a bit, but what was meant to come has still arrived. Chen Luo thought to himself. Chapter 17, Monster. If Chen Luo could not even recognize the man in front of him, then his time reading Douluo would have been wasted. However, he did not expect that the evil eyes white tiger, Dai Mubai, would be so handsome, although compared to him, he was still a little lacking. Dai Mubai's gaze swept over the 3 of them, but he only lingered on Chen Luo and Xiaowu for a moment, while only giving Tang San a faint glance. With 1 in each arm, Dai Mubai carried the twin sisters to the counter, looking coldly at the waiter. Are you new here? Do you not know the rules of this place? Although the waiter was much older than Dai Mubai, he appeared somewhat fearful when looking at Dai Mubai. This fear was instinctive. What rules? Dai Mubai said indifferently. There's always a room in this hotel reserved for me. The waiter was stunned, his face full of confusion. Dai Mubai said coldly, call your manager out. Okay, please wait a moment. The waiter immediately nodded in agreement and then ran away as if fleeing. Chen Luo watched the scenes unfolding before him. Although it was the first time seeing it, it was incredibly familiar. They aren't going to cause trouble in a moment, are they? The more familiar it felt, the more Chen Luo had a bad premonition in his heart. Big brother, it seems we arrived first. Tang San stepped forward and said. So what? Dai Mubai did not even look at Tang San. Xiaowu did not have as good a temper as Tang San and immediately stepped forward. It doesn't matter. We have already booked the room, you should get lost immediately. Hey, it has been a long time since anyone dared to say the word, get lost, in front of me. Dai Mubai smiled coldly, my mood is quite good today. If you perform the word, get lost, for me right now, this matter will be considered settled. Upon hearing this, Xiaowu's large, watery eyes instantly widened, her fists clenched, and she was about to make a move. After all, as the big sister of Nuoding City, Xiaowu had a very fiery temper. If a matter could be solved with fists, she would never say a word of nonsense. Just at this moment, the hotel manager arrived. He was a rather fat middle-aged man. Who was causing trouble in our hotel? Manager Wang had seen that the atmosphere was wrong from afar. Before he even arrived, he was already shouting at the top of his lungs. Perhaps feeling that he had a certain status, this Manager Wang had quite an arrogant posture. However, when Manager Wang saw Daimubai's figure, he instantly turned into a bowing and scraping mess. So it is you, young Master Dai. Following that, Manager Wang proceeded to fawn over Daimubai, saying all sorts of flattering words. Rest assured, young Master Dai, leave this matter to me to handle. I guarantee you will be satisfied. Today's room fee will also be completely waived for you. After buttering him up, Manager Wang looked at Chen Luo and his group, his expression instantly becoming much uglier. Hurry up and pack your things and leave. Our hotel does not welcome you. If you have already paid the room fee, we will refund you double. No need to go through procedures, just go and collect the money and leave. Be quick about it. After speaking, Manager Wang glared at the waiter again. What are you still standing there for? Hurry up and prepare a room for young Master Dai. Prepare the 2 best rooms for me, and let young Master Dai choose. Xiao Wu was already furious, and after hearing Manager Wang's words, she was instantly enraged. Why should we leave? We are determined to stay in this hotel today. Chen Luo frowned slightly after seeing this, and couldn't help but curse in his heart. I really didn't expect that the one desperately trying to provoke hatred is actually this piece of trash Manager Wang. Daimubai's voice sounded again. Even if you want to leave, it won't work. Upon hearing this, Manager Wang instantly understood everything and immediately took a few steps back. Since that is the case, young Master Dai, please do as you wish. Our hotel will cover all losses, as long as you are happy. You dog-eyed thing that looks down on people. Xiao Wu cursed at Manager Wang, yet Manager Wang acted as if he hadn't heard anything, wearing a professional smile. You should also be a spirit master, right? Come on, I am going to beat you until even your mother won't recognize you. As she spoke, Xiao Wu was about to make a move. Chen Luo finally stood out and pulled Xiao Wu behind him. If someone is going to fight, it should be me. Chen Luo just disliked trouble, which did not mean Chen Luo was afraid of trouble. When a matter reached the point where it had to be faced, he would stand out without hesitation. How could there be any reason to let his own woman fight? Xiao Wu originally wanted to say something, but at this moment, Tang San, who had been silent on the side, spoke up. This is a matter between men. You, as a girl, should just watch from behind. Originally, Tang San wanted to step forward, but after seeing Chen Luo stand out, Tang San immediately put away the thought in his heart. Tang San could feel the power of the young man in front of him. If he went up, he might not necessarily be able to defeat the opponent. But Chen Luo could. Tang San was full of confidence in Chen Luo's strength. Seeing Chen Luo step forward, Daimubai's face was full of a disdainful smile. The 3 of you come at me together, otherwise I will feel it is boring. I alone am enough. Chen Luo stepped forward calmly. Come on. Daimubai did not say any more nonsense and stepped forward, throwing a punch at Chen Luo's forehead. Although it was just a simple attack, it was full of aura, and the power and speed reached the peak in that instant. Only someone who had experienced rich actual combat could do this. Slap. Just as Daimubai's fist was about to smash into Chen Luo's head, a hand firmly grabbed Daimubai's fist, making it impossible for Daimubai's fist to advance even a fraction. No one had seen when Chen Luo made his move. Chen Luo's gaze remained calm, and his eyelids did not even twitch. Is that it? Chen Luo said indifferently. After speaking, Chen Luo's figure moved. His speed could be described as terrifying. Almost in the blink of an eye, Chen Luo arrived in front of Daimubai, suddenly raising his leg to kick at Daimubai's abdomen. Bang. With a muffled sound, Daimubai flew backward, retreating 7 or 8 meters before barely stopping. Chen Luo's speed was simply too fast. Daimubai had not even been able to react. After steadying his figure, a look of shock instantly appeared on Daimubai's face. His previous disdain had long since disappeared. White Tiger, possess. With a low shout, Daimubai directly activated his spirit. A layer of intense pale white light suddenly erupted from Daimubai's body, and Daimubai's body changed rapidly. His entire body's bones cracked and popped, his muscles instantly expanded, stretching his clothes. His full head of golden hair turned black and white, with white occupying the majority, and a few strands of black hair were particularly obvious. On his forehead, 4 faint lines gradually appeared, 3 horizontal and 1 vertical, which was exactly the character for King. His hands were more than twice as large as before, white fur covered his palms, and claws reflecting a cold light protruded from between his fingers, incomparably sharp, as if they could cut through everything. His double pupils turned a deep, dark blue, and 3 spirit rings, 2 yellow and 1 purple, slowly rose from under his feet. His entire aura suddenly climbed, reaching its extreme in an instant. Daimubai, Spirit, White Tiger, rank 37 more Spirit Elder. Please advise. Daimubai announced his spirit and rank, launching a formal challenge to Chen Luo. Xiao Wu and Tang San, who had witnessed everything from the side, both revealed looks of surprise in their eyes. He actually has a 1000-year spirit ring and is also a Spirit Elder level. I am not his opponent. Tang San thought to himself, then looked at Chen Luo. Although the opponent was powerful, Tang San was still confident in Chen Luo. Chen Luo also appeared somewhat surprised, but he was not surprised by Daimubai's spirit ring and rank, but rather by Daimubai's level of seriousness, and could not help but think to himself, he activated his spirit after just 1 round of fighting. Chen Luo did not know how much the strength and speed he had just displayed had shocked Daimubai. If I don't activate my spirit, I could barely manage to win, but that would be too tiring. Better to activate my spirit and end the battle quickly. Chen Luo looked at Daimubai with a calm gaze and slowly said, Chen Luo, Spirit, Scythe, rank 29 Tool Spirit Master. Please advise. You are only rank 29. Chen Luo had just finished reporting his spirit and rank, and before he had time to activate his spirit, the Daimubai opposite him spoke in disbelief. It is rank 29, what about it? Chen Luo replied while activating his spirit. A dark light flickered, and a huge scythe appeared in Chen Luo's hand. At the same time, Chen Luo's entire temperament underwent a huge change, and 2 purple spirit rings slowly rose from under his feet. Chen Luo's aura also reached its peak in an instant. Although he had 1 less spirit ring than Daimubai, in terms of aura, he was not inferior to Daimubai at all. Daimubai, who had originally wanted to say something, was stunned when he saw Chen Luo's spirit rings, his face revealing an expression as if he had seen a ghost. How is this possible? Monster. No need to make a fuss, everything is possible. Chen Luo carried the scythe on his shoulder very casually. Come on. Everything is possible, indeed. Then let me experience for myself this monster who possesses 2000-year spirit rings. Daimubai was indeed shocked by Chen Luo's spirit rings, but this also ignited his fighting spirit. Having said that, Daimubai launched an offensive towards Chen Luo. He pushed off with his feet, causing the hotel floor to collapse, and then Daimubai charged towards Chen Luo like a cannonball, his speed reaching a hair-raising level. This is a spirit master. After using a spirit, one's overall strength is greatly enhanced. Daimubai's spirit was also very special. After activating his spirit, his strength and speed increased by an unknown number of times. On the other side, after Chen Luo activated his spirit, his overall strength also underwent a tremendous change. Watching Daimubai rush towards him, Chen Luo was unhurried. In his field of vision, everything seemed to have been slowed down. As long as he wished, he could even make everything appear before him in slow motion. Daimubai arrived in front of Chen Luo in an instant, waving his sharp claws to grab at Chen Luo. The entire movement was fluid and extremely swift. But in the end, Daimubai's sharp claws landed on the Reaper's side, emitting a sound like metal clashing. Daimubai was unwilling to give up and continued to swing his sharp claws at Chen Luo, but the results were all blocked by the Reaper's side and Chen Luo's hands. After another attack was blocked, Daimubai finally chose to retreat. The shock that had just disappeared from his face reappeared. This speed is too fast, it's as if it was predicted in advance. Wait, the more terrifying thing should be his strength. He is clearly just a tool spirit master. Daimubai finally realized that Chen Luo's strength was not at all inferior to his own, whether before or after activating his spirit, it was vaguely superior to his own. If Chen Luo's spirit were a tremendously powerful beast spirit, Daimubai could barely accept it, but the key was that Chen Luo's spirit was a tool spirit, which simply couldn't be compared to a beast spirit, especially in terms of strength. Yet, Daimubai hadn't gained any advantage. Since the first spirit ring and the second spirit ring are already 1,000-year spirit rings, what else is impossible? Daimubai instantly composed his emotions and completely entered a state of battle. Why did you stop fighting? Looking at Daimubai, who had put some distance between them, a faint smile appeared on Chen Luo's face, then the warm-up ends early. Before Chen Luo's voice had even faded, his figure had already disappeared, leaving behind only afterimages. Not good. Daimubai immediately felt a crisis approaching and reacted in advance. Daimubai's body erupted with white light, and his evil eyes instantly turned white. At the same time, among the 3 spirit rings on Daimubai's body, the first spirit ring shone brightly, forming a circle of white light that enveloped Daimubai. The next second, Chen Luo's figure appeared, and he swung the Reaper's side in his hand, slashing fiercely towards Daimubai. Clang. The Reaper's side ultimately stopped 3 inches in front of Daimubai, unable to advance even a fraction. Clearly, Daimubai's first spirit ability had taken effect, protecting Daimubai from harm, but he was still knocked back a few steps. Chen Luo's strength was simply too terrifying. After being knocked back, Daimubai immediately adjusted his stance and then launched an attack on Chen Luo with lightning speed. However, Chen Luo's reactions and movements were even faster. Clang, clang, clang. Accompanied by the sounds of metal clashing, Daimubai's attacks were once again all blocked by Chen Luo. And after Daimubai's last attack was blocked by Chen Luo seized the opportunity and lifted his foot to kick Daimubai hard once more. Bang. With a muffled sound, Daimubai flew backward, this time stopping only after retreating more than 10 meters. Before he could steady himself, Daimubai let out a muffled groan. Looking at Chen Luo again, a trace of bewilderment appeared in Daimubai's eyes. He hasn't even used a spirit ability after fighting until now, and I already have the feeling that I can't beat him. Is that guy even human? Daimubai couldn't care about anything else at this point, he just wanted a good fight. He wanted to see just how terrifying the strength of the guy in front of him really was. Third spirit ability, White Tiger Vajra transformation. Daimubai gave a low shout, and the purple third spirit ring on his body instantly bloomed with blinding light. At the same time, Daimubai initiated his second transformation. The air around Daimubai's body seemed to twist. His eyes instantly turned blood red, and his body, which was already sufficiently swollen, expanded once more. His clothes were torn apart, revealing an extremely terrifying muscular outline. Daimubai's pair of hands grew another size larger, and the blades protruding from between his 10 fingers turned bright silver, appearing even sharper. Black stripes appeared on Daimubai's skin, and he was shrouded in a layer of intense golden light. If not for the lack of fur, Daimubai would have looked just like a fierce tiger shimmering with golden light. Using the third spirit ability directly, Boss Dai is really overestimating me. After Daimubai used the White Tiger Vajra transformation, Chen Luo finally felt the oppressive pressure coming from Daimubai. Second spirit ability, White Tiger Light Wave. As soon as the White Tiger Vajra transformation was completed, Daimubai used his second spirit ability, the White Tiger Light Wave, without the slightest hesitation. Daimubai opened his large mouth, and countless white light gathered in front of his mouth into a huge white light wave. With a roar from Daimubai, the white light wave exploded outward, carrying terrifying power. It seems Boss Dai is completely serious, so I should be a bit serious too. Watching the white light wave rushing towards him, Chen Luo's gaze did not fluctuate much, but a few touches of seriousness appeared on his handsome face. First spirit ability, Poisonous Flame. Chen Luo gripped the Reaper's side in his hand, and his first purple spirit ring suddenly shone brightly. Black light bloomed on the blade of the Reaper's side, and a layer of black, mist-like substance attached itself to the blade. Chen Luo had also prepared his offensive stance at this moment. Facing the terrifying white light wave, not only did he not retreat, but he rushed forward to meet it. This whole process was completed in an instant. Chen Luo collided with the white light wave, and the Reaper's side slashed onto it. The white light wave didn't explode instantly, instead, it was corroded and devoured by the poisonous flame on the blade of the Reaper's side at a terrifying speed, instantly returning to calm. If not for the huge energy fluctuations filling the hotel, everything would be as if nothing had happened. The white light wave had disappeared, but the poisonous flame remained attached to the blade of the Reaper's side in Chen Luo's hand. After breaking the white light wave, Chen Luo immediately rushed towards Daimubai, waving the Reaper's side to slash at him. There were no fancy attacks, just straightforward ones, yet they were full of power and speed. Daimubai reacted this time, leaning aside to barely dodge Chen Luo's attack. But Chen Luo's attacks followed immediately. After a round of exchanges, Daimubai quickly couldn't take it anymore and could only choose to take it head-on. Clang. The blade of the Reaper's side once again stopped 3 inches in front of Daimubai, but this time, the blade was covered in poisonous flame, which was rapidly corroding Daimubai's defense at a speed visible to the naked eye. In a short while, several wounds appeared on Daimubai's body. Although the wounds were not deep, one could see signs of slight blackening around the edges of the wounds, indicating that Daimubai had been poisoned. After all, Daimubai possessed the strength of a spirit elder, and his spirit was special, his body was tough and had a certain resistance to toxins. Even the poisonous flame attached to Daimubai's body extinguished instantly, but Daimubai had suffered greatly. And this was with Chen Luo holding back. If Chen Luo had attacked with full force, Daimubai would have already been lying down. Furthermore, Chen Luo hadn't even used his second spirit ability. In the end, Daimubai could not bear the burden and chose to admit defeat. You are truly a monster. This was Daimubai's heartfelt evaluation of Chen Luo. Daimubai's current state was very disheveled, his clothes had been burst apart, his pants were tattered, and there were many wounds on his body. He was simply a different person compared to when he arrived. We will meet again soon. Welcome to Shrek Academy. If you encounter any trouble at Shrek Academy, report my name, Evil Eyes White Tiger Daimubai. However, I think you might not need to. After Daimubai finished speaking, he left with a pair of twin beauties. Chen Luo, you're amazing. Xiaowu came to Chen Luo's side and said very excitedly, I rarely saw you fight before, I didn't expect you to be so powerful now, even able to defeat a spirit elder. Oh, right, how did that guy know we were going to Shrek Academy? He should be a student of Shrek. Chen Luo had already put away his spirit and walked with Xiaowu towards the counter. Let's continue with the formalities. Manager Wang and the waiter were standing at the counter. At this time, Manager Wang was already covered in sweat, his body trembling slightly. The waiter was barely better, but his face was also filled with fear. I'm sorry, I was wrong. I was short-sighted, everything was my fault. As soon as Manager Wang saw Chen Luo and the others approaching, he immediately took the initiative to admit his mistake, slapping himself hard. His voice was trembling. I hope you are magnanimous and let me go. Chen Luo didn't even look at Manager Wang, his gaze falling on the waiter. Continue with the formalities. Oh, right, the fight just now damaged quite a few things in your hotel. Calculate how much it costs, and I'll pay it all together. The waiter paused and looked at Manager Wang. Manager Wang immediately said, those are all small matters, no need to trouble you. Also, it is our honor that you stay in our hotel. Everything is free, stay as long as you like. If you need extra rooms, I can immediately arrange them for you. Chen Luo ignored Manager Wang, reached out to wipe the death god bracelet on his wrist, and a gold coin appeared in his hand. Placing the gold coin on the counter, Chen Luo naturally took Xiaowu's hand and walked out. Tang San paused and immediately followed. We're going out for a stroll, I hope everything is arranged by the time we return. Chen Luo, I really didn't expect that you were actually this powerful. Just after walking out of the hotel, Xiaowu immediately said excitedly. During those years at Nuoding Academy, Chen Luo rarely made a move, and even when he did, he never activated his spirit. Xiaowu had always been very curious about Chen Luo's strength, but after witnessing the battle between Chen Luo and Dai Mubai today, she had to re-evaluate her perception of Chen Luo's strength. Chen Luo still maintained a calm appearance and smiled slightly. If I weren't powerful, how would I protect you? That's true. Xiaowu immediately beamed with a smile and directly took Chen Luo's arm, the two of them appearing very intimate. This time, Tang San, walking behind them, did not cough again. At this moment, his mind was still filled with the scene of the battle between Chen Luo and Dai Mubai in the hotel just now. Compared to Xiaowu's excitement, Tang San was extremely shocked by Chen Luo's strength. Having lived together for 6 years, Tang San was even more curious about Chen Luo's true strength than Xiaowu. Today he finally got to see Chen Luo fight, and even though Chen Luo had not displayed his full strength, it had already brought a great shock to Tang San. 6 years ago, when they had a competition in Room 7 of Nuoding Academy, Tang San already felt that Chen Luo was different from the rest. When Tang San learned from Chen Luo that his first spirit ring was a 1,000-year spirit ring, he had already been shocked. The second spirit ring Chen Luo obtained was also a 1,000-year spirit ring. Even though he had some mental preparation, Tang San was still shocked when he saw Chen Luo's spirit ring. Counting the battle between Chen Luo and Dai Mubai just now, Tang San no longer knew how many times Chen Luo had brought him shock. Terrifying strength and speed. An extremely exaggerated speed of cultivate. Unbelievable spirit ring age. Every aspect of Chen Luo was like a heavy hammer striking Tang San's heart. The gap between people is truly hard to bridge with just effort. Tang San had always regarded Chen Luo as his goal. Originally, he thought that as long as he worked hard enough, he could catch up to Chen Luo, and he had successfully caught up to Chen Luo in spirit power rank. He had naively thought that the gap between himself and Chen Luo was constantly shrinking. Only now did he completely recognize the reality. Chen Luo and he were simply like heaven and earth, impossible to catch up to forever. Fortunately, Chen Luo was his friend. During the vacation 5 years ago, the departure of his father had caused Tang San to fall into a very painful state for several days. It was precisely Chen Luo's appearance that allowed Tang San to emerge from that state. Although Chen Luo was not old, he was very mature, and Tang San always found his communication with Chen Luo to be very relaxed and pleasant. Tang San could truly and clearly feel that Chen Luo genuinely treated him as a friend and a brother. Chen Luo had always hidden the fact that he possessed 2,000-year spirit rings very well, yet he had generously told him. In Chen Luo's words, there shouldn't be so many secrets between friends. In terms of making hidden weapons, Chen Luo had also given a lot of help, not just mental encouragement but also financial support. From time to time, Chen Luo could also offer some very good ideas. To be able to have such a friend was truly great. Chen Luo is so powerful, I should be happy for him. Tang San briefly reviewed the past in his heart, and a smile finally appeared on his face. I must also continue to work hard. Walking down the street, while accompanying Xiaowu shopping, the scene of the battle with Dai Mubai in the hotel just now flashed through Chen Luo's mind from time to time. So, he had already become this strong. The slow to realize Chen Luo inadvertently curled the corner of his mouth into a slight arc. Regarding his own strength, Chen Luo had never been particularly clear, he only knew he was very strong. Regarding his own strength, Chen Luo had never been particularly clear, he only knew he was very strong. In the past few years, Chen Luo had always been very low-key. Only Elder Puxi, Xiaowu, and Tang San knew about Chen Luo obtaining 2,000-year spirit rings, even the teachers at the academy were unaware of the situation. Being able to hide the information so well was largely due to Elder Puxi. Chen Luo had always been very grateful to Elder Puxi, although they couldn't become master and apprentice, they were considered friends despite their age gap. It was precisely because Chen Luo had always been very low-key and had always been hiding his strength that he had no concept of his true strength. Chen Luo certainly knew that his strength could not be measured by ordinary spirit power rank, but he still hadn't expected that he was already this strong, capable of easily taking down the Evil Eyes White Tiger, Dai Mubai. The battle in the hotel just now was even easier than he had imagined. It was mainly because the boost brought by his spirit, the Reaper's Scythe, was simply too abnormal. It was equivalent to a divine artifact spirit, plus an additional body spirit. Although the Reaper's Scythe looked relatively ordinary on the surface, it was definitely a divine sharp weapon, and of the highest tier. The physical boost brought by the Death God Phantom went without saying. Extreme strength and speed, a tough physique capable of withstanding massive energy, every aspect was very abnormal. If only there were a chance to have a fight where I could go all out in the future, but it will be soon, I'm about to go to Shrek Academy. It's better to be low-key in daily life, develop discreetly, and keep getting stronger. Chen Luo thought to himself. He deeply understood the principle that a tall tree attracts the wind, so he had always hidden himself as much as possible. It had to be said that this Soto city was truly prosperous. The streets were filled with people coming and going in an endless stream, even 10 Nuoding cities couldn't compare. It was precisely because Soto city was a prosperous, large city that the pace of life for the people here was very fast. No matter what the people on the street were doing, it gave one a feeling of rushing. After strolling through 2 streets, Xiaowu had only bought one very cheap piece of clothing. Seeing the extremely frugal sister Xiaowu who only window shopped, Chen Luo felt heartache. In fact, it wasn't that they didn't have money. They had been saving the Spirit Master subsidies, and they already had several hundred gold coins. Chen Luo wanted to buy Xiao Wu some nice clothes, but Xiao Wu refused them all, even saying something about not being wasteful. Where could one find such a sensible and well-behaved girl? After shopping for a while longer, under Chen Luo's insistent demands, Xiao Wu finally bought a few better pieces of clothing. Isn't the reason a boy works desperately to earn money just to spend it on a girl? When it came to eating, Xiao Wu was not stingy. Along the way, they ate a lot of delicious food, having already eaten a portion of dinner in advance. Shopping until evening, Chen Luo hadn't said he was tired yet, but Xiao Wu started to feel bad for Chen Luo. Today was so fun, let's go back, you must be exhausted. Chen Luo shook his head slightly. It's fine, as long as you're happy, we can shop for as long as you like. Hee, you're so nice. Xiao Wu held Chen Luo's hand as they walked back, while Chen Luo's other hand carried various bags, most of which contained food. Tang San is too hardworking. It's rare that we agreed to take a break, but after shopping for only a little while, he went back to the hotel early. Let's go back and cultivate too. Not long after they set out, Tang San had returned to the hotel. Shopping was, to some extent, a form of torture for men, especially when walking alone while the other two walked in front, a double torture. Rather than wasting time torturing himself, it was better to go back and cultivate. Xiao Wu, let's go check out this shop. Chen Luo suddenly stopped in his tracks. Beside them was a shop with a small storefront. In the dazzling array of Soto City, it appeared so ordinary, except that the shop's sign was somewhat special. It was a circular mark combined with a sword, a hammer, and a blue lightning tyrant dragon. Xiao Wu nodded in agreement. Okay. This whole afternoon, it had always been Xiao Wu saying to go here or there, and Chen Luo rarely spoke. It was rare to see Chen Luo speak, so Xiao Wu was quite curious about what exactly in this shop attracted Chen Luo. Walking into the shop, the decoration inside was simple to the extreme. There wasn't even a counter, there were only some items hanging on 3 walls, and they looked mostly very old, seemingly not worth much money. In the corner of the shop, a middle-aged man around 50 was lying on a wooden recliner, eyes closed, rocking with the recliner. Although the middle-aged man was somewhat old, his build was still sturdy, causing the recliner to creak from time to time. His appearance was very distinctive, his chin protruded slightly, his cheekbones were wide, his face was flat, and he had a bit of a hooked nose. Wearing a pair of black-rimmed crystal glasses, he always gave people a very crafty and strange feeling. Chen Luo did not wake him up and signaled to Xiao Wu, who wanted to speak, to lower her voice. Chen Luo, there's nothing worth shopping for in this shop. It seems there are some spirit tool, but they all look ancient. Just looking. As Chen Luo said this, his gaze swept across the entire shop, not missing any blind spots. Finally, Chen Luo found a piece of crystal the size of a human head in an inconspicuous corner. The crystal itself was transparent, but inside it were large patches of dark yellow impurities. Finally found it. Chapter 20, Shrek Academy. If Chen Luo remembered correctly, that ordinary-looking, even poor-quality crystal was the crystal-embedded gold dragon beard needle, the item Tang San needed. And the middle-aged man lying there sleeping was none other than the dean of Shrek Academy, the four-eyed elf Flender, a level 78 spirit saint. Boss, will you sell that crystal for 1 gold coin? Chen Luo asked. Upon hearing this, Xiao Wu became anxious and whispered in Chen Luo's ear, Chen Luo, why are you buying that piece of junk? Although it looks like a crystal, there probably isn't any crystal worse than that. If you really want to buy a crystal, an amethyst would be precious. Besides, do you even know how to shop? That thing is worth 1 silver coin at most. Chen Luo nodded gently and immediately changed his offer. Boss, will you sell that crystal for 1 silver coin? 1 gold coin. 1 gold coin, why don't you just rob someone? Xiao Wu immediately retorted. 2 gold coins. 5 silver coins, take it or leave it. After saying that, Xiao Wu pulled Chen Luo to leave. Chen Luo did not show much attachment or reluctance and followed Xiao Wu directly. Just as they reached the door, a voice suddenly rang out. 1 gold coin, take it. Xiao Wu glanced at Chen Luo, who nodded slightly, and the two returned. After paying 1 gold coin, Chen Luo put the crystal into his death god bracelet. Boss, we're leaving. After a polite greeting, Chen Luo and Xiao Wu left. On the way back, Xiao Wu finally couldn't help but ask Chen Luo, is there something special about that thing? I think third brother might need it. Chen Luo nodded. Xiao Wu pouted. So you bought it for him. I thought you wanted it for yourself. It's rare to see you wanting to buy something. Back at the hotel, the rooms had already been arranged. Chen Luo and Xiao Wu were staying in Red Ocean, while Tang San was staying in Green Farewell. Going to Tang San's room, Chen Luo took out the crystal he had just bought at the shop. I think you might need this. As soon as Tang San saw the crystal, his eyes lit up, and he became completely excited. Where did you buy this? Xiao Wu smiled slightly. Bought it from a rundown shop for 1 gold coin. When we came back, I thought we overpaid, but now it seems worth it. Chen Luo bought this specifically for you. Forget 1 gold coin, it would be worth even 1,000. Tang San became even more excited, stepped forward, and gave Chen Luo a bear hug, patting his back forcefully. Chen Luo, you really are a good brother. Are there any more of these crystals? No, just this one. Oh, that's normal, after all, this thing is too rare. Xiao Wu watched from the side and finally couldn't help but ask, isn't it just a piece of broken crystal? What's so special about it? Although Chen Luo knew what the crystal was, he still pretended to be curious and looked at Tang San. Tang San said excitedly, this is the crystal-embedded gold dragon beard needle. ... Brother Chen Luo, there seems to be a small village ahead. That should be Shrek Academy. We've finally arrived, I'm exhausted. Xiao Wu was on Chen Luo's back, pointing ahead to a small village about a mile away. Tang San said calmly, Chen Luo is the one who's tired. Xiao Wu made a face at Tang San. HMPH, brother Chen Luo insisted on carrying me. Tang San was expressionless. I only saw you jump onto his back. Chen Luo laughed. Let's speed up, we'll be there soon. Only when being carried by Chen Luo did Xiao Wu call him brother Chen Luo. Every time she called him that, Chen Luo's heart almost melted. As long as Xiao Wu was willing, Chen Luo could carry her forever. Looking from afar, there were many people gathered at the village entrance. When Chen Luo and the others arrived, they realized that most of them were teenagers of similar age, and most were accompanied by their parents. No way, Shrek Academy is this crappy. It's just a small village. Xiao Wu had already seen the plaque on the wooden archway at the village entrance, Shrek Academy. In front of the 5 characters for Shrek Academy, there was a green icon that looked like the head of a humanoid monster. Xiao Wu, who didn't think highly of Shrek Academy to begin with, couldn't help but complain after seeing it. It can't even compare to Nuoding Academy. It's probably not even 1/3 the size of Nuoding Academy. Speaking, Xiao Wu looked at Tang San. Third brother, you haven't been tricked by Grandmaster, have you? Chen Luo said. Xiao Wu, be quiet. Xiao Wu immediately shut up, appearing very well behaved. Chen Luo pointed at the teenagers waiting in line. If this were really a trash academy, so many people wouldn't have come to register. Let's go line up. What kind of trash academy is this? They only accept students under 12 with spirit power reaching level 20. Isn't this clearly just a money grab? My 10 gold coins for the registration fee. Yeah, only monsters can meet both those conditions at the same time. Anyone with such good conditions would go to a better academy, not a trashy one like this. This academy can't even compare to an average elementary spirit master academy. People left one after another, most complaining a few words as they departed. There were originally over 100 people here to register, but in a few minutes only a dozen or so remained. The reason for this situation was that Shrek Academy had announced its enrollment conditions. Age under 12, spirit power above level 20, both were indispensable. Those who didn't know Shrek Academy's enrollment conditions beforehand had foolishly paid the registration fee, only to find they didn't have the qualifications to enroll, and in the end couldn't even get their registration fee back. Some wanted to use forceful means to get their registration fee back, but then a 16 or 17-year-old youth appeared, directly activating his spirit, 2 yellow, 1 purple spirit elder. Once the enforcer appeared, no one dared to move, and they just complained a few times before leaving. That enforcer was none other than Daimubai. Registration continued. Most of those who stayed met the academy's enrollment conditions, though some wanted to try their luck and were mercilessly rejected. Perhaps it was because they had arrived too early or too late, but Chen Luo didn't see the other members of the Shrek 7 Devils. If Chen Luo remembered correctly, Ning Rongrong and Zhu Zuqing were both supposed to come to register today, but he didn't see them. The registration for Chen Luo and the other two was, of course, very smooth. It was just that there was some delay with Tang San. Because he had cultivated the mysterious jade hand, the old man in charge of registration couldn't judge Tang San's age by feeling his hand bones and even specially felt Tang San's lower leg. When it was time for Chen Luo to demonstrate his strength, it was inevitable that he would be met with gazes of immense shock. It's actually 2,000-year spirit rings. The old man sighed with emotion. Our academy is about to have a true monster. Chapter 21 Zhao Wuji. Chen Luo had deliberately lined up last for the enrollment qualification assessment. He did not want to be too flashy and attract too much attention. However, 2,000-year spirit rings were on display after all, and anyone who saw those dazzling purple spirit rings was deeply shocked. Even the old man who had stayed at Shrek Academy for many years and had long since seen countless little freaks was stunned. The old man stared straight at Chen Luo for a long time, until Chen Luo took the initiative to speak. I should be qualified, right? Qualified, of course you are qualified. You must be. The old man immediately said, Mubai, hurry and take them inside, especially the student. He doesn't need any further tests, he is already a student of our Shrek Academy. I believe if the dean were here, he would make the same decision without hesitation. Dai Mubai was not at all surprised by the old man's arrangement. On the contrary, it would have been strange if the old man had appeared indifferent. Even though Dai Mubai had already seen Chen Luo's 2,000-year spirit rings once, seeing them again today, he was still shocked. Previously, Dai Mubai had been very confident, believing that he was a 1 in 10,000 existence and considered one of the monsters of Shrek Academy. It was not until he met Chen Luo that he understood the true meaning of a monster. Dai Mubai immediately led Chen Luo, Tang San, and Xiao Wu into the academy. While walking, Dai Mubai introduced the upcoming arrangements. Of course, these arrangements were only for Tang San and Xiao Wu, Chen Luo was not included. You can take the second exam here, the teacher will tell you what to do. Dai Mubai eventually led Chen Luo and his group to an open space surrounded by wooden houses. This seemed to be the very center of Shrek Academy. The candidates who had previously passed the initial test were all here, and from time to time, fluctuations of spirit power emanated from the front. Dai Mubai seemed to be in a hurry. After speaking, he left Chen Luo and the others there. Before leaving, he instructed Chen Luo, you don't need to take any more exams, feel free to wander around the academy. We will arrange a dormitory for you later. If you want to accompany your companions, that's fine too. Dai Mubai turned to leave, and just at this moment, a soft, languid voice suddenly rang out. Selling sausages, selling sausages. It was Oscar. Upon hearing these familiar words, Chen Luo immediately thought of Oscar. Turning around to look, he saw a man pushing a cart, hawking his wares and blocking Dai Mubai's path. The man was dressed in simple grey cloth clothes, with neat short hair, a full beard, and a pair of large peach blossom eyes. It was hard to imagine that the soft, languid voice from just a moment ago had come from this person. Boss Dai, where are you going in such a hurry? Buy a sausage to eat. Oscar said with a smile. Dai Mubai, get lost. If you don't want it, you don't want it, why such a temper? Oscar immediately stepped aside to clear the path, still smiling. I think I just saw a very beautiful girl, and her figure was amazing too. If I'm not mistaken, Boss Dai, you must be going to find her, right? Dai Mubai ignored Oscar and walked away straight ahead. Chen Luo clearly heard the conversation between Oscar and Dai Mubai and instantly understood who Dai Mubai was going to find. It was most likely Zhu Zuqing. He hadn't expected Zhu Zuqing to arrive even earlier than them. Chen Luo, I want to eat a sausage. Xiao Wu had already smelled the aroma and immediately looked at Chen Luo with a giggle. Chen Luo shook his head. Look at that uncle's sleazy appearance. Do you dare to eat the sausages he sells? Hey, do you know how to talk, kid? Who are you calling an uncle, and who are you calling sleazy? Oscar had sharp ears and had actually heard what Chen Luo said. He immediately came forward unhappily to argue. I'm only 14 years old this year. Chen Luo, don't get excited. Give me 10 sausages, the freshly grilled kind. Oscar's attitude immediately did a 180-degree turn. All right. But after a while, Oscar seemed to realize something and looked at Chen Luo and the others with some embarrassment. How about you cover your ears first? Why? Xiao Wu asked innocently. Oscar said, I'm afraid it will affect your appetite. After saying this, Oscar extended his right hand and gave a low shout. I have a big sausage. A yellow light instantly condensed in Oscar's hand. At the same time, 2 yellow spirit rings rose from Oscar's feet. Immediately, a sausage appeared in Oscar's hand, the size and appearance of which were exactly the same as those on the cart. Xiao Wu, get lost. Oscar. Dai Mubai returned very quickly, with a girl dressed in black following behind him. The girl had delicate features and an extremely hot figure, creating a huge contrast with her youthful face. At the first glance, Chen Luo's eyes went a bit straight, and it wasn't until Xiao Wu pinched his waist hard that Chen Luo snapped out of it. Zhu Zuqing is truly beautiful. Chen Luo couldn't help but sigh inwardly. This beauty didn't just refer to her appearance. Has it not been your turn yet? Dai Mubai said, forget it, I'll go tell that teacher. You don't need to queue anymore, go directly to the 4th stage. Dai Mubai immediately stepped forward and whispered a few words in the teacher's ear. The teacher nodded, and then Dai Mubai was about to take Chen Luo and the others away. At this moment, someone couldn't help but complain, why? Their spirit power exceeds level 25. If you are also like that, you don't need to queue either. You can just go along with them, the teacher in charge of the test said calmly. After speaking, the teacher's gaze rested on Chen Luo. Mubai, you only mentioned those two. What about this student? Dai Mubai smiled slightly. He is already a part of Shrek Academy. Oh. The teacher was a bit surprised, but quickly returned to normal. He waved his hand, signaling for Dai Mubai and the others to leave. In the past, there would be some monsters every year who could be exempted from the test and enter the academy directly. It was just that it hadn't happened in a long time. Teacher, I think I should also be able to be exempted from the second and third stages. A crisp voice suddenly rang out, and a girl dressed in a white dress with an excellent temperament walked out. Her appearance was not inferior to Xiao Wu or Zhu Zuqing at all, and she also possessed an aristocratic temperament that Xiao Wu and the others did not have. It was Ning Rongrong. Finally, everyone is gathered together. Next, it's time to enter the boss fight stage, Chen Luo thought to himself. Chen Luo didn't know if he would also have the opportunity to join the boss fight. After all, he had already obtained an exemption and had directly become a student of Shrek Academy. If there was a chance, he wouldn't mind giving it a try. Seeing Chen Luo following along, Dai Mubai couldn't help but smile. The fourth stage is a combat test. Chen Luo, you have thoughts on this too? Yes, Chen Luo nodded without any hesitation. Good. Dai Mubai laughed. Looks like there will be a good show to watch today. Before long, Dai Mubai led Chen Luo and the others to another open space. On the open space, a middle-aged man in his 50s was sitting on a chair, lazily sunbathing. Upon seeing this person, the corners of Chen Luo's mouth curled up involuntarily. The boss has appeared, the immovable bright king, Zhao Wuji. Chapter 22, the fight begins. Dai Mubai stepped forward to negotiate with Zhao Wuji, and at this moment, Chen Luo and the others were finally able to see Zhao Wuji's full appearance. Zhao Wuji was not tall, even half a head shorter than Tang San, but he was extremely sturdy, to the point of being exaggerated. His entire body was covered in incredibly solid muscles, seemingly without an ounce of fat. The bulging muscles seemed like they would burst through his clothes. Even though Zhao Wuji looked no different from an ordinary middle-aged man, he still carried a unique charm. To think that 5 of them are over level 25. Are there so many little freaks this year? Could our academy be about to rise again? After listening to Dai Mubai's introduction, the way Zhao Wuji looked at Chen Luo and the others changed instantly. Ahem, let me introduce myself first. My name is Zhao Wuji. Since you have arrived here, it means your spirit power has already met the academy's requirements. However, our academy does not accept fools who only know how to cultivate. All students must pass a practical combat test. The fourth test is very simple. As long as you can work together to block my attacks and hold out for the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, you will pass. I will give you 1 incense stick's worth of time now to prepare and understand each other's abilities. After hearing this, Dai Mubai had no expression of surprise. He had already guessed this would happen on the way here. Teacher Zhao, actually, Chen Luo is already considered a member of our academy, but he still wants to participate in the fourth test. Dai Mubai suddenly remembered this and immediately reported it to Zhao Wuji. Zhao Wuji seemed a bit surprised. On what grounds is he joining? Dai Mubai explained in a low voice in Zhao Wuji's ear. A moment later, Zhao Wuji's eyes lit up. Good, good, good. After saying the word, good, 3 times in a row, Zhao Wuji smiled and said, it seems our academy is truly about to rise. Don't just stand there, hurry up and prepare. The time for 1 incense stick to burn is not long. Talk more with that kid Chen Luo, he will be the key to your success in the exam. After Zhao Wuji finished speaking, he curled his lips. I feel that we shouldn't have let this kid join, it's very likely to increase the difficulty for everyone. Forget it, forget it. Since he has already taken the initiative to take the test, should I really drive him away? Zhao Wuji said to himself, then looked at Dai Mubai. Xiaobai, go and tell them about my strength so they can be better prepared. Yes, Teacher Zhao. Dai Mubai nodded, then came to Chen Luo and the others, smiling as he said, Teacher Zhao is a level 76 spirit saint, a beast spirit type, a battle spirit saint. Ah. Ning Rongrong said, then how can we fight? We are not even on the same level of strength. Dai Mubai laughed. Originally, your test subject was supposed to be me, and Teacher Zhao was just the proctor. But on the way here, I already guessed this situation would occur, so I can only wish you luck. Teacher Zhao's spirit is the vigorous Vajra bear, a very powerful beast spirit. His greatest strengths are his power and defense. His weakness is speed, but since your spirit power is vastly different from Teacher Zhao's, I estimate you won't have any advantage in speed either. However, don't worry too much. Just let go and fight. Teacher Zhao won't be impulsive and will definitely spare your lives. Spare our lives. Zhu Zuqing frowned slightly. Ning Rongrong said, I know who he is now. He is the immovable bright king Zhao Wuji, right? Dai Mubai nodded. After a brief moment of shock, Ning Rongrong sighed, let's just go home. We are definitely not his opponents. How could we possibly defeat someone that even the spirit hall couldn't capture? You know him, Xiao Wu asked curiously. Ning Rongrong then recounted the heroic story of how Zhao Wuji had once broken through a siege by 16 bishops from the spirit hall, and then sighed again, there's no hope. We have no hope. How do you know there's no hope without trying? Chen Luo stepped forward. Chen Luo was not surprised by the reactions of Ning Rongrong and the others. After all, they were facing a spirit saint level powerhouse. At their age, no one would be able to stay calm. Chen Luo's words immediately drew everyone's attention. There is hope if we try. If we don't try, there's absolutely no hope. Chen Luo encouraged the group, then announced his own spirit and strength, showing his determination. Chen Luo, Tool Spirit Scythe, level 29 attack system battle spirit master. Seeing Chen Luo step forward, Xiao Wu did not hesitate and was immediately the second to speak. Xiao Wu, Beast Spirit Rabbit, level 29 attack system battle spirit master. Tang San followed suit. Ning Rongrong and the others hesitated for a moment before finally speaking up as well. Tang San, Spirit Blue Silver Grass, level 29 control system battle spirit master. Ning Rongrong, Spirit 7 Treasure Glazed Tile Pagoda, level 26 support system battle spirit master. Zhu Zuqing, Spirit Hell Civet, level 27 agility attack system battle spirit master. This was the lineup composed of Chen Luo and the others. After hearing this, Chen Luo immediately stated the tactics. Xiao Wu and I will be responsible for the main attack. Tang San will be responsible for control. Zhu Zuqing, use your speed advantage to restrain him as much as possible. And Ning Rongrong, you are responsible for support. Tang San, you are the only control system spirit master in our team. Your task is the most important. Our entire combat rhythm will be dictated by you. Tang San nodded vigorously. Don't worry, I will do my best. Afterward, they briefly discussed and understood each other's spirit characteristics and spirit abilities, and the time for 1 incense stick to burn passed in a flash. Zhao Wuji's booming voice rang out right on time. Time is up. Let's begin. If anyone is afraid, you can withdraw now. Chen Luo stepped forward and looked at Zhao Wuji calmly. Teacher, let's begin. Behind Chen Luo, Tang San and the others were also full of fighting spirit. When someone is hardworking enough and shows enough determination, others will inevitably be infected. Tang San and the others were not mediocre people to begin with, they didn't need too much verbal encouragement, and their own competitive spirit was involuntarily ignited. Zhao Wuji simply stretched his body, and a series of teeth-aching bone-cracking sounds rang out. Even before the fight started, it had already brought enough pressure on Chen Luo and the others. An incense stick was planted in the distance. Before it was even lit, Chen Luo and the others began to release their spirits to make full preparations. When the real test began, they couldn't be sure that Zhao Wuji would give them time to prepare. They couldn't let go of any opportunity or detail they could grasp. All of Chen Luo's group released their spirits. The first to release her spirit was Ning Rongrong. When her 7 treasure glazed tile pagoda appeared, even Zhao Wuji couldn't help but be surprised. Oh ho, what a guy, there's actually one from the 7 treasure glazed tile school. Has Splendor done many good deeds recently? The academy is starting to turn its luck around. After speaking, Zhao Wuji lit the incense, flicked it away, planted it in the distance, and assumed a fighting stance. After activating her spirit, Ning Rongrong immediately used all her support skills without any reservation, especially when she saw Zhao Wuji about to make a move. She wished she could release all her skills instantly. 7 treasures has a name, the first is power. 7 treasures has a name, the second is speed. Ning Rongrong had just used her spirit ability and hadn't had time to relax when Zhao Wuji had already made his move. Zhao Wuji squatted halfway, then slammed his fists into the ground. Tang San, control the combat rhythm, let's start. Chen Luo gave a low shout. By this time, he had also released his spirit. 2 purple light rings rose from under his feet, and a huge scythe appeared in his hand. In an instant, everyone was stunned for a moment, including Zhao Wuji, who was about to use his spirit ability. But it was only for a moment. The battle officially began. Chapter 23, Fierce Battle. Black vines suddenly whipped out from Tang San's hands, instantly binding around Ning Rongrong's body. Tang San then leapt into the air, carrying Ning Rongrong with him. Following Chen Luo's command, Tang San reacted immediately. At the same time, the others sensed something was wrong and leapt into the air. In that split second, accompanied by a low, rumbling thud, the ground shook violently. A ring of earthy yellow waves, pulsing with the rhythm of the earth, surged toward Chen Luo and the others. Thanks to their prior judgment, none of them were affected. Landing back on the ground, they immediately launched a fierce offensive. Xiao Wu attacked first. With the support of the 7 treasure glazed tile pagoda, she moved at lightning speed, arriving in front of Zhao Wuji. Without a word, she immediately unleashed her most proficient soft technique. The moment Xiao Wu's body made contact with Zhao Wuji, Tang San's parasite spirit ability was triggered. Countless blue silver grass instantly wrapped around Zhao Wuji's body, their thorns sinking into his flesh. A potent paralytic toxin was released instantly, successfully controlling him. Xiao Wu seized the opportunity to step onto Zhao Wuji's shoulders, activating her soft technique. At the same time, the countless blue silver grass pushed Zhao Wuji's body upward, lifting his feet off the ground and creating a better opening for her soft technique. Unfortunately, Zhao Wuji's strength was too great. Just as Zhao Wuji's body was being lifted by Xiao Wu's legs, all the blue silver grass binding him suddenly exploded. Xiao Wu's body instantly stiffened, and Zhao Wuji landed back on the ground. Xiao Wu immediately sensed the danger and retreated. Zhao Wuji did not attack at this moment, as if he were deliberately letting her go. Interesting. If it were an ordinary person, I fear your neck would have been snapped by this little one. But unfortunately, you ran into me. In the face of absolute strength, all techniques seem a bit flashy and useless. Zhao Wuji appeared calm and composed. While speaking, he was already activating his spirit. Zhao Wuji's body suddenly grew by a meter, and his muscles became even more exaggerated. He stood there like a small mountain. His entire body was covered in a layer of thick brown fur, his eyes turned brownish yellow, and his large hands became exceptionally heavy, resembling oversized palm leaf fans. 2 yellow, 2 purple, and 3 black, a total of 7 spirit rings, radiating brilliant colors, rose slowly from beneath Zhao Wuji's feet. Clang, clang, clang. A series of crisp sounds, like metal clashing, came from behind Zhao Wuji. It was an attack launched by Zhu Zuqing. After activating her spirit, Zhu Zuqing's speed had more than doubled, and she also possessed sharp claws similar to those Dai Mubai had after activating his spirit. This was originally an excellent opportunity for a sneak attack. After Xiao Wu launched her offensive against Zhao Wuji, attacking while he was relaxed and careless had at least a 90% chance of success. But unfortunately, Zhao Wuji was simply too strong. Everything was within his control. Zhu Zuqing's attack ultimately landed, but it did not cause even the slightest bit of damage to Zhao Wuji. The speed is not bad, but not fast enough. If you were just a bit faster, you might have been able to hurt me before I activated my spirit, Zhao Wuji said calmly. After activating his spirit, an aura belonging to a true powerhouse erupted, exerting immense pressure on Chen Luo and the others. After all, the disparity in strength was too vast. Zhao Wuji was already holding back, otherwise, both Xiao Wu and Zhu Zuqing would have already become corpses just now. As a rank 76 spirit saint, the immovable Bright King would surely see through the attack tricks of a few children. He simply intentionally refrained from counter-attacking, wanting to test the true strength of Xiao Wu and the others, and incidentally to offer some guidance. After their attacks proved fruitless, Xiao Wu and Zhu Zuqing immediately retreated. Zhao Wuji had already activated his spirit. At this point, trying to use one's so-called techniques against an existence with near-invincible strength and defense would be utter madness. To have such good coordination in such a short amount of time, you are all really quite good. I admire that, Zhao Wuji praised without reservation. But then, Zhao Wuji's expression changed. He turned his head abruptly and raised his hands in a blocking stance. The next second, a massive scythe wreathed in black flames slashed into his arm. Clang. Zhao Wuji's body only shifted slightly, while the attacker instantly retreated rapidly. His spirit is clearly a scythe, yet his speed is actually this fast, faster than that little girl of the agility attack system. And this strength, isn't it a bit too exaggerated? After being ambushed, Zhao Wuji was not angry at all, instead, his eyes instantly shone with excitement. Chen Luo's attack was, of course, within Zhao Wuji's control. It could be said that everything in the surroundings could not escape Zhao Wuji's perception. If a rank 76 spirit saint couldn't maintain total situational awareness while dealing with a group of brats under rank 30, that would be a joke. It was just that Zhao Wuji hadn't expected Chen Luo's speed to be so fast, and the attack to be so swift and fierce. The power contained within it made him feel a bit surprised. Although Chen Luo only managed to make Zhao Wuji's body shift slightly, and was sent flying backward himself, one thing must be clear, Zhao Wuji was a rank 76 spirit saint, specialized in strength and defense, and he had already activated his spirit and prepared his defenses. Being able to make such an existence shift his body was already an extremely exaggerated feat. This kid has been looking for opportunities since the very beginning of the battle. His timing for the attack was excellent. He truly is a little freak. Oh, no, these little guys are all little freaks, but he is a freak among freaks. Zhao Wuji's eyes were full of excitement, and a faint smile had unconsciously appeared on his face. He glanced at his arm, where the black poisonous flame was attached, working extremely hard to corrode his body, and it seemed to possess a certain level of toxicity. Not bad, not bad. Zhao Wuji wiped his large hand over it, easily removing the poisonous flame, then loosened his muscles slightly, assuming a combat stance. You've had your fun attacking, now it's my turn. Zhao Wuji hunched his body slightly, and then his whole person shot out like a cannonball. Speed is also a relative concept. Among those of the same rank, speed is indeed Zhao Wuji's shortcoming, but at this moment, Zhao Wuji was facing a group of teenagers under rank 30, so his shortcoming could become an advantage. The target Zhao Wuji chose was none other than Chen Luo, who had launched the last attack on him. Chen Luo certainly wouldn't just foolishly wait for Zhao Wuji to smash him. Even when facing a rank 76 Spirit Saint powerhouse, Chen Luo remained calm and shouted in a low voice, "I'll hold him off, you guys find an opening." Hey, what a confident kid. Zhao Wuji's figure had already appeared right in front of Chen Luo, his massive fist whistling through the air. Take care of yourself first. Whoosh. Chen Luo was clearly within reach, but Zhao Wuji's fist still missed. Even though Zhao Wuji had controlled his force to a certain extent, punching at thin air made his massive body slightly unstable, causing him to take a few steps forward. Chen Luo's speed was indeed fast, and his reflexes were even faster. In that very instant, he immediately dodged Zhao Wuji's attack and took the opportunity to launch his own. The massive scythe slashed toward Zhao Wuji again, but this time, Zhao Wuji didn't have time to dodge and could only instinctively raise his hand to block. Clang. The sharp side blade cut through Zhao Wuji's skin, and the poisonous flame raged again, but that was all. Zhao Wuji's body was like incredibly hard steel, the Reaper's side could not advance even a fraction of an inch further. After the attack landed successfully, Chen Luo had no intention of lingering or attacking again and immediately began to retreat. When facing such a formidable opponent, other than fleeing, the only option was guerrilla tactics. Going head to head, wouldn't that be courting death? During the time Chen Luo was holding him off, Tang San and the others were not idle. Zhu Zuqing once again snuck behind Zhao Wuji and swung her claws. Although she failed to cause any substantial damage to Zhao Wuji, she successfully planted the seeds of the blue-silver grass onto his body. The next second, countless blue-silver grass erupted, instantly binding Zhao Wuji tightly and lifting him off the ground once again. Xiao Wu appeared, attempting her soft technique once more, and this time, it succeeded. Boom. Zhao Wuji slammed into the ground, looking quite disheveled. Relying on the opportunity Chen Luo had fought for, Tang San and the others executed a perfect coordination, launching a fierce attack in an instant and catching him off guard, finally achieving some decent results. Located at the very edge, behind Tang San, Ning Rongrong had also participated in the recent action. If not for her speed support buff, Zhu Zuqing and Xiao Wu would not have been able to get close to Zhao Wuji so quickly. Not bad, really not bad. The blue-silver grass exploded once again. These seemingly powerful bindings were like child's play in front of Zhao Wuji. If he hadn't just placed all his attention on Chen Luo, he would never have given Tang San and the others such an opportunity. He likely would have broken free from the blue-silver grass the moment it bound him. Zhao Wuji stood up, still wearing a smile, and even began to clap. Your performance has made me very satisfied. As he spoke, Zhao Wuji waved his large hand, instantly reducing the half-burned incense ash. How could that thing be your limitation? Welcome to Shrek Academy. Upon hearing this, Tang San and the others breathed a sigh of relief. But before they could fully relax, Zhao Wuji's voice sounded again. The exam is over, but the battle must continue. You had better be careful in a moment. Chen Luo's originally furrowed brow slowly smoothed out at this moment. I knew it, Zhao Wuji wouldn't let us off so easily. Compared to the Zhao Wuji in the book, the Zhao Wuji before him was stronger in a more realistic way, and at the same time, he was a competent teacher. Everything was slightly different from what was in Chen Luo's memory. But what must continue, still must continue. For example, this battle where the disparity in strength was immense. Everyone focus, we need to be careful from here on out. Chen Luo looked serious, not relaxing at all because of Zhao Wuji's words. Tang San and the others were the same, naturally including the two girls who looked extremely delicate, Ning Rongrong and Zhu Zuqing. The more of a genius one is, the more competitive one becomes, not to mention this group of little freaks. Passing the exam was something they were determined to achieve. Even after reaching this goal, they were willing to face new challenges, and could loosen up without any worries. If it were regular students, how could they withstand the pressure of the immovable Bright King, the level 76 Spirit Saint Zhao Wuji? They would probably have lost any desire to continue fighting after being notified they passed the exam. Of course, more likely, mediocre people wouldn't even have the courage to face Zhao Wuji. The preparation and rest time was very short. The battle resumed quickly, and it was still Chen Luo and his team initiating the attack. Just like before, the rhythm of the battle was guided by Tang San, the only control system spirit master in the team. Xiao Wu and Zhu Zuqing acted as the main combatants to find openings for Chen Luo, while Ning Rongrong remained in the support position. Xiao Wu and Zhu Zuqing launched the first attack. With the speed assistance from Ning Rongrong, they quickly arrived in front of Zhao Wuji, who remained in the same posture, standing in place and letting them attack. Zhu Zuqing successfully got close and swung her sharp claws, slashing fiercely at Zhao Wuji, emitting a teeth-gritting metallic friction sound. Zhao Wuji's defense was too strong. With Zhu Zuqing's current strength, it was really difficult to cause any substantial damage to him, so she could only parasite the seeds of the blue-silver grass onto Zhao Wuji. The next second, the blue-silver grass grew wildly, once again binding Zhao Wuji into his onzi. Xiao Wu attacked, unleashing her soft technique. Just then, Zhao Wuji's voice suddenly rang out, using the same trick again. I advise you never to use such stupid tricks against real enemies in the future. One surprise attack is enough. Boom. A massive amount of spirit power erupted suddenly, and all the blue-silver grass shattered at this moment. This time, the binding time of the blue-silver grass on Zhao Wuji was less than a breath, and the thorns on the blue-silver grass vines couldn't even leave a mark on Zhao Wuji, as if they had just been tied against an iron plate. Xiao Wu, who was just about to unleash her soft technique, was blown away by the impact of Zhao Wuji's terrifying spirit power. No, it should be retreating with the momentum. Xiao Wu hadn't intended to use the soft technique again anyway. Hey, a new tactic. Zhao Wuji felt the scorching aura coming from his side and immediately reached out to block. Clang. A huge scythe landed on Zhao Wuji's arm. Attached to the blade of this scythe was no longer the black poisonous flame, but blood-red flames. Boom. The instant the blade of the Reaper scythe made contact with Zhao Wuji's arm, Chen Luo's second spirit ring suddenly bloomed with purple light. The flames erupted violently, instantly swallowing Zhao Wuji whole. The flames quickly dissipated. Zhao Wuji's whole body was covered by a khaki light wave. He didn't suffer much damage, but one could still see several black scorch marks on his body. Good lad, you're addicted to playing dirty, aren't you? The khaki light wave on Zhao Wuji's body erupted violently. Chen Luo was affected, groaned, and flew backwards for dozens of meters before barely stopping. Xiao Wu and Zhu Zuqing, who were at a distance from Zhao Wuji, were also affected by the khaki light wave. They were both knocked away, blood spraying from their mouths, flying in midair, and they both instantly fainted. Tang San. Seeing Xiao Wu injured, Chen Luo, who had always been very calm, suddenly became extremely agitated. Hearing Chen Luo's shout, Tang San, who was still a bit dazed, immediately unleashed his blue-silver grasp, caught Xiao Wu and Zhu Zuqing, and pulled them back. This wasn't Tang San's fault for not paying attention to the battle, he had just suffered heavy damage and hadn't recovered yet. The spirit and the spirit master are connected. Having his blue-silver grass destroyed by Zhao Wuji so many times, it was already very impressive that Tang San could persist until now. Just now, when the blue-silver grass shattered, he finally couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood, followed by the scene where Zhao Wuji took the initiative to attack. After Tang San pulled back Zhu Zuqing and Xiao Wu, Dai Mubai immediately rushed over and very proactively picked up Zhu Zuqing, while Ning Rongrong held Xiao Wu. Oscar, get over here. Dai Mubai shouted. The battle seemed to be over. A total of 5 people, 2 unconscious, 1 seriously injured, and 1 support spirit master. Could one expect a support spirit master to achieve a heaven-defying reversal? Oh, right, there was also the only combatant left in reserve, but he didn't seem to be able to change anything. Back to the center of the battlefield, Zhao Wuji was looking at Chen Luo with a very strange expression. You brat, you're still so durable. Zhao Wuji said in disbelief. Just now, Zhao Wuji had deliberately used a bit more strength to end the battle early and then educate this group of little freaks that the absolute gap in strength cannot be ignored, and only through continuous effort can one truly enter the level of the strong. However, what Zhao Wuji didn't expect was that Chen Luo, who was closest to him, although blown away far, didn't seem to have suffered 2 serious injuries, while Xiao Wu and Zhu Zuqing, who were at a distance from him, actually spat blood and fainted. One was too durable, and the other two, it wasn't that they weren't durable, it was that Zhao Wuji himself hadn't controlled his strength well. Zhao Wuji now felt some regret, very worried that he had caused 2 serious injuries to Xiao Wu and the others. In the battle just now, everything that needed to be understood was understood. These little freaks hadn't reached level 30 yet, and the spirit abilities they could use were only 2, which had all been used. The main point was to test their team cooperation ability and personal combat ability. Oh, right, the little girl whose spirit was a rabbit didn't seem to have used her second spirit ability. There must have been some reservations, but it didn't matter. Zhao Wuji was very satisfied with them. But accidents always happen. Zhao Wuji didn't want to explain so much anymore, and even skip the final teaching, because he suddenly felt that he was a bit presumptuous to continue educating these little freaks. Waving at Chen Luo, Zhao Wuji said, that's it for now, you should go check on them. However, Chen Luo just glanced over there. Teacher Zhao, I want to challenge you alone. Chen Luo said with an indifferent look. Zhao Wuji frowned slightly and looked at Chen Luo with full of confusion. Chen Luo didn't speak again but used his actions to show everything. He saw him holding the Reaper's scythe and flicking it to the side. The next second, the blood-colored flames attached to the blade of the Reaper's scythe instantly turned black. It looked a bit like Chen Luo's first spirit ability Poisonous Flame, but it wasn't, it was more like a combination of Poisonous Flame and flames. The next second, the black flame spread rapidly from the blade of the Reaper's scythe, quickly swallowing the entire Reaper's scythe, and then covered Chen Luo's body. Chen Luo's entire aura also rose sharply at this moment. Chapter 25, Undying. Zhao Wuji frowned slightly, what is going on? You brat, you must not do anything reckless. Any method that forcibly elevates your strength will cause irreversible damage to your body, or even your life. Sensing something was amiss, Zhao Wuji immediately roared at Chen Luo. Chen Luo responded calmly, rest assured, there won't be any negative side effects. At this moment, Chen Luo's strength had risen to around level 40 Spirit Ancestor. This seemed to have reached its peak, as his aura did not continue to rise. And this was already a terrifying phenomenon. To suddenly increase one's strength to such a terrifying degree was something even Zhao Wuji had never heard of or seen before. This was the first time he had witnessed such a situation. When he sensed that something was wrong, Zhao Wuji immediately assumed that Chen Luo had paid a heavy price to achieve this, which was why he had immediately spoken up to stop him. However, Chen Luo's response made Zhao Wuji even more surprised, but it also put his mind at ease. Regardless, as long as his body was fine, that was all that mattered. As for how he achieved the boost, it no longer seemed so important. Truly a monster among monsters. Zhao Wuji couldn't help but exclaim in his heart. He was very curious about how many more trump cards Chen Luo was hiding. In reality, Zhao Wuji did not know that this was actually Chen Luo's final trump card, and it was one he had just obtained. Ever since Chen Luo had obtained his second spirit ring, his check-in missions had been reorganized, and the new check-in location was Shrek Academy. Just a moment ago, Chen Luo had completed the check-in mission at Shrek Academy and received the reward for the mission, Undying. Undying elevates one's strength for a certain period of time. The duration of the strength boost and the level of the increase are determined by one's current strength. Current peak of strength elevation, Spirit Ancestor. Current duration of strength elevation, 10 minutes. At the moment he obtained Undying, Chen Luo happened to see Xiao Wu get knocked unconscious by Zhao Wuji. In that instant, Chen Luo's heart bled with heartache. Even though Chen Luo knew that Zhao Wuji probably hadn't done it on purpose, he still wanted to do something, and the newly acquired Undying provided him with the capital to act. Chen Luo was completely covered in black flames, and he held the Reaper's scythe in his hand. For a moment, he truly looked like the death god himself. Come on, be careful later, Zhao Wuji said. Having been a teacher for so many years, how could Zhao Wuji not see that Chen Luo needed to vent? He could only choose to accommodate him, but he was worried that Chen Luo would act recklessly. If that happened, he wouldn't be able to fully control his own strength, and it would be easy for another accidental injury to occur. Chen Luo nodded, his speed toward Zhao Wuji increasing more and more until he finally became a blur. Seeing this, Zhao Wuji's face showed even more surprise. It seems that it's not just strength that has been elevated but the body as well. Besides surprise, Zhao Wuji felt a bit of anticipation, and he also entered a combat state. Here it comes. Chen Luo's figure suddenly appeared, swinging the Reaper's scythe down with force. Zhao Wuji immediately reached out to block, but unexpectedly, Chen Luo shifted the direction of the Reaper's scythe, and it ultimately landed on Zhao Wuji's shoulder. SSHH. When the Reaper's scythe fell, the first thing to touch Zhao Wuji's body was the black flame covering it. The black flame seemed to combine the characteristics of both the poisonous flame and the intense flames, possessing extreme corrosiveness while also being able to erupt instantly. The black flame swept over instantly, carrying extreme corrosiveness and toxicity. Although Zhao Wuji's defense was strong, he could not completely avoid the damage. After the black flame dissipated, Zhao Wuji's shoulder, the left side of his face, and his chin were scorched black, and one could even see faint black flames still wriggling. Impressive. Zhao Wuji said, the corrosiveness is strong, the explosive power is sufficient, and it even has paralytic toxins. Impressive. While speaking, Zhao Wuji's first spirit ring flashed. Golden light instantly condensed on his body, then suddenly exploded outward. But Chen Luo seemed to have foreseen everything and had already moved away from Zhao Wuji, avoiding the blast. His reaction speed seems to have increased too. Is this even human? Zhao Wuji said with a wry smile. I wonder if you can still be fast like this. Zhao Wuji's third spirit ability flashed. With Zhao Wuji at the center, a large area around him seemed to be subjected to immense gravitational pressure, and Chen Luo's speed instantly slowed down. This is Zhao Wuji's third spirit ability, gravity enhancement. My speed advantage is about to be reduced to a minimum. Chen Luo thought to himself. Even though his entire strength had increased significantly after using Undying, he was still far from Zhao Wuji's level 76 Spirit Saint level. It was impossible to be immune to Zhao Wuji's gravity enhancement spirit ability, he could only slightly weaken its effect. Chen Luo also discovered at this moment that after using Undying, his strength had increased a lot, but at the same time, his spirit power was being consumed at a terrifying speed. It was as if his spirit power was being used as fuel to provide him with strength he didn't originally possess. Fortunately, he had enough spirit power. If he were still at level 29, even if he had an endless supply of spirit power, he reckoned that trying to move at this moment would have become extremely difficult. Chen Luo didn't know that what he considered a slight weakening was, in Zhao Wuji's eyes, already a terrifying degree. His body has also become stronger. Even if his strength has reached the spirit ancestor level, it shouldn't be enough to maintain such high speed. Zhao Wuji frowned slightly, but then turned into an excited smile. This guy was bringing him more and more surprises. Chen Luo's speed, weakened by Zhao Wuji's third spirit ability, gravity enhancement, could no longer maintain its advantage. His attacks were easily blocked by Zhao Wuji, and Zhao Wuji was also looking for opportunities to counterattack. After a few more fruitless attacks, Chen Luo was almost caught by Zhao Wuji. He was just a tiny distance away from being grabbed by Zhao Wuji and rubbed into the dirt. Phew, there's no chance of winning anymore. The gap in strength is too large, and I don't have as many hidden weapons as Tang San, nor do I have his technique. Otherwise, I could have fought for a while longer. Although Chen Luo had always been very confident in his own strength, he still possessed self-awareness. Some things simply could not be changed and had to be accepted. In the past few years, Chen Luo's relationship with Tang San had been quite good, and Tang San had also prepared some hidden weapons for Chen Luo. However, for the time being, hidden weapons could not gain much of an advantage for Chen Luo. After all, that was not his specialty. I lost. Chen Luo chose to give up, ending Undying. Zhao Wuji also immediately retracted his spirit and laughed. I thought you brat were going to keep fighting. If we fought any longer, I would have had to use my martial soul avatar. You really are already very good. You are the most outstanding student I have seen in all the time I have been at Shrek Academy. Teacher, you flatter me. Chen Luo smiled. The Zhao Wuji before him was much more attentive and considerate than Chen Luo had imagined. Although he had a rugged appearance, he possessed a very meticulous heart and was very professional in his duties as a teacher. Oscar, where are you? Do you want to eat a fist? After finishing his conversation with Chen Luo, Zhao Wuji roared immediately. Chen Luo couldn't help but smile, just like in my memories, yet different. Zhao Wuji's current appearance was truly quite disheveled, with most of his body scorched, but Zhao Wuji didn't even make a sound. And he didn't seem angry either, even though he was almost ridden on the head by his own student, he didn't mind. As long as the student was outstanding enough, he seemed able to satisfy any request. Oscar finally arrived. As soon as he arrived, he was subjected to 2 rounds of harsh scolding. First, Zhao Wuji finished scolding him, and then it was Dai Mubai's turn. You brat, do you want to eat a fist? You only just arrived now. Zhao Wuji roared, hurry up and bring 2 sausages. One of each. Oscar appeared very humble. Zhao Wuji, nonsense. Chen Luo took in all those scenes, having walked over to Ning Rongrong's side to take Xiao Wu. I am now also a member of Shrek Academy. Chen Luo smiled slightly. Chapter 26, The Little Fatty. Even though Chen Luo was not injured, Oscar still handed him a sausage without charging him. Besides recovering injuries, the big sausage can also restore a certain amount of spirit power, Oscar introduced. As for why Oscar was suddenly so enthusiastic towards Chen Luo, it was because he had just heard Dai Mubai recount Chen Luo's recent feats. Everyone hopes to build a good relationship with a powerful person. Mubai, arrange their accommodation later. School officially starts tomorrow. After Zhao Wuji finished speaking, he left. Before leaving, he asked Oscar for 2 sausages. Although Chen Luo's poisonous flame and raging flames did not cause too much damage to Zhao Wuji, they still made him uncomfortable for a while, especially the poisonous flame. Its corrosive and paralytic effects were far from pleasant. Oscar's little sausage had the effect of dispelling foreign effects, but it could not completely suppress the pain. Chen Luo, you are truly strong. This was already the 3rd time Dai Mubai had said this to Chen Luo. At this moment, Dai Mubai was carrying Zhu Zuqing and leading Chen Luo towards the dormitories. Chen Luo was carrying Xiao Wu, with Tang San and Ning Rongrong following behind, and Oscar had inexplicably tagged along as well. Chen Luo smiled slightly. I still need to continue working hard. I feel that after meeting you, I've suddenly found a goal to keep striving for. If even you are talking about working hard, what right do we have not to? Dai Mubai laughed. You flatter me. Chen Luo briefly reviewed the battle with Zhao Wuji just now, and then recalled the ending of Tang San fighting Zhao Wuji alone in the book. His determination strengthened. I must work hard. Even though the Zhao Wuji he just fought was a true level 76 Spirit Saint powerhouse, who had absolute control over a group of spirit masters under level 30. Glancing at Xiao Wu in his arms, Chen Luo thought to himself, only by working hard enough can I become stronger at the fastest speed. Only by being strong enough can I protect you. Under Dai Mubai's guidance, Chen Luo and the others arrived at the dormitories before long. On the way there, the sleeping arrangements were already settled. Chen Luo would stay with Xiao Wu, Tang San with Oscar, and Ning Rongrong with Zhu Zuqing. It was Chen Luo who had actively requested to stay with Xiao Wu, otherwise there wouldn't have been a situation of mixed gender housing. Chen Luo was afraid he wouldn't be able to sleep if he left Xiao Wu, so he simply decided to stay with her, continuing to sleep together and not be separated. Regarding this, Dai Mubai had no objections, and he could completely make the decision himself. Furthermore, he believed that even if the dean were here, he wouldn't have any objections. Geniuses often enjoyed more privileges. The others had even fewer objections. The so-called dormitory was just a larger wooden house. Chen Luo felt this cabin wasn't even as big as the one he had lived in at Grass Dog Village. He had to admit that the conditions at Shrek Academy were truly limited. There were 2 wooden beds in the cabin. How could Chen Luo tolerate sleeping separately from Xiao Wu? What if Xiao Wu didn't cover herself well in the middle of the night and caught a cold? What if Xiao Wu felt a bit cold while sleeping in the middle of the night and wanted to stick her feet into his quilt to warm up? After much consideration, Chen Luo pushed the 2 beds together. Xiao Wu's injuries weren't too serious. After eating the sausage and resting for a night, she would be fine. As for why Xiao Wu didn't use her second spirit ability, Charm, during the battle with Zhao Wuji, it was mainly because Chen Luo had instructed her not to. If Xiao Wu had used Charm on Zhao Wuji, she would likely have been injured even more severely. After placing Xiao Wu on the bed and tucking her in, Chen Luo sat to the side and activated the system. The sign and task at Shrek Academy had been completed, and Chen Luo wanted to see if there were any new tasks refreshed. Currently, there are no tasks. After obtaining the third spirit ring, tasks will be refreshed. I knew there would be conditions for getting tasks again. Chen Luo felt a bit helpless and closed the task interface. Regarding the system tasks, Chen Luo had gradually figured out some of the patterns. Ordinary sign-in tasks would have certain conditions. For example, the condition for this Shrek Academy sign-in task was to become a student of Shrek Academy. Obtaining ordinary sign-in tasks also required a certain threshold, such as needing a certain number of spirit rings before new sign-in tasks could be refreshed. As for special tasks, there were too many variables, but they all followed the same underlying principle. Special tasks were basically linked to one's life. They were generally very dangerous, and it depended on whether you were willing to gamble with your life. Oh right, there was also the lottery points. Completing one task would grant one lottery point. Including special tasks, Chen Luo had already obtained 5 points, which met the minimum requirement for the system lottery. Should I wait a bit longer, or just draw now? Chen Luo hesitated for a moment and decided to wait. He didn't really need to rely on the lottery to increase his strength right now. Sometimes, increasing strength too quickly through external forces wasn't necessarily a good thing. Even if there were no side effects, there would still be a psychological impact. To continuously improve one's strength, one ultimately couldn't do without self-effort and diligent cultivate. Chen Luo sat on his bed, preparing to cultivate the Death God technique. It was rare that he had exhausted most of his spirit power today, so cultivating should be faster. Just before cultivating, Chen Luo suddenly thought of one thing. Zhao Wuji didn't go too hard on Tang San. I wonder if Tang Hao will still give him an educational lesson. The next morning, when Chen Luo finished cultivating, Xiao Wu happened to wake up. Brother Chen Luo. What's wrong? It feels so good to see you the first thing when I wake up, Xiao Wu said with a smile, blinking her watery big eyes. Chen Luo nodded. Me too. Brother Chen Luo. I'm hungry. Chen Luo said, let's go, we'll go find something to eat right now. This academy is so poor, will there even be a cafeteria? Xiao Wu pouted. Looking at Xiao Wu's cute appearance, Chen Luo couldn't help but reach out and pinch her rosy little cheeks. Even if there's no cafeteria, it's not a big problem. The academy is in the village, we can just buy some food from the villagers. Let's go, Xiao Wu said excitedly. Walking on the road, Chen Luo and Xiao Wu had already given up the idea of finding the academy cafeteria and decided to just buy some food from the villagers first. Just then, they suddenly heard a commotion. Kuihua, haven't I treated you well? Why do you want to break up with me? You do treat me well, but... Driven by curiosity, Xiao Wu instantly forgot about her hunger and pulled Chen Luo along to watch the spectacle. Before long, Chen Luo and Xiao Wu arrived at a small path. Not far away, a 10-year-old fatty was tangled up with a 14 or 15-year-old girl. One last time, otherwise don't think you can get rid of me. The fatty said. Please, let me go. I really can't take it anymore. After saying this, Kuihua tried to leave. Seeing this, the fatty actually tried to forcibly keep Kuihua there. Chen Luo frowned slightly as he watched. Is this fatty the evil fire phoenix Ma Hongjun? It must be him, I can tell just by his lecherous appearance. The scene before him was similar to the situation in the book. Chen Luo immediately confirmed Ma Hongjun's identity. Stop, just as Chen Luo was deep in thought, Xiao Wu suddenly stepped forward. As Sister Xiao Wu, who was used to being the big sister, how could she tolerate such bullying behavior from Ma Hongjun? She immediately moved to stop him. Chen Luo was stunned for a moment. He hadn't expected Xiao Wu to be so decisive. It seemed that an encounter with Ma Hongjun would be unavoidable later. Xiao Wu's appearance immediately caught the attention of Ma Hongjun and Kuihua, especially Ma Hongjun, whose eyes went straight. Wiping the drool from the corner of his mouth, Ma Hongjun smiled and said, Little beauty, do you want to be my girlfriend? Get lost, Xiao Wu shouted angrily, kicking away the hand Ma Hongjun had grabbed Kuihua with, and then pulled Kuihua to her side. Ma Hongjun was instantly enraged. I'm telling you, little girl, do you really have to meddle in other people's business? You're really pushing your luck, aren't you? If you make me life chi, it's best if you become my girlfriend, but even if you don't want it, you'll have to. As Ma Hongjun spoke, he reached out with his lecherous hands to grab Xiao Wu. Xiao Wu became even more furious and was about to teach Ma Hongjun a lesson. Just then, Chen Luo, who had arrived late, acted even faster. He kicked Ma Hongjun flying with a single blow, before Ma Hongjun could even react. Which bastard is it? How dare you ambush me? Ma Hongjun crawled up from the grass 5 or 6 meters away, with a few blades of withered grass on his head. Chen Luo glanced at Ma Hongjun indifferently. Ma Hongjun's arrogant chi flame instantly weakened, and his voice unconsciously lowered. This is between me and Kuihua, why are you meddling in our business? Ma Hongjun still seemed very life chi, but he was no longer as arrogant as before. At this moment, Kuihua spoke up. She was also a bit life chi, but she was not life chi at Ma Hongjun, rather, she was life chi at Chen Luo and Xiao Wu. I don't need you to meddle in my business. You should leave quickly, I can handle my own affairs. Xiao Wu was immediately unhappy when she heard this. We pitied you and chose to help, but I didn't expect you to treat us like this. Forget it, do whatever you want. Chen Luo, let's go, let's stop worrying about them. Chen Luo had known from the beginning that this was a case of meddling in other people's business. If it weren't for the fact that Ma Hongjun had tried to lay a hand on Xiao Wu, he wouldn't even have wanted to get involved. And Chen Luo also hadn't expected Ma Hongjun to back down so quickly. According to the book, shouldn't Ma Hongjun be especially volatile and arrogant? Just then, a familiar voice rang out. Chen Luo, Xiao Wu, why are you here? A tall figure appeared. The person who arrived was none other than Dai Mubai. Fatty is here too. Here, Fatty, this brother Chen Luo is the one I told you about, the monster among monsters who can fight back and forth with Teacher Zhao. Dai Mubai introduced. Ma Hongjun glanced at Chen Luo with some vigilance. You don't need to tell me, I've already guessed as much. This fatty is the evil fire phoenix Ma Hongjun, and he is also a student of our Shrek Academy. Dai Mubai looked at Chen Luo and Xiao Wu, then looked at Ma Hongjun and Kuihua, and couldn't help laughing. I think I already know what happened just now. Fatty, are you going to tell me about your little mess, or should I? Ma Hongjun kept his mouth shut, his fat face flushed red, and Dai Mubai subsequently told the story of Ma Hongjun's affairs. First was the mutated spirit, then the evil fire problem. These situations were almost identical to what was in Chen Luo's memory. To put it bluntly, Fatty's spirit is just a mutated grass chicken spirit, slightly stronger than an ordinary grass chicken, but it certainly causes a lot of trouble. Dai Mubai laughed. Ma Hongjun was immediately unconvinced and roared, "You're the one with the grass chicken spirit. Your whole family has a grass chicken spirit. Mine is a phoenix, understand?" Daimubai gave Ma Hongjun a look, and Ma Hongjun's voice immediately lowered again. "I can't be bothered to talk to you anymore, it's a waste of time. I'm going to go build a relationship with my Kuihua." Where is my Kuihua? Ma Hongjun looked around, but couldn't find any sign of Kuihua. Daimubai laughed. "Kuihua left a long time ago. You dead fatty, stop pestering her. Where are your principals?" "My principals have always been there. It's not like everyone is like you, boss Dai, having to rush to several dates a day." Ma Hongjun Dao, "I can barely accept being called fatty, but don't call me dead fatty. That word, dead, sounds so unpleasant. Dead fatty. Quote. Daimubai glared at Ma Hongjun. "I advise you, dead fatty, don't speak nonsense. You can eat whatever you want, but don't say whatever you want. Be careful, or your grass chicken head won't be safe." Ma Hongjun immediately saw through Daimubai's intentions. Did some pretty girls come to the Shrek Academy again? Wasn't getting a few girls in the past always your bragging capital? Why are you pretending to be pure now? There must be something fishy. Daimubai coughed dryly twice. But Ma Hongjun, as if he was on a roll, completely ignored Daimubai's warning and continued, "It must be that some pretty girls have arrived, and it's not this fierce little girl. This Chen Luo, you definitely can't beat him." "Dead fatty, who are you calling fierce?" Xiao Wu said, hands on her hips, angrily. Ma Hongjun wanted to explode, but his gaze unconsciously shifted toward Chen Luo, and in the end, he chose to back down. "I was wrong, you aren't a fierce little girl, you are a beautiful little Andy. Forget it, this place isn't for me. It's too hard for me. I'm slipping away first. See you at the cafeteria, boss Dai." After Ma Hongjun finished speaking, he ran off in a flash. "That dead fatty is just like that. Don't take his words to heart. You guys haven't had breakfast yet, right? Come with me, everyone else should have arrived." Daimubai smiled. After going to the cafeteria and having a simple breakfast, almost all the students in the Shrek Academy had arrived, except for Oscar. Daimubai briefly introduced everyone, but when he got to Zhu Zuqing walked away coldly, leaving Daimubai very embarrassed. Ma Hongjun, who loved creating trouble, even teased Daimubai a few times. If it weren't for the fact that there were many people present, Daimubai would probably have beaten that guy Ma Hongjun up. Subsequently, Daimubai briefly explained the situation at Shrek Academy. These things were about the same as what was in Chen Luo's memory, the only difference being that he used to read about it, but now he was experiencing it personally. Not long after, the bell rang. Daimubai led everyone to the playground to assemble. "Brother, you should only be around level 30, right? How did you fight back and forth with Teacher Zhao?" On the way to the playground, Ma Hongjun finally asked the question he had been wanting to ask. Chen Luo smiled politely. "Boss Dai is exaggerating." "I knew it." Ma Hongjun let out a long sigh of relief, then smiled and said, "Even if it's exaggerated, you definitely have great strength. If I hadn't recognized you just now, I'm afraid I would have been beaten up by you." "Hey, I'm a very easygoing person." Chen Luo smiled slightly. Arriving at the playground, the Shrek 7 devils were all present. If Chen Luo were included, they would be the Shrek 8 devils. Oscar had shaved his beard. Chen Luo and Xiao Wu almost didn't recognize him. It had to be said that after this brother Oscar tidied himself up a bit, he was like a different person, handsome as hell, although still a little worse than Chen Luo. When everyone had arrived, the Dean of Shrek Academy made his appearance, the four-eyed owl Flender. Chapter 28, The Different Ning Rong Rong. This is the headmaster of our academy, the founder of Shrek Academy, the four-eyed owl Flender. A level 78 spirit saint, even more powerful than Teacher Zhao. As soon as Flender appeared, Oscar immediately introduced him to Chen Luo and Xiao Wu. The headmaster possesses an extremely rare flying type beast spirit, and Fatty is the headmaster's direct disciple. Flender still had that very distinctive appearance, a hook nose that always gave people a sly feeling, wearing black-rimmed glasses and dressed in a long gray robe. After arriving at the playground, Flender's gaze swept over everyone, finally resting on Chen Luo for a moment before withdrawing it. He spoke, "A warm welcome to the 5 new little freaks. Later, you should go to Teacher Li, who is in charge of finances, to pay your tuition fees, 100 gold coins each. Mubai, you take them there. By the way, tell the juniors about the academy's rules, show them around the academy, and then everyone can go back to rest. The first lesson after enrollment begins tonight." "Yes, headmaster," Daimubai said respectfully. Then, Daimubai turned back and waved to Chen Luo and the others, "Follow me." Zhu Zuqing, still not giving any face, simply walked away. Just as Oscar let out a silent sigh of relief and prepared to follow the main group, Flender's hoarse voice sounded again. "Oscar, Ning Rong Rong, you two stay behind." Oscar clutched his forehead, his face full of misery, but he still stopped and tried his best to squeeze out a smile. "Headmaster, what are your orders?" "You know perfectly well why." Flender said expressionlessly, "You explained to Ning Rong Rong the knowledge about auxiliary spirit masters in our academy, then run 20 laps around the village at a fast pace. You may use your spirit abilities to help each other. You must finish and return before noon, otherwise, don't bother eating lunch." "Yes." Oscar and Ning Rong Rong immediately agreed. Looking at Flender's expression, they knew they had to agree regardless. Oscar took Ning Rong Rong to the side, briefly explained the special physical training arranged for auxiliary spirit masters in the academy, and then began the long run with Ning Rong Rong. "Headmaster." Just as Flender was about to leave, a voice suddenly called out to him. Looking back, it was Tang San. Flender immediately saw the 24 moonlit bridges at Tang San's waist. After a pause, before Tang San could speak, he said, "Come with me." Everything was similar to what was in Chen Luo's memory, the only change was his own arrival. In the morning, he followed Daimubai around the academy to get familiar with the situation. After eating lunch, Chen Luo returned to the dormitory with Xiao Wu. "Brother Chen Luo, I still think this academy is too shady." Xiao Wu sat cross-legged on the bed, speaking to Chen Luo with a serious expression. What's wrong? This lousy academy actually wants 100 gold coins from each of us for tuition. And, we also paid 10 gold coins as an application fee." Chen Luo couldn't help but laugh. This academy only looks run down on the surface. Its teaching resources are incomparable to ordinary academies. First, there's Teacher Zhao, a spirit saint, and then the headmaster, who is also a spirit saint. I suspect the teacher in charge of registration isn't simple either, so it doesn't matter if the tuition is a bit expensive. HMPH, I don't care. Anyway, I still think this academy is shady. Xiao Wu pouted. Chen Luo laughed. Fine, whatever Sister Xiao Wu says goes. This academy is truly shady. PFF. Xiao Wu couldn't help but smile, then gradually retracted her smile. Brother Chen Luo, let's cultivate. I feel like the students here are all quite powerful, so we need to work hard too. Sure, it's rare for our Sister Xiao Wu to take the initiative to ask to cultivate. The afternoon was spent in cultivation. Evening. Led by Daimubai, everyone gathered at the playground, where Headmaster Flender was already standing. Oscar and Ning Rongrong's complexions didn't look very good, both appeared extremely weak, especially Ning Rongrong, who looked as if she had collapsed, seeming like she might fall to the ground at any moment. Oscar, you take Ning Rongrong to the dormitory to rest, the others follow me. Flender's gaze landed on Oscar and Ning Rongrong, the corners of his mouth curling into a satisfied arc. Oscar nodded, but Ning Rongrong suddenly spoke up. I'm fine, take me with you. Flender looked serious. Your lessons for today are completed. You did very well, and I am very pleased. Your task for the evening is to just get some good rest. If you're hungry, go to the cafeteria and have them prepare something for you to eat. I can do it. Ning Rongrong said again, her slightly pale, pretty face filled with a strong and stubborn expression. Even if I am an auxiliary spirit master, there is no need to treat me differently. I, Ning Rongrong, am no worse than anyone else. Hey. Flender laughed. Adapt for today, you start tomorrow. Ning Rongrong finally gave up and left towards the dormitory, supported by Oscar. Seeing the situation before him, Chen Luo couldn't help but be a bit surprised. If it followed the plot in the book, Ning Rongrong hadn't completed the physical training and had also displayed her witch-like nature without reservation. But the Ning Rongrong before him was a different story. She must have completed the physical training, and it was very likely she didn't finish before noon. Being so strong-willed, it was highly likely she hadn't eaten anything until now. There are some discrepancies. The Ning Rongrong here doesn't have princess syndrome. She is a genuine little princess, an extremely strong-willed little princess. Chen Luo looked at Ning Rongrong's back and couldn't help but sigh with emotion. As the little princess of the 7 treasure glazed tile school, Ning Rongrong didn't live in luxury and ease. Seemingly very fragile on the surface, she perhaps had an incredibly firm and strong heart, wanting to uphold the future of the 7 treasure glazed tile school. Stop looking, do you want to go back to the dormitory too? Flender's voice suddenly sounded. I originally thought she couldn't do it, but she did. She is even more outstanding than I imagined. I hope you all are too. Flender waved his hand. Let's go, first to the place where the lesson is held. After speaking, Flender set off, his speed extremely fast. Seeing this, Chen Luo and the others immediately followed. Everything around them quickly receded. In just a short while, in terms of speed, the gap between Chen Luo and the others had become clear. Closely following behind Flender was not the evil eyes white tiger Daimubai, who had the deepest spirit power, but Chen Luo. Behind Chen Luo, in order, were Daimubai with the strongest spirit power, the speed specialized Zhu Zuqing, the ghost shadow perplexing track Tang San, and Xiao Wu with Ma Hongjun at the back. Chen Luo's speed was truly a bit exaggerated, but Daimubai and the others were not surprised, because they had already witnessed it and had long been mentally prepared. Flender was actually the most surprised one. During this, he even deliberately increased his speed, seemingly wanting to test Chen Luo's limit, but in the end, he couldn't test it out. After all, he still had to consider whether the other students could keep up. Silent all the way, with Flender leading, he finally brought Chen Luo and his group to Soto City. Everyone drank a cup of cheap, foul-tasting tea, and then set off for the Soto Grand Spirit Arena, not far from the tea shop. Chapter 29. Do you also want to dance? The Soto Grand Spirit Arena was even more magnificent than Chen Luo had imagined. When he had accompanied Xiao Wu shopping earlier, he hadn't seen the Soto Grand Spirit Arena, and this was his first time seeing it. The Soto Grand Spirit Arena was oval-shaped and stood about 120 meters tall. In terms of appearance, it gave people a very imposing feeling and could be considered a landmark building in this area. Walking into the Soto Grand Spirit Arena, one was met with an extremely luxurious interior design style. Daimubai's voice rang out at this moment, providing a simple introduction for everyone. Inside the Soto Grand Spirit Arena, there's one main spirit arena and 24 branch spirit arenas. It can accommodate 60,000 spectators at once and also has over 100 VIP boxes. This place is not only a place to demonstrate the strength of a spirit master, but also a place for various forces to display their power. As they walk inside, Daimubai continued his introduction, and before long, Chen Luo and the others entered the registration area. After paying 10 gold coins to complete the registration, they were arranged to rest in a spacious room, waiting for the matches to begin. During this time, Xiao Wu suggested forming a duo with Chen Luo so they could participate in more matches and earn coins faster to level up. Chen Luo, of course, agreed. Just a moment ago, Dean Flender had said that the basic requirement for graduating from Shrek Academy was to obtain a silver spirit badge. Badge ranks: iron, copper, silver, gold, purple gold, sapphire, ruby, diamond. From iron to copper requires 100 points. Winning one match earns 1 point, losing one match deducts 1 point. A 5-match winning streak followed by another win adds 10 points, and a 10-match winning streak followed by another win adds 100 points. Subsequent badge rank upgrades require points multiplied by 10. For example, copper to silver requires 1,000 points, where winning a match earns 10 points and losing one deducts 10 points. The winning streak rules for bonus points follow the same logic. This doubling of points might seem meaningless on the surface, but it is actually to prevent malicious point farming. If someone were to intentionally lose repeatedly, or alternate between losing and winning before going on a crazy winning streak, the point increase would be terrifying. For instance, if someone intentionally kept their points at 45 and then went on an 11-match winning streak, they would gain 155 points. If all badge upgrades required 100 points, they could use this mechanism to skip 2 levels directly. But with the points doubling, such a situation would not occur. There are 3 forms of competition: 1-on-1, 2-on-2, and group battles. Each person can only participate in 1 match per day for each form, which is why Xiao Wu wanted to team up with Chen Luo. Please name your duo. After Chen Luo and Xiao Wu paid the 10 gold coins, the staff member immediately helped them complete the registration, leaving only the name. What should we call it? How about the Luo Wu duo? Xiao Wu asked. Chen Luo shook his head slightly. Luo Wu sounds like outdated. Luo Wu. It doesn't sound very good. Let's call it the dance duo, shall we? I'll listen to you. Xiao Wu nodded. Do you also want to dance? All right, the dance duo has been registered. Perhaps the staff member Chen Luo and Xiao Wu encountered was reliable and didn't get the name wrong. It would have been hilarious if Dance Chi Wu had become Rise 5 Chi Wu. As soon as the dance duo was arranged, Daimubai's voice suddenly rang out. Xiao Wu, your one-on-one spirit fight is about to start. The person battling Xiao Wu was a burly man over 2 meters tall with a muscular build. As soon as the two stepped onto the stage, a burly man and a petite girl immediately formed a stark contrast. There was constant discussion off stage, and even Ma Hongjun had some doubts about Xiao Wu's strength. The result was obvious. Xiao Wu ended the fight in less than 10 seconds. With her waist bow combined with her soft technique, that honest-looking spirit master named Xingbao was thrown directly off the stage. If someone's strength far exceeded Xiao Wu's, they could suppress her firmly, but if the difference in strength wasn't significant, Xiao Wu could easily trounce most strength-type spirit masters. The second match was an internal fight. Tang San versus Zhu Zuqing. Before going on stage, Dai Mubai had pulled Tang San aside and said a lot of nice things, asking Tang San to go easy. Dai Mubai had also witnessed Tang San's strength. And the control system naturally restrained the agility attack system. The final result had no suspense, Tang San won. It wasn't until the fifth match that it was Chen Luo's turn. Chen Luo's opponent was a girl in her early 20s with shoulder-length hair. She was a 5 out of 10 in looks, but an 8 out of 10 in figure. She wore a black leather outfit that displayed her proud figure vividly, rivaling even Zhu Zuqing's, but her appearance and temperament were far inferior to Zhu Zuqing's. Wu Jingbai, Spirit, Flying Wheel, Spirit Power rank 28. Little brother, can you let Big Sister win this match? I'm about to advance to the silver badge. Afterwards, Big Sister can properly compensate you. As soon as she got on stage, Wu Jingbai winked at Chen Luo, speaking extremely explicit words. I didn't expect you to be so handsome, little brother. Screw the silver badge, how about Big Sister lets you in? How about you properly compensate Big Sister afterwards? Wu Jingbai immediately changed her tune and smiled after seeing Chen Luo's appearance. Chen Luo ignored Wu Jingbai, but Xiao Wu, watching from off stage, was grinding her teeth, wishing she could rush onto the stage and slap that shameless woman twice. Chen Luo, end the fight quickly for me, otherwise you'll have hell to pay later. Xiao Wu finally couldn't help but shout at the stage. A wry smile appeared on the corner of Chen Luo's mouth, and he immediately nodded slightly. Accompanied by the host's shout, the battle began. Wu Jingbai spoke very nicely, but in reality, she craved victory more than anyone. She immediately activated her spirit, and one white and one yellow spirit ring rose from beneath her feet. A huge circular wheel appeared in her hands, its edges incomparably sharp. Without waiting for Chen Luo to release his spirit, Wu Jingbai immediately struck first. Wu Jingbai's second spirit ring bloomed with yellow light, and she instantly threw the flying wheel in her hand forcefully toward Chen Luo. The wheel spun at high speed, its velocity astonishingly fast, reaching Chen Luo in the blink of an eye. If it were an ordinary person, they wouldn't have time to react and would simply be hit by the wheel, suffering either death or serious injury. But Chen Luo was not an ordinary person, he didn't even need to activate his spirit to deal with Wu Jingbai. Under everyone's gaze, the flying wheel passed through Chen Luo's body, but they quickly realized something was wrong. That was just an afterimage. Bang! Chen Luo's figure reappeared. At the same time, his left leg was raised high and brought down with force, kicking Wu Jingbai off the stage with one blow. The battle ended. There was dead silence. The first to react were naturally the others from Shrek Academy. Xiao Wu and Tang San were the calmest, they were already used to such maneuvers from Chen Luo. Next was Dai Mubai, who had fought Chen Luo before and knew of Chen Luo's terror. The others had seen Chen Luo fight Zhao Wuji one-on-one, but they hadn't expected Chen Luo to be so formidable even without activating his spirit. The host took a while to react, shouting with a trembling voice, Battle Spirit Master Chen Luo wins. Record, 1 win, 0 losses. Wu Jingbai's record, 52 wins, 11 losses. Master Chen Luo, please go to register your points after leaving the stage. Wow. The entire arena erupted in surprise, followed by cheers and thunderous applause. Although the fight ended quickly, it brought them such a great shock that not a single person felt their ticket was a waste of money. After tonight, they would have plenty to talk about. Chen Luo silently left the stage. Apart from that 1 second of being cool, he was very low-key throughout the whole process. Just after getting off the stage, before he could feel the enthusiastic cheers of his teammates, Chen Luo was pulled aside by Xiao Wu. Well done. Chen Luo smiled slightly, everyone is watching. Xiao Wu seemed unconcerned, her little face slightly flushed, and she said very domineeringly, let them watch. I want everyone to know that you are mine. Chen Luo was stunned for a moment, then smiled and nodded. Ahem. Dai Mubai coughed twice, that's enough, you two. Get ready, the duo battle is coming up soon. Chapter 30, The Gap. Although it was said that the 2-on-2 spirit fight for Chen Luo and Xiao Wu was about to begin, they actually had to wait a while longer. Generally speaking, the arrangements at the spirit fight arena were quite reasonable, as they provided participants with a certain amount of time to recover their spirit power. In Xiao Wu's one-on-one spirit fight, she had only used one first spirit ability, so her spirit power had long been replenished. As for Chen Luo, he hadn't even activated his spirit, let alone needing to recover spirit power. By the time it was Chen Luo and Xiao Wu's turn to take the stage, both of them were in peak condition. The fifth match of the 2-on-2, the Iron Blood team versus the Dancing team. Accompanied by the host's loud announcement, the entire arena erupted in cheers. Compared to the 1-on-1 spirit fight side, the 2-on-2 side was much livelier. Moreover, the 2-on-2 spirit fight platform was more than twice the size of the 1-on-1 platform. After all, the number of spirit masters had doubled, which allowed both sides more room to showcase their skills. Opposite Chen Luo and Xiao Wu, their opponents had already arrived on the spirit fight platform. They appeared to be twins, looking extremely similar. At a glance, it was as if they had been carved from the same mold. Both were around 18 or 19 years old, tall and large, at least over 1.8 meters, with leopard heads and round eyes. They were both very strong. Why are there two kids? Upon seeing Chen Luo and Xiao Wu's appearance, the Iron Blood brothers frowned in unison, and Tai Hu on the right couldn't help but mutter. Tai Long on the left quickly regained his composure. Those who can stand here are hardly ordinary children. Tai Hu, be serious. Yes, big brother, Tai Hu nodded. The host was also somewhat surprised by Chen Luo and Xiao Wu's age, but his professional standards were extremely high. He only paused for a moment, and no one noticed. The match begins. The two brothers, Tai Long and Tai Hu, immediately took a step forward and let out a low roar. Their movements were perfectly synchronized as gray light bloomed, and two identical forged hammers appeared in their hands. At the same time, two yellow century-level spirit rings slowly rose from beneath each of the brothers' feet. Under the illumination of the spirit ring's light, the fine patterns on the forged hammers in their hands could be vaguely seen. Tai Long. Tai Hu. After the extremely simple self-introduction, both brothers wore serious expressions and did not show the slightest carelessness because of Chen Luo and Xiao Wu's young age. You two be careful. After this polite expression of concern, the two brothers immediately charged toward Chen Luo and Xiao Wu. Xiao Wu had already activated her spirit at this moment, but Chen Luo showed no movement at all. This wasn't Chen Luo acting cool, although there was a suspicion of him doing so. The reason he didn't activate his spirit was mainly because Chen Luo didn't want to attract too much attention too early or expose his strength, and he also had absolute confidence in dealing with the two people in front of him. The Spirit Death God and the Death God technique brought a tremendous improvement to Chen Luo's body, almost equivalent to him possessing a body spirit, even fiercer than a body spirit. As long as he didn't encounter an existence whose strength far exceeded his own, he could fight without activating his spirit. One each, Xiao Wu asked. Okay, Chen Luo nodded. Facing the aggressive approach of the Iron Blood brothers, Xiao Wu and Chen Luo both appeared very calm, showing no signs of timidity, and they acted as if they were simply assigning a very easy task, light and breezy. Chen Luo and Xiao Wu also began to move, charging straight toward the Iron Blood brothers with very clear targets, Chen Luo against Tai Long and Xiao Wu against Tai Hu. The first collision between the two sides erupted quickly, right in the middle of the spirit fight platform. Tai Long swung his large hammer at Chen Luo, but Chen Luo's speed was simply too fast. He dodged with extreme ease, closed the distance to Tai Long in an instant, and threw a punch without any fancy tricks. Bang! Chen Luo's fist landed on Tai Long's shoulder, and the terrifying force directly flipped Tai Long over. On the other side, Tai Hu was also swinging his large hammer at Xiao Wu, but Xiao Wu easily dodged it with a backflip. Following that, Xiao Wu's second spirit ring bloomed with light, and the charm ability was activated. A layer of pink appeared in Xiao Wu's eyes. Upon seeing this, Tai Hu's body suddenly paused, and he unexpectedly lost control. Xiao Wu immediately stepped forward, leapt up, and planted her feet on Tai Hu's shoulders, instantly activating her soft technique. Tai Hu was lifted up entirely and then smashed fiercely onto the spirit fight platform. Whether it was Tai Long or Tai Hu, they were defeated in an instant. One was knocked flying, grimacing in pain, while the other was slammed down so hard he was dizzy, the intense pain causing his expression to contort. The audience was stunned, and the host was also dumbfounded. None of them had expected the fight that had just begun to reach its end so quickly. Just when Chen Luo and Xiao Wu thought the battle was over, the Iron Blood brothers actually climbed back up. They were much more resilient than imagined. They can still get up after that. If I'd known, I would have used waist bow as well. Xiao Wu frowned slightly. Chen Luo said, although they are both tool spirit masters, their bodies are much more robust than the average spirit master, so it's normal for them to be a bit more resilient. It doesn't matter, let's go again. I want to see how long they can hold out, Xiao Wu said. Xiao Wu had absolute confidence when battling power-type spirit masters whose strength was not much different from her own. Chen Luo smiled slightly and said, no need, they are already at the end of their rope. Although the two brothers, Tai Long and Tai Hu, had stood up, their bodies were trembling slightly, appearing very difficult. Big brother, they are simply too strong, Tai Hu said with a trembling voice. Let's make one last stand, Tai Long sighed. Tai Hu nodded vigorously. The two brothers, Tai Long and Tai Hu, gripped the large hammers in their hands tightly and then quickly spun around once. At the same time, their second spirit rings instantly bloomed with light, and the large hammers left their hands, flying toward Chen Luo and Xiao Wu at an extremely fast speed. Tai Long and Tai Hu's second spirit ability, all in. They can actually still use their second spirit ability. Was that look from just now faked? Chen Luo frowned slightly, pulled Xiao Wu into his embrace, and then instantly burst with speed, attempting to dodge Tai Long and Tai Hu's attack. But it was very bad, all in had a tracking effect, and Chen Luo couldn't shake it off. Taking it head-on is definitely not going to work. Chen Luo did not hesitate any longer and immediately activated his spirit. A huge scythe appeared in Chen Luo's hands. At the same time, two purple spirit rings rose from beneath Chen Luo's feet, and Chen Luo's aura instantly reached its peak. Clang! The two power-filled large hammers stopped instantly when they landed on the Reaper's scythe. Chen Luo was merely forced back a few steps and did not suffer any injuries, his left hand remained tightly holding Xiao Wu. As the two large hammers fell to the ground, Chen Luo instantly retracted his spirit. He didn't care in the slightest about the surprised and strange gazes of others, immediately turning his head to look at Xiao Wu in his arms and asking with concern, are you okay? Two blushes had already risen on Xiao Wu's pretty face, and she shook her head slightly. Puff, puff. On the other side, the two brothers, Tai Long and Tai Hu, spat out a mouthful of blood at the same time. Spirits and spirit masters are closely linked. When their all-in was blocked by Chen Luo, they immediately suffered a backlash. Without waiting for the host to announce it, the two brothers, Tai Long and Tai Hu, took the initiative to shout, we lose. Chapter 31, Departure, Stardew Great Forest. Many people didn't clearly see what just happened, and after realizing it, they all wore looks of disbelief. Both spirit rings are purple spirit rings, how is that possible? I also think it's impossible, but I really saw it just now. It must have been an illusion. Most of the audience, including the host, used this to comfort themselves. It must have been an illusion. How could a spirit grandmaster possibly possess two purple thousand-year spirit rings? It was already incredible that he could reach the spirit grandmaster level at his age. Regardless, the battle ended very quickly, it was a completely one-sided crush. Although it was satisfying to watch, it left one wanting more. Chen Luo and Xiao Wu had already left the stage. Tai Long and Tai Hu, the two brothers, lay on the spirit fighting stage for quite a while before helping each other off. Even after leaving the spirit fighting stage and walking in the spirit master passage, the faces of the two brothers, Tai Long and Tai Hu, still carried a trace of terror. He actually possesses 2,000-year spirit rings. ... Spirit master passage. It was my carelessness, I should have ended the battle completely at the first moment, I almost let you get hurt. As soon as they stepped off the spirit fighting stage, Chen Luo said immediately. Xiao Wu shook her head and smiled slightly, I'm fine. Chen Luo quickly reviewed the battle in his mind. He really didn't expect that the brothers Tai Long and Tai Hu would actually use tactics. When Chen Luo knocked Tai Long down with a punch, he suspected that Tai Long and his brother were faking it, but he didn't expect Tai Long and Tai Hu to act so realistically. By the time Tai Long and Tai Hu used their second spirit ability, it was too late for him to stop them. I must not make such low-level mistakes in the future, Chen Luo thought to himself. Returning to the lounge. Dai Mubai and the others immediately gathered around to offer their congratulations. Chen Luo, when you and Xiao Wu were having a one-on-one spirit fight, those two brothers from the Iron-Blooded combo were both in the audience, Dai Mubai said. Ma Hongjun immediately said, I guess they saw how fierce you guys were, so they pulled this move, pretending to be defeated by you and then unexpectedly using their second spirit ability. Chen Luo nodded slightly, not surprised, everything was within his expectations. How did your matches go? Chen Luo asked. Dai Mubai smiled, only Fatty hasn't fought yet, but it'll be soon. Ma Hongjun said helplessly, it's really not that I want to hold everyone back, it's just that you all fight too fast. I'll try to end the battle quickly later too. Chen Luo, don't rush, those who can stand up there are not simple existences. Haha, don't worry, as long as my opponent isn't you, I can take down anyone else. Ma Hongjun waved his fist and said confidently. Not long after, Ma Hongjun's match also ended, and he won easily. Just as everyone was preparing to leave, they realized that the dean, Flender, was missing. The dean must have gone to take care of something. He gave instructions that we should return directly after the spirit fight ends, Dai Mubai said. Ma Hongjun suddenly spoke up at this moment with an excited smile. You guys go back first. When the dean left, he told me to go to his shop after the spirit fight. Boss Dai, do you want to go together? Dai Mubai seemed to have anticipated that Ma Hongjun would say this. If looks could kill, Ma Hongjun would have died 10,000 times over. Ma Hongjun immediately shut his mouth, glanced at Zhu Zuqing, and slipped away instantly. Zhu Zuqing always had an icy expression, and her attitude toward Dai Mubai was also extremely cold. Don't listen to that dead fatty's nonsense. I am not a dead fatty. Ma Hongjun's voice suddenly came from around the corner. Dai Mubai glared in that direction, but when he looked back at Zhu Zuqing, his gaze instantly softened, like a child who had done something wrong. Zhu Zuqing remained cold. What does that have to do with me? After saying that, she walked away directly. Dai Mubai gritted his teeth in hatred, his fists clenched so tightly they made cracking sounds. Chen Luo watched these scenes unfold. On the surface, he was calm, but inside, he couldn't help but want to laugh. Boss Dai, you still have a long way to go. Chen Luo didn't want to interfere too much in other people's relationships, nor did he have the energy for it. All his thoughts were on Xiao Wu. After returning to the academy, there were no major ripples. If following the plot in the book, there should have been a segment where the little witch Ning Rongrong does something stupid. But the Ning Rongrong here is not a little witch. Born noble like a princess, not only does she not have princess syndrome, but she is also very ambitious and strong-willed. Brother Chen Luo, weren't you not planning to use your spirit today? As soon as they returned to the dormitory, Xiao Wu immediately asked, blinking her big, watery eyes. Chen Luo said, when you were in danger, I just want to protect you. At that time, nothing else matters. If there hadn't been a time constraint, I would have even used Undying. You are the best. Xiao Wu beamed with a smile. Then she asked again, Undying, is this the spirit ability you used when you fought Teacher Zhao last time? Chen Luo had no reservations with Xiao Wu and nodded, yes. Xiao Wu didn't continue asking and smiled slightly, Brother Chen Luo, let's cultivate. Chen Luo was a bit surprised, when did you become so proactive? I have always been this proactive, okay, Xiao Wu pouted. Chen Luo couldn't help but laugh, it only started yesterday. Don't expose me. The night passed without incident. The next morning. As soon as Chen Luo and the others finished breakfast, the academy's bell rang. Everyone gathered on the playground, but no teachers were to be seen. After waiting for nearly a quarter of an hour, the dean, Flender, finally walked over slowly. Scanning the crowd, Flender's gaze landed on Oscar. Not bad, you've reached level 30, Flender said with satisfaction. Everyone's eyes instantly gathered on Oscar. Oscar suddenly became a bit embarrassed. Just luck, just luck. Flender said, luck is also a part of strength. I hope everyone here can have that kind of luck. Everyone withdrew their gaze and immediately stood at attention. Flender continued, it seems tomorrow's lesson is settled. Tomorrow morning, everyone come here together, and under the leadership of teacher Zhao Wuji, we will head to the Stardow Great Forest to help Oscar obtain his third spirit ring. This is a very good training opportunity, you must grasp it well. So, let's start today's lesson now, eating sausage. Making Oscar conjure up sausages, and then having everyone eat them, the main purpose was adaptive training. Although Oscar's incantations were a bit lewd, the taste of his sausages was actually quite good. At first, everyone was a bit resistant, but after Chen Luo took the lead, the others all started eating the sausages. The lesson went even more smoothly than Flender had imagined and ended very early. They are all a group of strong-willed little freaks. Flender sighed in his heart, then left. As he left, he didn't forget to remind Chen Luo and the others one more time. Don't forget tomorrow's lesson. The next morning, everyone gathered and headed to the Stardow Great Forest. Chapter 32, The Small Town. The Stardow Great Forest is one of the three most famous habitats for spirit beasts on our Douluo Continent, and its area is almost equal to the land area of the Balik Kingdom. On the way to the Stardow Great Forest, Teacher Zhao introduced the Stardow Great Forest to Chen Luo and the others with great patience. His expression was very serious, but his appearance made people unable to help but laugh after seeing it. What happened to Teacher Zhao yesterday? Why is he swollen like a pig's head today? Ma Hongjun muttered in a low voice. Oscar said, what do you mean yesterday? He's looked like this since the day before yesterday. Everyone, please don't mention this again. I had a loose tongue and asked Teacher Zhao about it the day before yesterday, and I was almost beaten to death by him. Tang San pondered, it is hard to imagine what kind of terrifying opponent Teacher Zhao encountered to end up like this. He is a spirit saint who specializes in defense. Even a spirit saint powerhouse of the agility attack system wouldn't be able to cause such serious injuries to him, right? Upon hearing this, Chen Luo couldn't help but think to himself, don't overthink it, it was just your dad who beat him up. In truth, Teacher Zhao's exam that day wasn't particularly excessive, and the final one-on-one duel was conducted by Chen Luo. Tang San merely vomited a mouthful of blood due to the impact of his blue silver grass exploding. His injuries were not serious. Chen Luo had thought Teacher Zhao wouldn't have to take a beating, but it seemed he couldn't escape this ordeal after all. One could only say that the clear sky Douluo was too protective of his cub. Teacher Zhao clearly heard the discussion behind him. He subconsciously touched his swollen face with his large hand, and the corners of his mouth twitched slightly in pain. Looking back at what happened 2 days ago, not only was he not angry, but the corners of his mouth even curled up slightly. How could he possibly harbor any resentment? That was a rare opportunity for him. Mubai, lead the team well. Feeling that there had been enough discussion behind him, Teacher Zhao said in a deep voice. Yes, Teacher Zhao. Dai Mubai immediately nodded in agreement and then issued a reminder. There are numerous spirit beasts inside the Stardow Great Forest, and spirit beasts have never had any good feelings toward us humans. We must be careful and cautious, the danger there far exceeds our imagination. Maintain the formation and be prepared to fight at any time. Before setting off, the formation of the Shrek group had already been arranged. Teacher Zhao was at the very front. Of course, this strongest existence was only responsible for clearing the path. Unless it reached an extremely dangerous situation, Teacher Zhao would not make a move. Chen Luo and Tang San followed closely behind Teacher Zhao. Behind them were Ning Rongrong and Oscar, with Ma Hongjun and Xiao Wu on the left and right, and Dai Mubai and Zhu Zuqing at the tail of the team. 6 protecting 2, the 2 support types were the core and received key protection. The team had originally become a bit disconnected, but after Dai Mubai's reminder, everyone immediately maintained the formation and entered a state of high alert. Afterward, it was constant travel. If not for the replenishment from Oscar's sausages, the group would likely have been exhausted long ago. Ning Rongrong would also provide speed support for everyone from time to time, not stingy with her spirit power at all. Only one person was an exception, and that was Chen Luo. From beginning to end, Chen Luo had never eaten Oscar's sausages. It wasn't out of disdain or anything, it was just that he really didn't need them. His spirit power was exaggeratedly abundant, and the death god technique was constantly executing, so what he consumed was not as much as what he replenished. In daily life, even if Chen Luo was not in a state of cultivation, the death god technique would execute automatically, although the speed of increasing spirit power was relatively slow. As soon as Chen Luo had any consumption, the death god technique would instantly execute fully, frantically replenishing Chen Luo. As for Chen Luo not needing the sausages, Tang San and the others didn't have much of an opinion on it. When Ning Rongrong provided support for everyone, she also selectively avoided Chen Luo. She could tell that Chen Luo was already deliberately slowing down his speed. Any strange behavior by anyone would immediately attract everyone's attention, but if it was Chen Luo, it wouldn't. Everyone seemed to have developed a certain immunity to Chen Luo, so many absurd things had happened to Chen Luo, so what was this little matter? We probably won't be able to reach the Stardew Great Forest today. There's a small town ahead, let's go there to rest for the night and replenish our supplies while we're at it. At dusk, Teacher Zhao issued the order to rest. After a day of traveling, the Shrek group had traveled a full 400 kilometers, and they were less than 100 kilometers away from the Stardew Great Forest. The scale of the small town was about 3 times that of the village where Shrek Academy was located. It was very lively, it was just that it lacked city walls, otherwise, it would be like a small city. On the streets, there were all kinds of shops, most of which were related to spirit masters. Finding a hotel at random, the Shrek group checked in. Rest for the night and set off tomorrow morning. All expenses here are to be borne by yourselves. Teacher Zhao gave a simple instruction, booked a single room for himself, and went straight upstairs. Chen Luo and the others discussed going out for dinner. Everyone had been eating sausages along the way, to the point where they were almost vomiting. As soon as they entered the town, Ma Hongjun had already started shouting. Waiter, time to order. Finding a restaurant, after Boss Dai offered to treat everyone to a meal to welcome the newcomers, Chen Luo and the others, Ma Hongjun became instantly excited. Calling over the waiter, he ordered a dozen dishes with lightning speed. Ma Hongjun's excited chubby face was trembling. Boss Dai, I won't be polite with you. Today I must really rip you off for a meal. Dai Mubai appeared very generous. It's fine, as long as you want to eat, just order whatever. I still have the money for a meal. Boss Dai is still the rich one, I'm almost poor to death. Ma Hongjun laughed. Dai Mubai curled his lips. Where did your money go? You know it yourself. Hee, if I were as handsome as Boss Dai, I wouldn't need to spend so much money, and might even be able to earn some back. Ma Hongjun laughed lewdly. Dai Mubai immediately glared at Ma Hongjun, and only then did Ma Hongjun shut his mouth. 8 people at one table. Dai Mubai and Ma Hongjun chatted nonsense for a few sentences, while Chen Luo and Xiao Wu were whispering to each other, and Oscar and Ning Rongrong were closing their eyes and focusing. During the journey, Oscar and Ning Rongrong made great contributions. Even if their spirit power had been sufficiently replenished, the mental exhaustion still required rest. Zhu Zuqing remained in her cold and aloof state, not speaking to anyone, sitting by herself. Tang San was looking at the night scenery in the distance, not knowing what he was thinking about. Chen Luo, I just saw a lot of delicious food. Shall we go eat some later? Xiao Wu sat next to Chen Luo and asked in a low voice. Chen Luo nodded gently, sure. I wonder if you'll still be able to eat after you finish this meal. Xiao Wu laughed excitedly, we'll just eat a little less later. The restaurant's business was quite good. By this time, more than half of the seats were occupied. It was precisely because there were many customers that the speed of serving dishes was a little slow. While waiting, a group of people dressed in silver-white spirit master robes walked into the restaurant, immediately attracting the attention of many people. Leading them was a middle-aged man in his 40s, followed by 7 youths, 6 men and 1 woman, all around 20 years old. Boss Dai, those guys seem to be from Kanghui Academy. Ma Hongjun's voice suddenly rang out, and his chubby face already had a touch of excitement on it. Dai Mubai said, just a trash academy, is it worth getting so excited about? There are girls, and they look pretty good too. Ma Hongjun said excitedly, licking his lips. Look at how spineless you are. Dai Mubai gave Ma Hongjun a disdainful look. Chen Luo's gaze also fell on that group of spirit masters at this moment, and he sighed inwardly, what was meant to come, has come. Chapter 33, Seeking Death. Upon arriving in this small town, Chen Luo already had an ominous feeling. He remembered very clearly that Shrek Academy had a conflict with a high-level Spirit Master Academy on the way to the Stardew Great Forest. When arriving at the restaurant, Chen Luo was still thinking, surely things wouldn't be such a coincidence. Sure enough, it was exactly that coincidental, the things that were meant to happen had arrived. And, it was that unlucky Kanghui Academy. Earlier, the conversation between Dai Mubai and Ma Hongjun hadn't been intentionally lowered, it was just like a normal chat. Especially when Dai Mubai mentioned, Trash Academy, Kanghui Academy happened to be passing by, it was impossible for them not to hear it. The middle-aged teacher leading them had already furrowed his brows, and expressions of displeasure rose on the faces of the other students. Let's sit here. There were still many dining tables in the restaurant, but Kanghui Academy chose the one right next to Shrek Academy. Actually, the emblem of Kanghui Academy was quite obvious. On their Spirit Master robes, a cyan ring mark was embroidered, with the characters, Kanghui, stitched inside the ring. Compared to the ordinary appearance of Chen Luo and his group, this group from Kanghui Academy was much more ostentatious. Seeing the group from Kanghui Academy arrive at the restaurant owner immediately came up to greet them, hosting them with extreme enthusiasm. Chen Luo clearly saw the middle-aged teacher from Kanghui Academy say a few words to a young man beside him. The young man immediately stood up and walked straight towards their group. He was coming to seek death. Dai Mubai and Ma Hongjun were still chatting and messing around, as if they hadn't noticed the actions from the Kanghui Academy side at all. On the contrary, Oscar, who had just finished resting, saw this scene and became excited. There will be a good show to watch in a moment. A waiter happened to pass by, but the young man from Kanghui Academy acted as if he didn't see him and bumped straight into him. The waiter lost his balance, and the dish in his hand almost landed on Dai Mubai's head. Tang San immediately acted, using controlling crane catching dragon to instantly catch the dish, placing it steadily on the table, and also supporting the waiter. The young man from Kanghui Academy immediately apologized. Sorry, my apologies. After speaking, the young man was about to leave, but his left foot had already kicked towards the chair Dai Mubai was sitting on. Judging by the force, if that kick landed, the chair Dai Mubai was sitting on would likely fall apart. At the critical moment, Dai Mubai suddenly stood up and slapped the young man directly in the face, angrily saying, do you really think you have face? It was clear that Boss Dai had been holding back a belly full of fire recently and was looking for a place to vent. This young man had just happened to walk right into the line of fire. Slap. An extremely crisp sound of a slap accompanied by the sound of breaking bones rang out. The young man's body flew out uncontrollably, smashing several tables. The restaurant instantly fell into chaos. The customers eating here immediately dodged to the side, but they didn't leave. Instead, they still had an excited look of waiting to watch a good show. Boss Dai is even more hot-tempered than I imagined. Chen Luo, remaining calm, couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Beside him, Xiao Wu was already excited. Having once been a big sister herself, she loved watching this kind of excitement the most. After that, it was the cliché conflict sequence. The Shrek 7 Devils clashed with the Kanghui Academy group. The result was obvious, and the Kanghui Academy group was miserably defeated. Chen Luo sat on the side, watching silently the whole time. Until the Kanghui Academy teacher, disregarding martial virtue, also joined the conflict. Mystic Turtle Possession. Yi Ziqiu wanted to win back some face for his academy and didn't hesitate to join the battle, activating his spirit. A circle of black ripples was released from Yi Ziqiu's body, instantly suppressing the aura of the Shrek group. Following that, Yi Ziqiu's limbs shrank by 1/3, a huge carapace appeared on his back, and his whole body was flashing with black light. 1 white, 2 yellow, and 2 purple, a total of 5 spirit rings rose from under Yi Ziqiu's feet, displaying his strength as a spirit king. I am Yi Ziqiu, Director of the External Affairs Department of Kanghui Academy. You children don't know any better, call your academy's teacher out. After releasing his spirit, Yi Ziqiu's aura reached its peak, and so did his confidence. Ma Hongjun was already fired up and immediately roared disdainfully, just you old turtle. Do you still need our teacher to make a move? We can beat you to the ground ourselves. Yi Ziqiu's face instantly darkened to the extreme. In his life, he hated nothing more than people calling him a turtle. At that moment, he no longer cared about anything else and directly roared, then let me teach you a lesson on behalf of your teacher. After speaking, Yi Ziqiu walked outside. Upon seeing this, the restaurant owner was almost ready to kneel to Yi Ziqiu. If they continued fighting in the restaurant, his establishment would likely be gone. Dai Mubai and the others gathered together, their gazes turning simultaneously towards Chen Luo. Chen Luo waved his hand slightly. You go first, if you can't beat him, I will step in. This was a good opportunity for the Shrek 7 Devils to gain experience. If he joined directly, this battle would be meaningless. Dai Mubai and the others didn't say much, just nodded. They all knew how strong Chen Luo was. If Chen Luo went up, it was estimated that the old turtle from Kanghui Academy wouldn't have any chance of winning. After a brief discussion, the Shrek 7 Devils went to battle. Even when facing a Spirit King level opponent, the Shrek 7 Devils were still fearless. Both sides exchanged a few taunts and then started fighting. Chen Luo had already stood up and left his seat, taking a cup of tea as he walked outside, drinking tea while watching his teammates fight. The coordination between Dai Mubai and the others was excellent, and they were trading blows back and forth with Yi Ziqiu. But after all, Yi Ziqiu was a Spirit King level existence, and the gap in strength was always there. Not long after, the Shrek 7 Devils fell into a disadvantage. However, Chen Luo was not worried at all. Even if he didn't intervene, there was still Tang San among the 7 devils, and Tang San's hidden weapons were no joke. But the battle situation was ever-changing. Suddenly, Xiao Wu was in danger. Chen Luo's calmness instantly vanished, his mind went blank, and he acted immediately. At this moment, Yi Ziqiu was using his third spirit ability, Mystic Water Surge. Terrifying coldness erupted from Yi Ziqiu's body, and a wave of black water surged towards the Shrek group, with Xiao Wu, who was standing further in front, becoming the first target. Fatty, hurry! Dai Mubai saw this and immediately shouted. Ma Hongjun immediately leapt into the air, purple-red flames spewing from his mouth, just in time to block the black water. However, the difference in spirit power was quite large, and Ma Hongjun couldn't hold on for long. Xiao Wu had already retreated with the others at this time. A figure, however, suddenly brushed past them. His whole body was covered in black flames, a huge scythe held in his hand. His entire aura was not in the slightest weaker than that of the Spirit King Yi Ziqiu. His speed was extremely fast, and in an instant, he arrived in front of Yi Ziqiu, the giant scythe swinging down. Chapter 34, as promised. The Reaper's scythe descended, and the black flames attached to the blade erupted instantly, engulfing Yi Ziqiu completely. The terrifying heat, corrosion, and toxicity were all unleashed in that single instant. Yi Ziqiu had been maintaining the state of his first spirit ability, Mysterious Turtle Protection, and his second spirit ability, Mysterious Water Ice Seal, with black currents of chi swirling around his body, emitting a chilling cold. The moment the black flames touched Yi Ziqiu, all his defenses dissolved rapidly. When the black flames vanished, most of Yi Ziqiu's body was charred, and black flames still clung to his flesh, continuously corroding his body. One must know that these black flames could even break through the defenses of the immovable Bright King Zhao Wuji, who was at the Spirit Saint level. What was a mere Spirit King compared to that? Even if he was a Spirit King focused on defense, Zhao Wuji was a Spirit Saint also focused on defense. Hiss Tilda. Yi Ziqiu couldn't help but let out a hiss of pain, immediately casting his first spirit ability, Mysterious Turtle Protection, and his second spirit ability, Mysterious Water Ice Seal, on himself again to dispel the remaining black flames on his body. Following that, Yi Ziqiu, whose mind was clouded by rage, instantly fell into a state of extreme madness and roared at Chen Luo, "Kid, you are courting death. It is you who are courting death." Before Yi Ziqiu's voice had even faded, a cold voice rang out beside his ear. Bang! A massive fist, filled with power, smashed violently onto Yi Ziqiu's head. The latter didn't even have time to act like a turtle retreating into its shell, his face twisted, and he was sent flying. Chen Luo's hand was covered in a layer of frost due to the influence of Yi Ziqiu's Mysterious Water Ice Seal, but he hadn't sustained any substantial damage. Everything happened far too quickly. Yi Ziqiu hadn't even clearly seen how Chen Luo moved. He had just finished making his threat, and the opponent had instantly appeared in front of him. How could he possibly react in time? More than 10 meters away, Yi Ziqiu barely managed to steady his figure. Wherever he had passed, he had left 2 trenches over 10 centimeters deep, and his feet were still buried in the ground. Yi Ziqiu had long since lost the appearance of a successful man he had earlier. He looked extremely disheveled now, with a large dent in his face and blood spilling from his nose and mouth. The anger in his eyes had vanished, replaced by a trace of terror. "Are you there, teacher?" Yi Ziqiu asked subconsciously. However, after asking this, he immediately cursed himself in his heart for how stupid he was. How could there be such a young teacher? It was just that his strength was simply too monstrous. Judging by his aura, his strength should be at the Spirit Ancestor level, yet the 2 purple spirit rings flashing on him indicated that the opponent was only at the Spirit Grandmaster realm. About 12 years old, a Spirit Grandmaster with 2,000-year spirit rings, and he actually possessed the strength of a Spirit Ancestor. No matter which aspect it was madly assaulting Yi Ziqiu's nerves. Yi Ziqiu had calmed down by this time, and he felt more fear than anything else. Chen Luo cast an indifferent glance at Yi Ziqiu and shook his right hand. The ice shards attached to his hand melted instantly. He then retracted his spirit and walked straight toward Xiao Wu. It was their side that had started the trouble, so there was no need to take things too far. Xiao Wu, are you alright? Chen Luo arrived in front of Xiao Wu and asked with great concern. Xiao Wu smiled slightly, I'm fine. The gazes of Dai Mubai and the others all fell upon Chen Luo. Every one of their faces carried a look of astonishment to varying degrees, especially Ma Hongjun and Oscar, who had never seen Chen Luo fight with his spirit activated. Oscar had previously been fortunate enough to see the scene after Chen Luo's battle. Teacher Zhao's state hadn't been exactly tragic, but at the very least, he had been extremely disheveled. Being able to make a spirit saint level powerhouse look that disheveled was enough to show just how terrifying Chen Luo's strength was. Today, getting to see the scene of Chen Luo truly making a move only deepened the impression of Chen Luo's terrifying strength in Oscar's heart. Ma Hongjun was constantly swallowing his saliva, muttering in a low voice, it's a good thing I didn't fight him that day, otherwise I would have been dead. At the Soto Grand Spirit Arena, Chen Luo hadn't used his spirit during his one-on-one spirit fights. Only during the 2-on-2 spirit fights, in order to protect Xiao Wu, had he used his spirit, but it had ended the battle instantly, so everyone hadn't had the chance to appreciate Chen Luo's strength. But just now, Chen Luo had unexpectedly beaten up the Spirit King Yi Ziqiu, whom the 7 of them couldn't even deal with single-handedly. Those scenes kept stimulating their eyes and nerves. Dai Mubai was the first among them to regain his composure, and he teased with a smile, Chen Luo, your Xiao Wu isn't even injured yet, and you're already this crazy, beating up a Spirit King. If Xiao Wu were injured, wouldn't you just slaughter that old turtle? Pretty much, Chen Luo said without any hesitation, stating his true thoughts from just a moment ago. The group paused, then all revealed smiles, and 2 blushes rose on Xiao Wu's pretty face. Chen Luo said, it was too selfish of me, you should have gained some experience. Xiao Wu nodded, that's right, if I always stand behind you, how can I become strong? Chen Luo smiled slightly, I will be careful in the future. Although Xiao Wu said that, her small hand had already linked with Chen Luo's arm. The group from Kanghui Academy was left aside, especially Yi Ziqiu, whose feet were still stuck in the mud. At this moment, thoughts of finishing off Chen Luo kept flashing through Yi Ziqiu's mind. Such a prodigy would surely be a terrifying existence once he grew up. They had already become enemies, and it was impossible to win him over, since he couldn't have him, he would destroy him. But these thoughts only appeared for a moment before being immediately strangled by Yi Ziqiu. Even if he wanted to finish off that kid, he had to have the ability to do so. On the contrary, if that kid wanted to finish him off, he would already be a corpse. Thinking about it sent shivers down his spine. Retracting his spirit, Yi Ziqiu disregarded his disheveled state and acted as if nothing had happened, waving to his students, settle the bill, and let's go. The Shrek group didn't look at the Kanghui Academy group again, but the smiles beaming on their faces already displayed the posture of victors. Returning to the restaurant, ignoring the strange gazes and discussions of the surrounding guests, the Shrek group feasted to their heart's content, having a good meal. When leaving, Dai Mubai paid the bill. The restaurant owner insisted on not taking the money, but in the end, Dai Mubai still threw 2 gold coins onto the counter. It was definitely enough for the meal, and the remainder was treated as a tip. After all, they had enjoyed this meal very much. After Chen Luo and the others left, Zhao Wuji's figure suddenly appeared in the restaurant. He casually ordered 2 small dishes, his gaze constantly fixed on the open space outside the restaurant. He scratched the back of his hand. I thought I would be able to scratch my itch to fight, but I didn't expect that I wouldn't even have the chance to make a move. Returning to the hotel, everyone went back to their own rooms to rest. Along the way, Xiao Wu kept blinking her big, watery eyes while looking at Chen Luo. Chen Luo asked with a smile, what is it? Nothing, I just simply wanted to look at you. Xiao Wu smiled. Chen Luo suddenly seemed to remember something and rubbed Xiao Wu's head, wait for me for a moment. After saying that, Chen Luo went out. A moment later, Chen Luo returned. His large hand brushed over the Death God bracelet, and suddenly, the table in the room was filled with many delicious foods, all of which Xiao Wu had mentioned to Chen Luo earlier. Almost forgot, as promised. Chen Luo grinned. Xiao Wu gazed at the various delicacies on the table, moved beyond words, and directly hugged Chen Luo. Brother Chen Luo, you are the best. Chapter 35, I have Xiao Wu. Chen Luo glanced at the sleeping Xiao Wu, then carefully cleaned up the trash on the table. Whether it was because she hadn't eaten enough or if Xiao Wu really just loved the food, she had actually finished everything on the table. After cleaning up, Chen Luo didn't continue to cultivate. Instead, he lay down beside Xiao Wu, watching her quietly, and reviewed the events of the day. I was still too impulsive and too selfish. A rare opportunity for training was ruined just like that by me. She is Sister Xiao Wu, after all, and she is very competitive. She likes to solve problems with her own fists, yet I always self-righteously protect her behind me. That might not be a good thing. In the future, I will try my best to restrain myself, but how can I really do that? A look of conflict appeared on Chen Luo's face. I strive to become stronger just so she won't suffer any harm, but if I solve everything, how will she grow? Given her personality, she doesn't like being protected by others all the time. Regardless, I should maintain some boundaries in the future. Chen Luo wanted to reach out and stroke Xiao Wu's face, but in the end, he held back, fearing he might wake her up. It's been a long time since I've had a good night's sleep. Chen Luo took one last look at Xiao Wu, lay flat, a faint smile curling at the corner of his mouth, and slowly closed his eyes. The next morning, the Shrek group set off again. The Stardew Great Forest was not far from them. After leaving the small town, the group traveled at full speed. In less than 3 hours, Chen Luo and the others arrived at their destination. Standing on a small hill, looking down, there was an endless green ocean. Everywhere were towering ancient trees, mostly over 20 meters tall, with dense branches and leaves. Before they even officially entered the forest, a refreshing feeling that made one feel relaxed and happy washed over them. The incredibly fresh air, mixed with the scent of damp earth, constantly stimulated everyone's sense of smell, making everyone instantly feel much more comfortable. The cool feeling emanating from the forest instantly dispelled the stuffiness caused by their continuous travel. Zhao Wuji did not let Chen Luo and the others enter the forest immediately but had them rest briefly at the edge. I won't repeat the dangers of the Stardew Great Forest too much. After entering the forest, none of you are to move more than 20 meters away from me, not even Chen Luo. Especially Ning Rongrong and Oscar, you must follow me closely. Without my order, no one is to attack a spirit beast at will. Zhao Wuji said in a deep voice. Yes. After resting for a while, everyone restored their condition to the best, and then, led by Zhao Wuji, they stepped into the Stardew Great Forest. Traveling along the way, the Shrek group encountered quite a few spirit beasts. In most cases, they chose to detour. Even if those spirit beasts were very weak, and even if they encountered spirit beasts that attacked actively, they chose to avoid harming their lives as much as possible. Dai Mubai almost couldn't help but finish off the spirit beasts blocking their path several times, but in the end, he gave up under Chen Luo's persuasion. Sustainable development, as well as avoiding trouble as much as possible, were Chen Luo's reasons. No one stood up to refute, and everyone felt that what Chen Luo said made a lot of sense. Even Tang San, the personal disciple of the Grand Master, couldn't help but nod and praise Chen Luo inwardly. Among spirit masters, someone with such awareness as Chen Luo was truly rare. The reason Chen Luo acted as the mediator was not entirely for the reasons he stated, it was mainly because he didn't want to make Xiao Wu sad. This was Xiao Wu's home, after all. Since it was a rare trip home, they had to avoid killing as much as possible. And among spirit beasts, there would be some connection to some extent, who would want to see their own kind killed innocently. There is movement ahead, everyone be careful. Near noon, just as the Shrek group was resting under a large tree, Zhao Wuji's voice suddenly rang out. Everyone instantly entered a state of high alert. Without needing Zhao Wuji's reminder, Zhu Zuqing immediately activated her spirit and climbed a large tree to inspect the situation. It's a flying snake. It seems it can only be 3 meters off the ground. There is a blood-red meat crest on its head that is larger than its head, and its tail is fan-shaped. Zhu Zuqing's cold voice quickly came from above. Zhao Wuji's eyes lit up instantly. It should be a phoenix tail-crested serpent. This kind of spirit beast is very rare. I just don't know how many years its age is. Tang San immediately asked, what is its length, and what color are its wings? Zhu Zuqing, 6 to 8 meters long, light red wings. Tang San immediately gave a definitive answer. This is a phoenix tail-crested serpent between 1,300 and 1,800 years old, which is perfect for Oscar. Then, Tang San explained how to distinguish the age of the phoenix tail-crested serpent and the relevant information about the phoenix tail-crested serpent. It must be said that in terms of knowledge about spirit masters and spirit beasts, Tang San was very professional. Chen Luo smiled slightly. Then what are we waiting for? Let's all go together. This phoenix tail-crested serpent must be captured. Tang San nodded. If Oscar absorbs the spirit ring of the phoenix tail-crested serpent, perhaps his third spirit ability can increase our speed. The speed of the phoenix tail-crested serpent is extremely fast, especially the crest on its head, which can provide it with terrifying speed in an instant. Maybe it can let us fly. Chen Luo laughed. Tang San's eyes lit up. Perhaps it's really possible. Oscar was instantly so excited he couldn't hold it. Let's go, let's move quickly, don't let it run away. Zhao Wuji glanced at Chen Luo. I won't make a move, you go ahead. Chen Luo nodded. Okay. Oscar, Chen Luo, if you help me capture the phoenix tail-crested serpent, I am all yours. Chen Luo smiled slightly. I have Xiao Wu. When this was said, no one felt surprised, only Xiao Wu's shy face flushed red, and a sweet smile appeared on the corners of her mouth involuntarily. Before entering the Stardew Great Forest, Xiao Wu was lively and quite happy, but after entering the Stardew Great Forest, she became full of worries. This was the first time Xiao Wu had smiled since entering the Stardew Great Forest. If others didn't know what was wrong with Xiao Wu, how could Chen Luo not know? Having received Zhao Wuji's approval, Chen Luo, who had long been itching to act, immediately launched into action. With the strength of the Shrek 7 Devils, dealing with the phoenix tail-crested serpent was not a problem, but the phoenix tail-crested serpent was extremely cunning and fast. With the current strength of Daimubai and the others, they simply couldn't keep the phoenix tail-crested serpent. For such a rare and hard-to-find spirit beast, it was best to capture it as soon as possible. This was a spirit beast that, after Oscar absorbed its spirit ring, could really bring the ability of flight to everyone. Chen Luo activated his spirit, and the huge reaper scythe appeared in his hand. At the same time, an invisible phantom merged into his body, and with the rising of 2 purple spirit rings, Chen Luo's entire aura suddenly soared. With force from both feet, Chen Luo rushed out like a cannonball. The moment he left the ground, Chen Luo was instantly covered in black flames, activating Undying. To avoid any accidents, he naturally had to go all out. Chapter 36, Taking Down. The phoenix tail-crested serpent was very fast, and in no time, it arrived where the Shrek group was located. Perhaps sensing the aura of humans, the phoenix tail-crested serpent turned and ran away without any hesitation. Want to run? It's not that easy. Chen Luo had already made full preparations by this time, so how could he let the phoenix tail-crested serpent get away? Chen Luo crouched down slightly and then charged towards the phoenix tail-crested serpent as fast as a cannonball. The phoenix tail-crested serpent's speed was already very fast, but it still couldn't match Chen Luo's speed. In the blink of an eye, Chen Luo reached the front of the phoenix tail-crested serpent. Without any pause or hesitation, Chen Luo immediately made his move, swinging the reaper's scythe in midair to slash at the body of the phoenix tail-crested serpent. The blade of the scythe landed on the snake's scales, immediately sparking. Soon, the scales could not hold, and the blade sank into the body of the phoenix tail-crested serpent. The next second, black flames suddenly surged, engulfing most of the phoenix tail-crested serpent's body. SS's. A sound of corrosion and burning that set one's teeth on edge rang out, followed by a nauseating stench of scorched flesh. The black flames dissipated, leaving the phoenix tail-crested serpent's body covered in black, scorched wounds. Most of its scales had been melted and fused with its flesh, a sight that made one ache just looking at it. Between the flesh of the phoenix tail-crested serpent, there were still faint traces of black flames continuously corroding and devouring it. Roar. The incredibly intense pain caused the phoenix tail-crested serpent to emit a miserable roar, and its body slowed down at this moment. The paralyzing toxin within the black flames had taken effect. Chen Luo immediately pressed his advantage, raising his giant black scythe to completely disable the phoenix tail-crested serpent. Just then, as if it sensed death approaching, the fleshy crest on the phoenix tail-crested serpent's head flashed brightly. Its speed surged, and in the blink of an eye, it was over 10 meters away. Chen Luo's reaction was also extremely swift. Almost the second the phoenix tail-crested serpent moved, he gave chase, his speed equally terrifying. Damn, is Chen Luo even human? This speed is too exaggerated. He can even keep up with a spirit beast that specializes in speed. Ma Hongjun swallowed hard and said. Daimubai laughed. He is a monster among monsters to begin with. The day I saw him go toe-to-toe with Teacher Zhao, I had already concluded that there's nothing he cannot do. Chen Luo was fighting in the front, while the Shrek group watched from the back. In order to take down the phoenix tail-crested serpent faster, none of them presumptuously went up to help. They all knew in their hearts that going up would only make them a burden. Chen Luo had the absolute strength to deal with the phoenix tail-crested serpent. Zhao Wuji was perched on the branch of a large tree, ready to strike at any moment, but after seeing Chen Luo's skills, the corners of his mouth curled into a faint smile involuntarily. There was simply no opportunity for him to intervene. This really was a monster among monsters. While everyone else was watching the battle with great interest, Xiao Wu's face carried a hint of worry. Upon seeing this, Tang San smiled slightly. Chen Luo's current strength has at least reached the spirit ancestor level, and his combat power far exceeds that of a spirit ancestor, so there's nothing to worry about. Facts prove that Chen Luo did not disappoint everyone. Even though the phoenix tail-crested serpent's speed had surged, Chen Luo was still able to catch up. However, at such high speed, it was difficult for Chen Luo to swing his giant scythe to attack. In the end, he was seen grabbing the tail of the phoenix tail-crested serpent with his bare hands and plunging the giant's side into the ground. Whoosh. The phoenix tail-crested serpent dragged Chen Luo forward continuously, but due to the obstruction of the giant's side and Chen Luo, the phoenix tail-crested serpent gradually appeared to be exhausted. The Reaper's side left a gully dozens of meters long on the ground, and Chen Luo himself was buried half a meter deep into the earth. However, his right hand, which was gripping the tail of the phoenix tail-crested serpent, never let go from beginning to end, and he forcefully dragged the phoenix tail-crested serpent to a halt. Finally out of energy. Chen Luo still looked full of strength, with a victorious smile hanging on the corners of his mouth. Exerting force with his right hand, the veins on Chen Luo's arm bulged, and veins also appeared on his forehead and neck. Under the gaze of the Shrek group, he actually swung the nearly 7-meter-long phoenix tail-crested serpent up and then slammed it heavily onto the ground. Boom. A huge depression was smashed into the ground, and the phoenix tail-crested serpent lay within it, having passed out. It was over. Chen Luo put away his spirit and waved to the Shrek group, done. The Shrek group remained stunned in place, only Xiao Wu stepped out first and ran quickly towards Chen Luo. Chen Luo, are you okay? Xiao Wu looked worried, even though she knew Chen Luo's strength was formidable. Chen Luo was, after all, facing a 1,000-year spirit beast. To say she wasn't worried at all would be impossible. Chen Luo smiled and shook his head. I'm fine, just my hand is a little numb. As he spoke, Chen Luo shook his hand. To drag the phoenix tail-crested serpent to a halt, Chen Luo had used excessive force. Afterward, to avoid killing the phoenix tail-crested serpent by being too heavy-handed, he had adopted the simplest and crudest method to knock it unconscious, leaving his arm feeling somewhat numb now. Xiao Wu immediately stepped forward to rub Chen Luo's arm. Seeing that Chen Luo was truly fine, she was finally completely relieved. Afterward, Xiao Wu's gaze fell on the unconscious phoenix tail-crested serpent. Must we kill the spirit beast? Chen Luo nodded gently, the weaker prey to the strong. Xiao Wu pursed her lips and withdrew her gaze, though not much emotion could be seen on her face. On the other side, Daimubai and the others, who had been dazed on the spot, reacted when they saw Xiao Wu go over, even though the image of Chen Luo unleashing his terrifying power still lingered in their minds. Everyone walked towards Chen Luo. Oscar was the fastest one running. After all, his third spirit ring was right before his eyes. If he weren't excited or proactive, that would actually be the problem. Chen Luo, isn't this strength of yours too terrifying? As soon as he reached Chen Luo, Daimubai couldn't help but exclaim. Ma Hongjun also said, if it had been Teacher Zhao who swung the phoenix tail-crested serpent just now, I could have accepted it, but since it was you, I felt in an instant as if I had been swung by you too. It's not that exaggerated. It's true. Oscar rushed directly to Chen Luo and gave him a big bear hug. He looked so excited that he almost kissed Chen Luo directly. Good brother, thank you so much. After expressing his gratitude, Oscar released Chen Luo and immediately went to deliver the final blow to the phoenix tail-crested serpent, then immediately proceeded to absorb the spirit ring. Located in the Stardow Great Forest, danger was everywhere, and any kind of accident could happen, so naturally, they had to achieve their goal as quickly as possible. Seeing Oscar begin to absorb the spirit ring, Chen Luo and the others immediately entered a state of high alert to protect Oscar. Zhao Wuji remained on the tree branch, eyes slightly closed, as if sensing the surroundings. Suddenly, Zhao Wuji opened his eyes wide. Come out. Zhao Wuji said slowly with no expression on his face. Chen Luo and the others also seemed to have sensed something at this time and looked towards the bushes not far away. Under everyone's gaze, an old woman holding a walking stick walked out. Chapter 37, Give me some surprises. The old woman appeared to be in her 60s or 70s. Although aged, she was full of vigor, her white hair combed very neatly. Though her face had many wrinkles, it was as rosy as an infant's. What truly drew the eyes of Chen Luo and the others was not her appearance, but the 6 spirit rings slowly rising from beneath her feet. In her hand, she held a 3-meter-long snake-headed staff, which was emitting a powerful aura of spirit power. Presumably, that snake-headed staff was her spirit. After the old woman walked out of the bushes, a beautiful young girl followed her out. The girl was very beautiful, with short hair reaching her ears, about 16 or 17 years old, dressed in neat, tight-fitting attire, with a well-proportioned figure. She also held a snake-headed staff in her hand, but it was much shorter than the old woman's, only 2 meters long, and 2 yellow century spirit rings rose from beneath her feet. As soon as the girl appeared, her large brown eyes immediately looked toward the phoenix tail-crested serpent. Seeing that the phoenix tail-crested serpent was already dead and someone was absorbing its spirit ring, her eyes widened involuntarily. At this moment, Zhao Wuji had also activated his spirit, 7 spirit rings flickering on his body, a terrifying spirit power radiating from him, showcasing his strength as a spirit saint. The old woman and the girl's gazes instantly shifted to Zhao Wuji. Zhao Wuji spoke slowly. What do you want? The old woman's expression was somewhat ugly. We have no ill intent, we only pursued the spirit beast here. Pursuing a spirit beast, Zhao Wuji frowned. The old woman said, it is that phoenix tail-crested serpent, there's a wound I left on its abdomen. It is already dead. Zhao Wuji said indifferently, having no intention at all to verify whether what the old woman said was true. The old woman's complexion instantly turned extremely ugly. You should at least give us an explanation, right? We spotted the spirit beast first, and we even wounded it. An explanation? What kind of explanation do you want? Zhao Wuji glanced coldly at the old woman. Only then did the old woman realize how foolish she had just been, having been blinded by anger for a moment and actually saying such meaningless words. Sensing Zhao Wuji's killing intent, the old woman immediately said, I am Snake Matriarch Chao Tianqiang. Thanks to the respect of friends in the Spirit Master's world, I have been given the title of Snake Matriarch. My husband is named Meng Shu, known as Dragon Duke. This was her revealing their identities. After introducing themselves, Snake Matriarch Chao Tianqiang tried hard to squeeze a stiff smile onto her old face. Since the spirit beast has already been killed by you, then let this matter rest. Saying anything more would be meaningless. After speaking, Snake Matriarch Chao Tianqiang waved at the girl beside her. Yiren, let's go. Daimubai originally wanted to say a few words, but was stopped by Zhao Wuji. Only after Snake Matriarch Chao Tianqiang and the girl had completely left did Zhao Wuji speak. Peerless Dragon and Snake have been famous for a long time. Dragon Duke should already possess Spirit Douluo's strength by now. With Snake Matriarch here, Dragon Duke must be nearby. I am not afraid of dealing with either one of them alone, but Peerless Dragon and Snake possess an extremely overbearing martial soul fusion technique. Unless one possesses the strength of a title Douluo, it is very difficult to withstand. Upon hearing this, Daimubai felt a lingering fear. I knew it. Given your personality, Teacher Zhao, I was surprised you were so easy to talk to. Guard Little Ao well. Once Little Ao finishes absorbing the spirit ring, we will leave, Zhao Wuji said in a deep voice. Everyone nodded and continued to remain in a state of alert. The recent event was just a small interlude for everyone and did not have much of an impact. Even if Peerless Dragon and Snake were powerful, they could not make this group of little freaks fall into fear. The phoenix tail-crested serpent was already dead, and the spirit ring was already in the process of being absorbed. The matter was settled. Unless Peerless Dragon and Snake were extremely petty people, would they really come back to kill them? As everyone returned to calm, only Chen Luo's gaze became complicated. It seems there's a deviation in how things are happening. In Chen Luo's memories, the Shrek group encountered the phoenix tail-crested serpent, and Zhao Wuji took action to subdue it. Before Oscar had time to finish off the phoenix tail-crested serpent, Snake matriarch Chao Tianqiang appeared with her granddaughter Meng Yiren. Afterward, some conflicts occurred, and it was ultimately Tang San who stepped in to resolve it. However, everything that had just happened deviated significantly from Chen Luo's memories. Chen Luo had taken action quite quickly and soon finished off the phoenix tail-crested serpent, and Oscar was even more decisive, skipping the long-winded process of gratitude, directly finishing off the phoenix tail-crested serpent and starting to absorb the spirit ring. Could it be that my appearance has changed the course of events? The process of Oscar absorbing the spirit ring was very smooth. In about half an hour, Oscar completed the absorption of the spirit ring. Just as in Chen Luo's memories, the third spirit ability that the phoenix tail-crested serpent brought to Oscar was flight. Flight duration, 1 minute. Flight speed, the speed of the phoenix tail-crested serpent. After everyone learned this information, they were naturally overjoyed. After a brief moment of excitement and cheering, and a short rest, Zhao Wuji was ready to take everyone back. Regardless of whether Peerless Dragon and Snake would come looking for them, being in the Stardow Great Forest was very dangerous, even in the peripheral areas. After all, the Stardow Great Forest was not a captive spirit beast forest, it was full of unknowns. On the way back, Chen Luo also deliberately looked at Tang San. Is it because he didn't fight Meng Yiren that he didn't break through to rank 30? According to the original plot in the book, when the Shrek group contested the phoenix tail-crested serpent with Snake matriarch Chao Tianqiang, it was ultimately decided by a competition to determine the ownership of the phoenix tail-crested serpent. Tang San participated, fighting against Meng Yiren. It was precisely after that battle that Tang San's spirit power rank broke through the shackles of rank 29 to reach rank 30, and he happened to obtain his third spirit ring in the Stardow Great Forest, followed by a series of subsequent events. Now it seems this butterfly effect is a bit big. After fighting the phoenix tail-crested serpent, I feel that I am not far from rank 30. Should I stay behind and cultivate for a while? That way, subsequent events might happen as usual. This thought appeared in Chen Luo's mind, but he quickly rejected it himself. Forget it, let everything take its natural course. The journey back was very smooth. Perhaps it was because Chen Luo and the others had created quite a commotion when dealing with the phoenix tail-crested serpent, but on the way back, they rarely saw weak spirit beasts actively attacking, and they even rarely saw any spirit beasts at all. They must have all been scared away. I estimate that we will be able to leave the Stardow Great Forest in less than an hour, Zhao Wuji said, a satisfied smile on his face. Oscar successfully obtained his third spirit ring, and the third spirit ability was flight. It was hard for Zhao Wuji not to smile. Daimubai and the others were also very happy, genuinely feeling happy for Oscar from the bottom of their hearts. Their own brother being able to obtain a good spirit ring and spirit ability, and the ultimate beneficiaries being themselves, of course they were happy. Are we just going back like this? Among everyone, only Chen Luo and Xiao Wu appeared slightly calm. Xiao Wu's mood was still a bit low, she seemed somewhat reluctant to leave the Stardow Great Forest. Chen Luo was calm on the surface, but his heart was a bit complicated. He was actually hoping for some accidents to happen so that things that were supposed to happen could proceed. If we just go back like this, wouldn't Tang San's 8 spider lances be gone? Just as Chen Luo was feeling slightly complicated, suddenly, an old and hoarse voice rang out. Stop. Zhao Wuji immediately activated his spirit, and Daimubai and the other little freaks did the same. They all frowned slightly. Only the corners of Chen Luo's mouth curled into a faint smile. Finally here, indeed, it did not disappoint me. Chapter 38, Peerless Dragon and Snake. People need face, and trees need bark. Sometimes, so-called experts are pettier than anyone else, and the Peerless Dragon and Snake couple are exactly like this. After Snake matriarch Chao Tianqiang reunited with Dragon Duke Meng Shu, she immediately informed him that her granddaughter Meng Yiren had her spirit beast stolen and that she herself had been insulted, with, no doubt, a fair amount of exaggeration added. Dragon Duke Meng Shu was immediately agitated and decided to take Snake matriarch Chao Tianqiang and Meng Yiren to reclaim their so-called face. More importantly, Dragon Duke Meng Shu and Snake matriarch Chao Tianqiang had been unable to find a suitable spirit beast for Meng Yiren along the way, making the couple angrier the more they thought about it, so they directly chased after the Shrek group, determined to get back the explanation that Snake matriarch Chao Tianqiang hadn't been able to secure on her own. What the three members of the Meng family did not expect was that the speed of the Shrek group was actually so fast. In less than 2 hours, they had already completed the absorption of the spirit ring and had also disposed of the carcass of the phoenix tail-crested serpent. Finally, after some effort, the three members of the Meng family caught up with the Shrek group. As that shout of, "Stop!" rang out, an incredibly terrifying pressure surged from behind the Shrek group. Zhao Wuji had already activated his spirit, and the group of Shrek little monsters, unable to withstand the pressure, instantly activated their own spirits as well, their faces pale, only breathing a sigh of relief under Zhao Wuji's protection. A plainly dressed but somewhat ornate elderly man walked out slowly, around 70 years old, holding a dragon-headed cane over 3 meters long, with 8 spirit rings, 2 yellow, 3 purple, and 3 black, circling his body. The source of that immense pressure was those brilliantly colored spirit rings. A spirit Douluo. The 8 dazzling spirit rings demonstrated the old man's formidable strength. After the old man appeared, Snake matriarch Chao Tianqiang and Meng Yiren, who had previously encountered the Shrek group, also appeared. Dragon Duke Meng Shu. Zhao Wuji's face looked terrible, and especially after seeing the number of spirit rings on Dragon Duke Meng Shu, cold sweat began to stream down. Are the Peerless Dragon and Snake really this petty? Facing Snake matriarch Chao Tianqiang alone, Zhao Wuji was confident he could crush her, and even facing Dragon Duke Meng Shu alone, even if the opponent's strength was that of a spirit Douluo, he wouldn't be able to gain any advantage against him, the immovable bright king Zhao Wuji. The key was that the Peerless Dragon and Snake had achieved body integration, which was already beyond Zhao Wuji's range of strength. If he weren't leading the group of Shrek little monsters, Zhao Wuji would be completely confident in escaping unscathed, but now he had to consider the safety of the little freaks, as they were all the hope of Shrek. Seeing the Peerless Dragon and Snake appear, Zhao Wuji had already greeted their ancestors for 18 generations in his heart countless times, but he still managed to force a smile onto his face. Sister Chao, I didn't expect we would meet again so soon. This must be the senior Dragon Duke Meng Shu, right? I have long admired you. May I ask the purpose of your visit? A cold sneer appeared on Snake matriarch Chao Tianqiang's aged face. You know why you ask. Zhao Wuji's cheek twitched slightly. Just a short while ago, this old woman before him had still spoken to him politely, and who could have imagined that shortly after, the roles would change so quickly. I am the immovable bright king, Zhao Wuji. I assume the two seniors have come regarding the matter of the spirit beast from earlier, and I would like to express my sincere apologies. A real man knows when to bend and when to stretch. Zhao Wuji displayed this saying vividly at this moment, as a hot-tempered person actually managed to suppress his emotions completely, speaking to others so politely and even apologizing. The main thing is that we didn't know that Phoenix Tail Crested Serpent was your target, seniors, otherwise we absolutely would not have competed for it. But matters have reached this point, and my student has already finished absorbing the spirit ring, so it cannot be changed. And that's the end of it, Dragon Duke Mengshu said slowly, his voice carrying an inherent authority. Zhao Wuji immediately forced a smile. Of course not, since we accidentally obtained the senior spirit beast, how about I, Zhao Wuji, catch another one for you? The only things that could make Zhao Wuji so subservient were the group of little freaks behind him. If not for them, given Zhao Wuji's hot temper, he would never have said so much to this so-called peerless dragon and snake, and he would likely have started fighting long ago. Even if he couldn't win, he could still escape, so why would he endure this humiliating grievance? Dragon Duke Mengshu did not speak, but turned his head to look at Snake Matriarch Chao Tianqiang beside him, as if asking for her opinion. Snake Matriarch Chao Tianqiang's gaze had long since shifted from Zhao Wuji and landed on the group of little freaks behind him. Noticing her husband's gaze, she immediately reminded Dragon Duke Mengshu to look ahead. Dragon Duke Mengshu finally noticed the little freaks behind Zhao Wuji, and his originally calm and deep gaze instantly held a hint of surprise. In a normal confrontation between experts, who would pay attention to the underlings behind them? This was also the reason why Dragon Duke Mengshu had not noticed the existence of the Shrek little monsters. His gaze had always been on Zhao Wuji, as the opponent also possessed the strength of a spirit saint, and even if they had absolute strength suppression, they still had to be careful. There are actually two spirit elders, and they are both at such a young age, and those who seem even younger have actually reached the strength of spirit grandmasters. Wait. Muttering to himself, Dragon Duke Mengshu's eyes suddenly widened a bit, and his gaze landed on Chen Luo as he spoke in disbelief, a spirit grandmaster with 2,000-year spirit rings. How is this possible? Dragon Duke Mengshu subconsciously looked at his granddaughter. He had always been proud of her, believing her talent was 1 in 1,000, yet after seeing that group of little freaks, he suddenly felt how mediocre his own granddaughter was. Meng Yiren's beautiful eyes widened, her small mouth slightly parted, and shock was already written all over her face. Clearly, she had noticed the existence of the group of Shrek little monsters earlier. Meng Yiren had originally thought the young man who absorbed the Phoenix Tail Crested Serpent was just an anomaly. Such a young spirit elder must be rare, and she just happened to run into one, so her own talent was still very good. She had been comforting herself like this until she saw the group of monsters before her. There was more than one spirit elder. That slightly older young man was also a spirit elder, and even though he was a bit older than the one who absorbed the Phoenix Tail Crested Serpent spirit ring, his age was definitely younger than her own. The others were also around 11 or 12 years old and were all at the strength of spirit grandmasters, especially the delicate-looking young man holding a giant scythe, who actually possessed 2,000-year spirit rings. The talent she was so proud of was nothing in front of them. People from the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School. Dragon Duke Mengshu had now regained his calm, his gaze finally lingering for a moment on the pagoda in Ning Rongrong's hand before looking at Zhao Wuji. Let it be this way, you go find a suitable spirit beast for Yiren, and this matter ends here. Snake Matriarch Chao Tianqiang had originally wanted to say something, but she was stopped by a look from Dragon Duke Mengshu. Don't be so aggressive, that immovable bright king Zhao Wuji is not a good character, and the group of little ones behind him don't have simple backgrounds. Just the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School alone would be enough to trouble us. If we tear off the mask, this matter will be hard to resolve. Those little ones could be crushed with one hand, but the immovable bright king Zhao Wuji is not so easy to kill. Dragon Duke Mengshu transmitted his voice to Snake Matriarch Chao Tianqiang in a unique way that others could not hear. Snake Matriarch Chao Tianqiang nodded gently, responding, that's what I wanted to say as well. I was just in a fit of anger earlier. How about we just let this matter go, and we'll find the spirit beast ourselves. The words have already been spoken, let it be this way. Chapter 39, Such a Coincidence. This was the first time Chen Luo had felt the pressure of a spirit Douluo level powerhouse. The immense spirit power of Dragon Duke Mengshu made him feel somewhat breathless, only by activating his spirit could he significantly reduce the feeling of discomfort. Strangely enough, even without Zhao Wuji activating his spirit to share the pressure, once Chen Luo activated his own spirit, he could immunize himself against the discomfort brought by Mengshu. It had been the same when Chen Luo faced Zhao Wuji before. Perhaps it was his unique physique, or perhaps his unique spirit, but no matter how powerful the enemy, they could not cause much of an impact on Chen Luo. Relatively speaking, Dai Mubai and the others were greatly affected. If not for Zhao Wuji sharing the burden, even if they activated their spirits, they would still have to endure immense pressure. If they were to fight in that state, they would likely only be able to unleash 60 or 70% of their strength at most. This was the oppression brought by a powerhouse. I was thinking about an accident happening, but now that it has, I don't feel very happy about it. Chen Luo thought to himself. Regardless of what might happen next in the Stardew Great Forest, it actually didn't have much to do with him. The one most affected would be Tang San. If no accident occurred, his external spirit bone, the 8 spider lances, would likely go down the drain. Next would be Xiao Wu, the Titan giant ape. Ming would come looking for Xiao Wu, but the impact of that wouldn't be great either. Looking at the peerless dragon and snake moving rapidly ahead, and Zhao Wuji on his left, Chen Luo turned his head to glance at Xiao Wu behind him, thinking to himself, I must work harder, I am still too weak. At this moment, they were all rushing deeper into the Stardew Great Forest to find a suitable spirit beast for Meng Yiren, with everything around them retreating rapidly. The peerless dragon and snake had already retracted their spirits, as had Zhao Wuji. After all, they were looking for a spirit beast. If they kept their spirits activated, let alone 1,000-year spirit beasts, even 10,000-year spirit beasts would be scared away. Even without their spirits activated, their speed was still exaggerated. Except for Chen Luo, the Shrek group was struggling to keep up. Meng Yiren was being carried by the snake matriarch Chao Tianqiang, so she was keeping up quite easily. Actually, on the Shrek little monster side, Ning Rongrong could provide support for everyone, and Oscar could also bring out his mushroom sausage for everyone to have a taste, but they didn't do so. No one knew if an accident would happen in the next second, and hiding their strength as much as possible was the best choice. Whether it was bad luck or some other reason, the Shrek group and the peerless dragon and snake couple had been wandering in the Stardew Great Forest for 2 days and still hadn't found a suitable spirit beast for Meng Yiren. Early on the 3rd morning, even the couple Mengshu felt embarrassed. Brother Zhao, why don't you all head back first? We'll just solve the spirit beast matter ourselves. The Dragon Duke Mengshu rarely spoke. Basically, it was the snake matriarch Chao Tianqiang who communicated with Zhao Wuji. Zhao Wuji chuckled. That's fine too. We've stayed in the Stardew Great Forest for several days, so we should avoid worrying the academy. Actually, the academy doesn't matter much, but it's mainly the families of these children who are worried. If they come looking for us, it would be unnecessary. The Mengshu couple nodded. Zhao Wuji waved at them, then we shall take our leave. After speaking, Zhao Wuji led the Shrek little monsters back. After walking for a long distance and confirming that they and the others were safe, Zhao Wuji stopped, his expression looking very ugly. Rest in place for a while. Everyone stopped, panting heavily. Oscar immediately distributed sausages to replenish everyone. They had been running for their lives on that stretch of road just now. Everyone wanted to be as far away from danger as possible. Damn it. Without any warning, Zhao Wuji punched a large tree nearby. Wood chips flew everywhere, and a huge dent instantly appeared on the trunk. I've lived this long, and this is the first time I've had to swallow this kind of insult. For the past 2 days, I don't know how many ways to escape I've thought of in my heart. Zhao Wuji vented all the negative emotions he had been bottling up inside. Zhao Wuji's figure suddenly disappeared, and when he reappeared, he was in front of Chen Luo. I even thought, if you little freak were a bit stronger, we would have directly fought those two old immortal things. Chen Luo looked solemn and didn't speak. Anyone could see that Zhao Wuji had been holding back a belly full of anger for these 2 days. Beneath his nodding and bowing exterior, the beast buried in his heart had long been restless. Being able to keep his emotions in check all this time was already an extremely difficult thing to do. I hope those two old immortals run into some powerful spirit beasts and get killed. Zhao Wuji's emotional venting was mostly over, and in the end, he just whispered a curse that was impossible. The reason it was called an impossible curse was that, given the strength of the peerless dragon and snake couple, they could basically walk sideways in the Stardew Great Forest. As long as they didn't do anything stupid, like going to the center of the Stardew Great Forest to provoke those powerful spirit beasts, there were basically no safety risks. And the more powerful a spirit beast was, the more vigilant it would be, and it would definitely not actively provoke powerful human spirit masters. Chen Luo was right in front of Zhao Wuji. Although Zhao Wuji spoke very softly, Chen Luo still clearly heard what he said. For a moment, a strange expression appeared on Chen Luo's face. Just then, a loud noise came from afar, accompanied by powerful energy fluctuations. Even though they were far away, Chen Luo and the others were affected, their figures unsteady, and they retreated to the side. Boom. The sound waves irritated their eardrums, making them feel very uncomfortable. Zhao Wuji immediately activated his spirit, then leapt with force, jumping to the top of the tree. A moment later, Zhao Wuji came down with a terrified look on his face and immediately said, regardless of whether you've rested well or not, hurry up and run. Oscar, quickly create mushroom sausage. Oscar didn't hesitate at all. He handed the few mushroom sausages he had prepared in advance to his teammates and then continued to create more. I have a mushroom sausage. I have a mushroom sausage. That strange incantation no longer brought any amusement to everyone, all that remained was an invisible, immense pressure. It couldn't be such a coincidence, could it? Chen Luo glanced into the forest with a complex expression, but the trees and leaves were too dense, and his vision was limited. He simply decided to go all out, directly activating his spirit and leaping toward the top of the tree. Chen Luo. Seeing Chen Luo suddenly act, Zhao Wuji couldn't help but shout, but there was no follow-up. He only heard Zhao Wuji mutter softly, anyway, you brat runs fast, if you want to see, then go ahead. Chen Luo quickly reached the top of the tree and gazed into the distance. The source of the commotion was easy to find. In the distance, two figures were hovering in midair, their bodies flashing with dazzling spirit rings. Opposite them, a giant black chimpanzee 7 or 8 meters tall was roaring at them. Even though Chen Luo didn't have the purple demon eye, his body was fundamentally different from ordinary people, and his eyesight was excellent. Even from a great distance, as long as Chen Luo focused, he could still see very clearly. Holy crap, it really is the Titan giant ape. After his shock, a playful smile curled the corners of Chen Luo's mouth. Those two, they seemed to be the peerless dragon and snake. Chapter 40, this is too fierce. The Titan giant ape looked extremely angry. A large area of trees around it had been cleared. With a roar, the Titan giant ape stood up, reaching over 15 meters in height. It was a truly fierce giant beast. The peerless dragon and snake couple were still entangled with the Titan giant ape, but it was obvious that they were no match for the Titan giant ape. Even if they used their martial soul fusion technique, it was difficult to cause substantial damage to the Titan giant ape. The Titan giant ape was simply too fierce. In just one exchange, snake matriarch Chao Tianqiang was sent flying by the Titan giant ape. Dragon Duke Mengshu soon followed in her footsteps, and both of them knocked down more than 10 large trees before coming to a stop. Chen Luo broke out in a cold sweat watching this. The title of King of the Forest was certainly not earned in vain. The peerless dragon and snake's body integration had at least the strength of a title Douluo, yet they were completely insignificant in front of the Titan giant ape. And if the Titan giant ape was already this fierce, wouldn't the Sky Azure Bull Python be even more terrifying? Chen Luo originally wanted to observe a bit longer, but Zhao Wuji's shouting came from below. Let's go, stop watching. Just by listening to the voice, one could detect Zhao Wuji's incomparable anxiety. Previously, this immovable bright king hadn't even been this panicked when facing the peerless dragon and snake. Chen Luo immediately leapt down to rendezvous with his teammates. Although the Titan giant ape was still at a certain distance from them, it would be a matter of minutes if that big guy chased after them. If they continued to watch the battle for a while, it would truly be a suicidal act. At this moment, his teammates were already prepared to flee. Each person held 2 sausages in their hands, one was used to recover spirit power, and the other was a mushroom sausage used for escaping. After conjuring so many sausages in succession, Oscar's face was somewhat pale. When he looked at Chen Luo, an embarrassed smile appeared on his face. Chen Luo, I didn't prepare one for you. Chen Luo nodded gently. It's fine, I can keep up. Without too much idle talk, Oscar had already adapted to the discomfort of the massive consumption of spirit power. Everyone immediately took action and ran towards the outer edge of the Stardew Great Forest. With the blessing of the mushroom sausage, the Shrek little monsters were incredibly fast. For a time, even Zhao Wuji found it somewhat difficult to keep up, while Chen Luo remained closely behind the group. During the escape, Chen Luo noticed Xiao Wu's restless expression. It wasn't the first time she had looked back. Everyone thought Xiao Wu was looking at Chen Luo, but only Chen Luo knew in his heart that, except for the first worried glance, Xiao Wu was looking at the Titan giant ape. Even though the forest was filled with towering trees and the foliage was incredibly dense, making it impossible to see anything when looking back, Xiao Wu should still be able to clearly sense the existence of the Titan giant ape. Suddenly, Chen Luo noticed that Xiao Wu's face had become somewhat unsightly, and then Chen Luo sensed something was wrong. The ground was shaking slightly. Heavy footsteps were coming from afar, and they were getting closer and closer to them. The Titan giant ape was chasing them. The peerless dragon and snake ultimately failed to stop this king of the forest, or perhaps they realized that the Titan giant ape's target was not them, and they voluntarily chose to give way. Zhao Wuji naturally sensed the Titan giant ape's movements as well. His body paused abruptly, and a look of struggle appeared on his face, but he quickly made a decision and shouted at the little freaks in front. You go, I will stop it. Chen Luo, when I am not there, you must protect them well. Following that, Zhao Wuji turned around resolutely and directly activated his martial soul avatar. Vigorous Vajra Bear. Zhao Wuji roared at the sky, and the seventh spirit ring on his body instantly bloomed with an extremely deep radiance. Almost in an instant, black light spread across Zhao Wuji's entire body, and his body underwent a huge change. His already extremely robust body expanded rapidly as if it were a balloon. His height soared, instantly exceeding 5 meters. The muscles all over his body expanded in an exaggerated manner, and brown-yellow fur grew wildly. The entire person had actually turned into a real giant bear. When Zhao Wuji's body completely turned into bear form, the brown-yellow fur on his body instantly changed color, shining with a brilliant golden light. Zhao Wuji's aura also climbed to the peak at this moment. The Titan giant ape's speed was simply too fast. If they continued to flee, there was no possibility of escaping at all. Zhao Wuji was truly left with no choice but to stay behind to cover the retreat. He also knew clearly in his heart that with his strength, he wouldn't be able to stop it for long, but he would try his best to delay time and win an opportunity for that group of little freaks. After activating his martial soul avatar, Zhao Wuji immediately rushed towards the direction of the Titan giant ape, with a heroic feeling of a warrior who would never return. Chen Luo originally thought that the Shrek group would follow the plot in the book and carry forward the spirit of courting death, going forward to help Zhao Wuji resist the Titan giant ape. As it turned out, he realized he had thought too much. This group of little freaks were more rational than he had imagined. They didn't even look back when running away. With their current strength, they couldn't help Zhao Wuji at all. Instead, they would become a burden to Zhao Wuji. Zhao Wuji had turned back to resist the Titan giant ape precisely for their sake. If they ran back, wouldn't that be ridiculous? The spirit of not abandoning and not giving up is indeed worth learning, but it also depends on the situation. Obviously, this group of little freaks all had brains. The duration of Oscar's mushroom sausage was only 1 minute. During this minute, Chen Luo and the others had already escaped a very long distance. But this was far from enough. After the effect of the mushroom sausage ended, they began to flee frantically towards the outer edge of the forest again. The Stardew Great Forest was larger than people imagined. Even the edge area had a very large surface area. If it weren't for helping the Peerless Dragon and Snake's granddaughter Meng Yiren find a suitable spirit beast these past 2 days, thus going somewhat deep into the Stardew Great Forest, Chen Luo and the others would have already escaped. Zhao Wuji's combat power was much stronger than imagined, but he only blocked the Titan giant ape for less than a minute. The Titan giant ape was chasing after Chen Luo and the others again, with a very clear target. Others might not know what medicine this king of the forest had taken wrong to actually run to the edge of the Stardew Great Forest to cause destruction, but Chen Luo knew this Titan giant ape was here to find Xiao Wu. The ground shook continuously, and the feeling of the vibration became more and more obvious. The extremely heavy footsteps behind his party were getting closer and closer. Chen Luo finally made a decision. You guys keep running, I'll go delay some time. Currently, the strongest combat power in the team was just Chen Luo. Chen Luo couldn't just stand by and watch his party be caught up by the Titan giant ape. Although the Titan giant ape came for Xiao Wu, who could guarantee that this big guy wouldn't accidentally hurt the other Shrek little monsters? As long as there was a chance, he had to give it a try and do his best to keep them away from danger. Chapter 41, Crisis. Chen Luo activated Undying, pushing his combat power to the limit. Facing the king of the forest, the Titan giant ape, he had absolutely no confidence in his heart. If he didn't know that the Titan giant ape's primary target was Xiao Wu and that it wasn't interested in the others, Chen Luo wouldn't have acted so recklessly because this was no different from seeking death. If the Titan giant ape had come for slaughter, with Chen Luo's current strength, if he ran over, he estimated that the Titan giant ape could finish him off just by flicking a finger. Chen Luo charged toward the Titan giant ape, wielding the Reaper scythe. Facing the Colossus before him, it would be a lie to say he wasn't afraid at all. And the Titan giant ape showed him absolutely no face. Before Chen Luo could even get close, he was sent flying by a black light radiating from the Titan giant ape's body. In that instant, Chen Luo felt as though his internal organs were about to be destroyed, and blood sprayed uncontrollably from his mouth. Damn it, he thought, if I had known I couldn't even delay it for a second, I wouldn't have gone up there. After crashing through several large trees, Chen Luo finally managed to come to a stop. The Undying state was forcibly deactivated. An indescribable pain spread throughout his entire body. He felt as if all his bones were falling apart, and his internal organs felt like they were being scorched by fire, causing him immense pain. Chen Luo's face was almost twisted into a ball. Chen Luo swore in his heart that he would never do such a stupid thing again. If the Titan giant ape had just attacked, he estimated that he would already be a corpse by now. Perhaps realizing that their group could no longer escape, the Shrek little monsters all turned back to fight. But the result was also incredibly tragic. One by one, they were sent flying, coming infinitely close to death. Tang San displayed his Tang Sect ultimate techniques, throwing out who knows how many hidden weapons, but in the end, they failed to harm the Titan giant ape, not even having the ability to leave a dent on its body. The gap in strength between the two sides was simply too immense. In the end, all the Shrek little monsters lost their combat capability, and Xiao Wu was taken away by the Titan giant ape. Even though he knew that the Titan giant ape had no malicious intent toward Xiao Wu, Chen Luo still endured the pain in his body and tried his best to give chase. As Xiao Wu's third brother, Tang San naturally couldn't bear the result of Xiao Wu being snatched away by the king of the forest, and he also gave chase like a madman. Zhao Wuji looked at the departing Chen Luo and Tang San, sighed, then gritted his teeth and said, Mubai, hurry and take everyone back to the academy to find the dean and the others. I'm going to chase after those two brats right now. Zhao Wuji looked very disheveled at this moment, covered in bruises. He had already ended his martial soul avatar, and after using the martial soul avatar, all his attributes would drop by 50%, requiring 7 days to recover. Even in this state, he still insisted on chasing after Chen Luo and Tang San. Even if the final result was dying in this Stardew Great Forest, he was willing. He couldn't just watch the people he brought out go to their deaths. Dai Mubai originally wanted to say something, his emotions running very high. Zhao Wuji glared fiercely at Dai Mubai. Don't go throwing a tantrum in front of me right now. Do you want to follow me to your deaths? Dai Mubai nodded vigorously, and the other little freaks followed suit, looking as if they were ready to face death without fear. A faint smile tugged at the corner of Zhao Wuji's mouth, but the next second he cursed angrily, a bunch of irrational, brainless things. Hurry up and get back to the academy to bring reinforcements. If you follow me to your deaths, then the final result will very likely be all of us dying here. Rest assured, I'm not that easy to kill, and neither are those two little freaks. After cursing, Zhao Wuji didn't waste any more breath and chased directly in the direction where Chen Luo and Tang San had left. Dai Mubai stood stunned on the spot, his fists clenched so tightly that the veins on his arms bulged. Finally, he released his hands and immediately said to Ma Hongjun and the others, let's go, follow me closely. In the relatively chaotic battle just now, Dai Mubai and the others had all sustained some level of injury. especially the two girls, Zhu Zuqing and Ning Rongrong, who had brushed shoulders with death. Fortunately, they had Dai Mubai and Oscar protecting them respectively, otherwise, they might have already been reduced to a pile of meat paste. Dai Mubai carried Zhu Zuqing, Oscar carried Ning Rongrong, and Ma Hongjun scouted the path ahead. They rushed rapidly toward the outer perimeter of the Stardo Great Forest. Cough, cough. Chen Luo ran wildly for a long distance before finally stopping under a large tree. He coughed violently twice, then spat out a large mouthful of blood. That damn Titan giant ape ran way too fast. At first, Chen Luo could still see its back, but now he had no idea where it had run off to, he couldn't catch up at all. The Death God technique was already executing frantically at this moment, constantly restoring the injuries within Chen Luo's body. The mouthful of blood he had just spat out was stagnant blood from inside him. After spitting it out, he felt much better. Xiao Wu should be fine, no need to worry too much. Chen Luo constantly comforted himself in his heart, but he always felt a trace of unease. According to the original plot in the book, the king of the forest, the Titan giant ape, came to the edge area of the Stardo Great Forest mainly to find Xiao Wu. Their relationship was very good. Xiao Wu was even the big sister to the Titan giant ape and the Sky Azure Bull Python. But what if things didn't happen the way they did in his memories? Even if it deviated just a little bit, Xiao Wu would likely be done for. Chen Luo knew that this possibility was extremely low, but he was still somewhat worried. Struggling to adjust his breathing, Chen Luo moved again. Even if the Titan giant ape and Xiao Wu were just meeting simply, he still had to go over and take a look to confirm that Xiao Wu was okay. After sprinting a long distance further into the Stardo Great Forest, Chen Luo arrived in front of a cave. By this time, the injuries on Chen Luo's body had completely recovered, and his entire state had reached its peak. The frantic travel hadn't made him feel any fatigue, instead, it made him feel increasingly energetic. It seemed that the more severe his injuries were, the more frantically the Death God technique operated. Along this journey, not only had he recovered from his injuries, but his spirit power also seemed to have improved a lot. If nothing unexpected happened, his spirit power should have reached level 30. Chen Luo was not in a hurry to obtain his third spirit ring. Without finding Xiao Wu, his heart remained in a state of extreme unease. And the reason Chen Luo stopped here was because he sensed an extremely dangerous aura. It was a spirit beast. And it was a very powerful spirit beast, at least for Chen Luo at the moment. It was right inside the cave ahead, and it had already discovered Chen Luo. It was precisely because Chen Luo sensed that he had been locked onto by a dangerous aura that he stopped his footsteps and entered a state of high alert. Suddenly, a massive spear shot out from the cave without any warning. Chen Luo had long been prepared. The moment the spear appeared, his body retreated violently backward. Putting a distance of over 100 meters between himself and the cave, Chen Luo finally stopped. It was only at this moment that Chen Luo saw clearly that the so-called spear was actually a spider leg. One spider spear appeared, and following it, a huge spider rushed out from the cave. Chapter 42, Crypt Spider. As soon as the giant spider rushed out of the cave, it charged straight at Chen Luo, looking exactly like a hunter who had been lying in ambush for a long time and had gone mad after failing to catch its prey. Chen Luo immediately retreated, his eyes narrowing. The giant spider's movement slowed down in his vision, allowing him to clearly see its appearance. The giant spider's spider spears were nearly 4 to 5 meters long, its entire body covered in a layer of black armor, and its torso was larger than a dining table, looking extremely hideous and terrifying. Man-faced demon spider? No, it should be a crypt spider. Chen Luo quickly identified the giant spider. After all, he had been brothers for so many years with Tang San, the encyclopedia of spirit beasts, and also had an older friend, Elder Pusi, who specialized in knowledge regarding spirit beasts and spirit masters, so he had some understanding of spirit beast-related knowledge. The crypt spider's body was smaller than that of a man-faced demon spider, and it lacked the human face features of the man-faced demon spider. Both were top-tier existences among spider-type spirit beasts. Compared to the man-faced demon spider, which was known for its formidable attack power and potent poison, the crypt spider was famous for being insidious and cunning, and it loved to trap and kill its enemies and prey. If it hadn't been for Chen Luo's perception playing a huge role just now, sensing the danger in advance, the consequences would have been unimaginable. If Chen Luo had rashly rushed over the cave, or even if he had bypassed it, he would have fallen into a trap created by the crypt spider. If nothing went wrong, the area around the cave was likely filled with trap works meticulously crafted by the crypt spider. So it's injured. No wonder this guy is so anxious. It doesn't even have the patience to lie in ambush anymore. Chen Luo noticed many cracks on the crypt spider's torso, and several of its spider spears were on the verge of breaking. Presumably because of its injuries, the crypt spider had lost its inherent patience and was eager to tear its prey to shreds. Injured, yet still so arrogant. After retreating a certain distance, Chen Luo suddenly stopped, then instead of retreating, he advanced. With force from his feet, he charged straight toward the crypt spider. If his judgment was correct, the crypt spider before him was at least at the 10,000-year level, but it had likely only just entered that level. If he were facing a 10,000-year spirit beast crypt spider in its prime, his only option would be to run, but the one before him was merely low on health. Under the augmentation of the undying state, Chen Luo's first spirit ring and second spirit ring lit up simultaneously, and the effects of the poisonous flame and the blazing flames fused together. Chen Luo's speed was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, he brushed past the crypt spider. The Reaper's scythe, coated in black flames, left a shocking wound on the crypt spider, and the black flames instantly engulfed the crypt spider's entire body. The sound of corrosive burning rang out at this moment, and the crypt spider let out a shrill scream, in immense pain, its entire body trembling violently. Chen Luo immediately pressed his advantage, gripping the massive Reaper's scythe, and slashed down on the crypt spider again and again. The angles of his attacks were extremely tricky, specifically targeting the shattered parts of the crypt spider's black armor, creating larger wounds on top of existing ones. Although the black flames were powerful, it was still difficult to directly corrode the crypt spider's black armor. After all, the opponent was a 10,000-year spirit beast, but if it penetrated through the crypt spider's wounds, the effect would be vastly different. The sizzling sound, like roasting meat, rang out continuously. The black armor on the surface of the crypt spider was scorched bright red, while the flesh inside the wounds between the cracks of the black armor was being continuously corroded and burned. The crypt spider kept letting out painful screams. It was not that it hadn't tried to counterattack, but it simply couldn't touch Chen Luo's body. Chen Luo's speed was too fast. The surrounding ground was covered in terrifying deep pits left by the crypt spider. Its incredibly sharp spider spear seemed capable of piercing through anything. If Chen Luo's speed hadn't been fast enough and his reaction sensitive enough, even taking a single hit from a spider spear would have resulted in his death on the spot. It was mainly because the crypt spider was severely injured and in an extremely poor state. Many of its spider spears were broken, making it unable to quickly adjust its posture. Its torso had already been heavily wounded, and having suffered repeated heavy blows, it was already a miracle that it had managed to hold on this long. It was precisely because Chen Luo discovered this point that he dared to be so bold as to single-handedly challenge a 10,000-year spirit beast. After encountering the king of the forest, the Titan giant ape, Chen Luo had already made up his mind in his heart never to do such suicidal stupid things again. Without absolute certainty, Chen Luo wouldn't dare to make a move. About half an hour later, the crypt spider completely lost its combat ability. The crypt spider's few spider spears were already teetering, and not long after the fight began, Chen Luo had directly severed them all, otherwise, he wouldn't have had such a good environment for dealing damage later. On the crypt spider's torso, there were hideous and terrifying wounds everywhere. Chen Luo himself didn't even know how many times he had slashed the crypt spider. The undying state had long since worn off, and even at the risk of exhausting his spirit power, Chen Luo continued to output damage. As long as this 10,000-year spirit beast crypt spider didn't breathe its last, he wouldn't dare to slack off in the slightest. The massive reaper's side was raised high once again by Chen Luo, then descended, sinking into the crypt spider's torso. The crypt spider finally died completely. A spirit ring, black to the point of depth, slowly rose from beneath the crypt spider's corpse. Seeing this scene, Chen Luo finally let out a sigh of relief. He panted heavily, struggling to adjust his state, and finally sat cross-legged on the ground, directly circulating the death god technique to frantically replenish his spirit power. He couldn't care about whether the surroundings were dangerous or not. If he didn't absorb spirit power to replenish his nearly dried up body, he was afraid he would be finished. A 10,000-year spirit beast was indeed not that easy to deal with. Even a low health 10,000-year spirit beast had almost cost Chen Luo half his life. When facing the crypt spider, Chen Luo didn't just attack continuously, he also had to dodge the crypt spider's counterattacks and find the right angles for his attacks. His entire nervous system was stretched to the limit. The crypt spider could afford to make many mistakes, but if he made one mistake, he might be finished. What seemed like a very easy process of harvesting a low health target was actually Chen Luo risking his life time and time again. The crypt spider likely relied on its own formidable strength, which was why it chose to confront Chen Luo head-on. But as they fought, the crypt spider realized it couldn't win, and it didn't even have a chance to run away. One side was risking its life, and the other was overconfident, which created the current situation. Of course, the crypt spider couldn't be considered overly confident. It originally had the capital for confidence. Even if it was severely injured, dealing with a mere human spirit grandmaster should have been an easy task. It was just that the crypt spider was unlucky to have encountered an anomaly like Chen Luo. Chen Luo's terrifying speed perfectly suppressed the crypt spider, whose mobility had dropped significantly due to its damaged spider spears. Moreover, Chen Luo's attacks were extremely strange, always able to precisely find the damaged locations of the crypt spider's black armor, and the corrosion, burning, and toxicity of the black flames could better ravage the crypt spider's body from the inside out. Under the frenzied circulation of the death god technique, it didn't take long for Chen Luo's state to recover quite a bit. During this time, no danger appeared in the surroundings, and even if danger had appeared, Chen Luo would have been able to react immediately. This was also the first time Chen Luo had exhausted all the spirit power in his body. There was no other way. He was facing a 10,000-year spirit beast, and being able to go all out to take it down was the best possible outcome. Just as Chen Luo had anticipated before, the worse his state was, the faster the death god technique would circulate, otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to recover his state so quickly. Chen Luo was becoming more and more fond of the death god technique. The ability to continuously strengthen the body, the terrifying spirit power storage, the terrifying cultivate speed, the terrifying recovery speed, every single one of them was worthy of the title, divine rank. Standing before the crypt spider's corpse, gazing at the incomparably deep 10,000-year spirit ring before him, Chen Luo's heartbeat began to accelerate gradually. He didn't receive the special task he had previously received when looking for his first spirit ring, which required absorbing a 1,000-year spirit ring. But for some reason, he still had a certain amount of confidence. Since I have to look for a third spirit ring anyway, why not just go with this 10,000-year spirit ring? Chapter 43, 10,000-year spirit ring. Chen Luo's second spirit ring was a nearly 3,000-year-old fire lizard. He had originally planned to look for a spirit beast between 5,000 and 8,000 years old for his third spirit ring, but who knew he would accidentally encounter a 10,000-year-old spirit beast, a crypt spider. Having successfully taken down the crypt spider, with a 10,000-year spirit ring laid out right in front of you, how could one not be tempted? Although there were certain risks in absorbing a 10,000-year spirit ring, Chen Luo felt somewhat confident. He believed that if he just gave it his all, he should be able to secure this 10,000-year spirit ring. With the continuous improvement of his spirit power, his body had long since undergone tremendous changes, and he believed he had the strength to do it. Such a rare opportunity must be seized. Chen Luo quickly made his decision and began planning for the absorption of the spirit ring. Absorbing a spirit ring is not like recovering spirit power. It cannot be ended just because one wants it to. If one encounters danger while absorbing a spirit ring, it would be game over. One must ensure the safety of the environment while absorbing the spirit ring. Teacher Zhao and the others are not here, and it is impossible to go back to find them now. The spirit ring will not remain indefinitely without dissipating, so I must hurry. After some thought and hesitation, Chen Luo's gaze finally fell upon the corpse of the crypt spider. Isn't there a ready-made bodyguard right in front of me? Chen Luo's eyes lit up, but he quickly frowned. Am I sure about using awakening on the 10,000-year spirit beast? Can my body handle it? Chen Luo hesitated. Chen Luo possessed two special skills, soul hunting and awakening, which he had never used before, but that did not mean Chen Luo had forgotten about them. Soul hunting harvests the soul to increase strength. Awakening resurrects dead things for one's own use. Now is the best time to use awakening, but he just needed to confirm whether he could awaken the target in front of him. As for soul hunting, he was afraid he couldn't use it. After a spirit beast dies, their soul seems to manifest as a spirit ring. If he were to use soul hunting on the crypt spider, 9 times out of 10, it would directly devour the spirit ring, and then where would he go to find such a suitable spirit ring? Furthermore, soul hunting has limitations. Recklessly devouring souls could very likely lead to a backlash or bodily explosion. Without absolute certainty, he certainly could not act recklessly. After hesitating for a moment, Chen Luo decided to try awakening the crypt spider. He currently had no better options. After the spirit ring appeared, every minute and every second was extremely precious, and he had to be decisive. Activating his spirit, death god, and gripping the reaper's scythe, Chen Luo moved his mind and then forcefully slashed the reaper's scythe onto the corpse of the crypt spider. The blade of the reaper's scythe sank into the crypt spider's body with extreme ease, but it did not create any new wounds. Suddenly, a huge suction force came from the reaper's scythe, and the spirit power on Chen Luo's body was sucked away at an extremely fast speed. The black spirit ring hovering above the crypt spider's corpse trembled slightly, and a few strands of black energy peeled away from the spirit ring and were all injected into the crypt spider's body. Awaken, crypt spider. A gray light bloomed on the dead crypt spider, the wounds on its body healed at a speed visible to the naked eye, and the broken spider spears grew back. The 8 spider spears sank into the ground, supporting its body as it stood up once again. Awakening was successful. The spirit power on Chen Luo's body vanished completely, and a strong sense of weakness struck him instantly. The Reaper's side retracted on its own, and for a moment, Chen Luo found it difficult to steady himself, nearly falling to the ground. Enduring the discomfort coming from all parts of his body, Chen Luo looked at the resurrected crypt spider in front of him, and a faint smile curled at the corners of his mouth. As long as it succeeded. At this moment, Chen Luo's face was pale to the extreme, and his body seemed to have shriveled quite a bit. The Death God technique was operating crazily to replenish his spirit power. Go patrol the surroundings and protect me well. Chen Luo issued the order to the crypt spider. The crypt spider immediately executed it. The resurrected crypt spider's body seemed to have grown a bit larger. On its black body, one could vaguely see some gray patterns, and the area around its body was also surrounded by strands of gray energy, making it look as if it were slightly more powerful. Although a 10,000-year crypt spider is not an exceptionally strong existence, it is at least a powerhouse in this area. With it patrolling and guarding, it was still very safe. Good grief, resurrecting this thing almost drained me dry. Chen Luo licked his somewhat dry lips and then cultivated on the spot to restore his own state. To absorb a 10,000-year spirit ring, one must, of course, ensure one is in the best condition. The pitch black, deep 10,000-year spirit ring was still hovering in place, but its original owner had already left and was providing protection for its new owner. When resurrecting the crypt spider, Chen Luo clearly saw a few strands of black energy emanating from the spirit ring and sinking into the crypt spider's corpse. But the spirit ring itself did not seem to be affected. Those few strands of black energy were like a few strands of the crypt spider's soul. Chen Luo's recovery speed was still just as terrifying. In no time at all, his state had fully recovered, and he immediately began to absorb the spirit ring. One could see strands of black airflow continuously falling off the spirit ring and sinking into Chen Luo's body. An extremely massive amount of energy instantly filled every part of Chen Luo's body. The Death God technique operated automatically at this moment, at an extremely fast speed, even more violently than when Chen Luo recovered his spirit power after it was completely empty. A cold feeling followed, not eroding the body, but striking directly at the soul. Chen Luo felt that his soul seemed to have been frozen in that instant. Chen Luo had experienced this feeling once before, which was when he had his spirit awakening at the age of 6. Compared to that time, the coldness before him was nothing at all. This should be a soul shock from the crypt spider. Soul shock is a special ability produced by high-level spirit beasts after death. Before their soul has dissipated, only spirit beasts of 10,000 years or more possess it. The transition from 100-year to 1,000-year spirit beasts is a qualitative change, and the transition from 1,000-year to 10,000 years is likewise a qualitative change. A 10,000-year spirit ring is not so easy to absorb. The terrifying energy contained within it and the accompanying soul shock have caused countless spirit masters to shrink back in fear or lose their lives because of it. Generally, only when a spirit master reaches level 50 can they attempt to absorb a 10,000-year spirit ring. By then, the spirit master's various functions have reached a certain level, and their mental force has also grown to a certain range. But Chen Luo was an anomaly after all. This was only his 3rd spirit ring. Perhaps because when resurrecting the crypt spider's soul had already been extracted quite a bit, this feeling of soul shock, although intense, was very short and fleeting. As for the massive energy on the spirit ring, for Chen Luo, it was even less of a problem. Under the crazy operation of the Death God technique, that energy became a great boost for Chen Luo to cross the threshold of level 30. The process of absorbing the spirit ring was destined to be long, but fortunately, everything went very smoothly. When Chen Luo finished absorbing the spirit ring and opened his eyes, it was already late at night. Before he had time to feel the changes brought to his body after absorbing the spirit ring, Chen Luo was attracted by a loud noise not far away. Focusing his senses, it turned out that some blind spirit beast had come here, and the crypt spider was fighting it. Chapter 44, Shadowbind. Chen Luo arrived on a large tree, where he could see the crypt spider's battle very clearly. Just over 10 meters ahead, there was an open space where a crypt spider, its body wreathed in gray aura, was fighting a giant centipede over 10 meters long. Nightmare centipede. Judging by its size, it should also be a 10,000-year spirit beast, and it seems to be of a higher age than the crypt spider. The crypt spider should be just over 10,000 years old, at most around 11,000 years, while that nightmare centipede is at least 13,000 years old. The nightmare centipede possessed the basic appearance of a centipede, only its size was magnified many times over. On its dorsal carapace were black markings that looked very eerie. Normally, a crypt spider of the same rank wouldn't necessarily be a match for a nightmare centipede in a direct confrontation. After all, crypt spiders are mainly known for being insidious and cunning, skilled at setting traps to ensnare enemies and prey. Direct confrontation is not their specialty. The nightmare centipede before him clearly far exceeded the crypt spider in terms of age. If they were fighting normally, had the crypt spider dared to confront the nightmare centipede head-on like this, it would have long since become a meal in the nightmare centipede's stomach. However, one must never harbor the naive thought that spiders counter centipedes. In the spirit beast world, there are no absolute natural enemies, everything is determined by strength. One is skilled at trapping, the other at direct confrontation, and there is a gap in strength, the outcome is predictable. However, the current battle situation was somewhat inconceivable. The crypt spider was not at all intimidated by the nightmare centipede, trading blows back and forth. It's that reckless fighting style again. After its resurrection, the crypt spider's body became even tougher. During battle, it didn't care about getting injured at all, nor was it affected in the slightest by the wounds on its body, like a machine that only knew how to attack. The nightmare centipede was probably also very puzzled as to how it had run into such a pest, and why it couldn't shake it off no matter what. When the nightmare centipede entered this area, it was targeted by the crypt spider, and since then, it had been a life or death situation. The nightmare centipede had no chance to escape. When it first encountered the crypt spider, the nightmare centipede had been very excited, thinking it could have a full meal. After all, it had encountered a target much weaker than itself. With such an absolute gap in strength, the outcome of the battle could already be foreseen. The nightmare centipede had even waited extremely cautiously for the crypt spider to attack first, fearing that it might accidentally fall into a trap carefully laid by the crypt spider, lest it capsize in the gutter. After reaching 10,000 years of age, spirit beasts all possess a certain level of intelligence. Crafty and cunning is a more apt description. Without having walked between life and death countless times, one cannot grow to the 10,000-year spirit beast rank. But in the end, the nightmare centipede had misjudged. The crypt spider not only didn't play any tricks, but it also chose the most foolish method, a direct, head-on confrontation. At that time, the nightmare centipede was still thinking that it had struck it lucky, that food had actually delivered itself to its doorstep, because in a direct head-on clash, the crypt spider would not have any chance of winning. Who knew? Who could have known? The crypt spider was actually so fierce, and so crazy. The crypt spider spear was extremely sharp and had already left several shocking, gaping holes in the nightmare centipede's body. Gray-brown blood was gushing out continuously, and the nightmare centipede's condition was steadily declining. The nightmare centipede had not achieved 0 results, however. Its countless centipede legs were incomparably sharp, and it also possessed extremely pointed fangs, which had left many wounds on the crypt spider's body, and it had even torn off one of the crypt spider spears. Under normal circumstances, the crypt spider would have long since lost its combat effectiveness or fled, but the crypt spider before him was like a madman, completely unaffected by its injuries and continued to attack relentlessly. The nightmare centipede seemed to have realized at this moment that things were looking bad. If it didn't take some measures, it was definitely going to die here today. The nightmare centipede let out a low roar, and the special markings on its back instantly bloomed with black light, eventually condensing into a sharp blade, which it then violently thrust toward the crypt spider. The crypt spider maintained that fearless appearance, completely ignoring the sharp blade and crashing straight into it, just to leave another bloody hole in the nightmare centipede's body with its own spider spear. Poochie. The black blade pierced directly through the crypt spider's body, but the crypt spider still acted as if nothing had happened and continued to attack, though its body looked more dilapidated and appeared somewhat precarious. The nightmare centipede was stunned, as if it had never expected that its killing blow would fail to finish off the incomparably crazy crypt spider before it. And just in the moment the nightmare centipede was stunned, the crypt spider spear left several more hideous wounds on the nightmare centipede's body. Furthermore, the crypt spider also used a spirit ability for the first time. A huge spider web was spat out from the crypt spider's abdomen, instantly enveloping most of the nightmare centipede's body. Although this web was not poisonous, it was extremely resilient, imprisoning the nightmare centipede in place like a jail. The nightmare centipede struggled desperately. Its sharp claws could cut the web, but it would take some time to completely break free from the restraint. The crypt spider continued to function as an attacking machine, outputting damage crazily. Before long, the nightmare centipede was covered in terrifying bloody holes, and the nightmare centipede had completely lost its combat effectiveness with only its last breath remaining. Just as the crypt spider was about to finish off the nightmare centipede, Chen Luo's figure suddenly appeared. Under Chen Luo's control, the crypt spider stopped its attack and stayed quietly in place. Chen Luo calmly watched the dying nightmare centipede before him and instantly activated his spirit. A total of 3 spirit rings, 2 purple and 1 black, rose from beneath Chen Luo's feet. The black spirit ring suddenly shone brightly, and Chen Luo, gripping his reaper scythe, swung it violently toward the nightmare centipede. The blade of the reaper scythe sank into the nightmare centipede's battered body with extreme ease. Suddenly, streams of black shadows erupted from the blade, instantly binding a part of the nightmare centipede's body tightly. This was Chen Luo's 3rd spirit ring 10,000-year spirit ability, Shadow Bind. When attacking a target, it would instantly release shadows to control the target. Chen Luo withdrew the reaper scythe. The effect of Shadow Bind still persisted, but it ultimately lasted for less than 10 seconds. To be able to control such a behemoth, if I were facing a spirit master of the same rank, I could probably control them to death. After all, the nightmare centipede was on the verge of death, so the duration of control could only be estimated roughly. If the nightmare centipede had been in its prime state, it would be very good if this Shadow Bind could control it for 3 to 4 seconds. And that would already be very exaggerated. The nightmare centipede is, after all, a 10,000-year spirit beast. After experimenting with his new spirit ability, Chen Luo ordered the crypt spider to deliver the final blow to the nightmare centipede. Chen Luo did not perform soul hunting on the dead nightmare centipede. Although he was confident, he was not confident enough to devour the soul of a 10,000-year spirit beast. He didn't want to die young. Soul hunting and absorbing a spirit ring are two different concepts. The former devours the soul and energy entirely, while the latter is more like attaching special power to the spirit, with the energy actually absorbed being only a small portion. Having skipped the step of soul hunting, awakening was still necessary. The crypt spider's body was already falling apart. Although it could still fight, its combat effectiveness had been greatly reduced. Awakening the nightmare centipede would mean having one more source of power. Who would complain about having too many loyal undead servants? Chapter 45, Necrotic Space opened. Before he had even obtained his 3rd spirit ring, Chen Luo was already capable of awakening the crypt spider. Now that he had officially stepped into the spirit elder rank, even though the nightmare centipede's age was higher than the crypt spider's, awakening it should not be a problem. The nightmare centipede died, and a pitch black, deep 10,000-year spirit ring rose from its corpse. Unfortunately, Chen Luo had no use for it. Gripping the reaper scythe tightly, Chen Luo immediately performed the awakening on the nightmare centipede. After the blade of the reaper scythe sank into the nightmare centipede's body, the feeling he had experienced previously when awakening the crypt spider reappeared, only more intense. Perhaps because his strength had increased, Chen Luo was able to endure all the discomfort in his body. A moment later, Chen Luo withdrew the reaper scythe. His face was somewhat pale, but he was still quite energetic. This was the benefit of having increased strength. Before obtaining his spirit ring, awakening a single crypt spider had nearly drained him completely. After obtaining his spirit ring, even resurrecting the nightmare centipede, which was stronger than the crypt spider, left him with energy to spare. The awakening was naturally a success. The wounds on the nightmare centipede's body healed rapidly, and then it stood up again. Gray aura swirled around its body, and its size had increased by a notch. The markings on its back, which were originally black, had all turned gray, making it look even more eerie. The resurrected nightmare centipede stood quietly in front of Chen Luo, waiting for his command. The black 10,000-year spirit ring was still suspended around the nightmare centipede. It hadn't dissipated, though its color seemed to have dimmed slightly. This 10,000-year spirit ring is truly a waste. It would be great if I could utilize it as well. Chen Luo wore an expression of regret. Suddenly, as if sensing something, a thought flashed through Chen Luo's mind. He immediately retreated a considerable distance and then issued an order to the nightmare centipede. The nightmare centipede's body moved slightly, and the gray markings on its back radiated light. Then, the pitch-black 10,000-year spirit ring was absorbed by the nightmare centipede in an instant. It was just like returning an item to its original owner. There was no sense of incongruity, and everything went very smoothly. After absorbing its own 10,000-year spirit ring, the nightmare centipede's aura surged instantly, and its size increased by another notch. It, which had originally been just a dead object, seemed to have gained a hint of vitality. Chen Luo was still admiring the strange scene before him when he suddenly received information conveyed by the nightmare centipede. It was asking if it could devour the crypt spider. Chen Luo also sensed an extremely strong resentment. Good fellow, it was quite vengeful. Chen Luo glanced at the crypt spider. Its body was already in tatters, and it seemed to have no value left. But Chen Luo was still unwilling to abandon the crypt spider. After all, the crypt spider had just protected him. Is there any way to repair the crypt spider? Storing the necrotic spirit in the necrotic space allows for repairs. Chen Luo was somewhat surprised. He never expected the system to pop up and answer his question. My strength has increased by a significant margin now, so perhaps the necrotic space has already been opened, otherwise the system wouldn't have suddenly provided a prompt. Thinking of this, Chen Luo immediately contacted the Death God bracelet. Two distinct spaces appeared before his eyes instantly. One was the storage space, which was now as large as a room. The other was the necrotic space. The necrotic space had really opened. Unlike the storage space, the necrotic space appeared in a void state, like another world. Below the necrotic space was a prompt. Currently stored necrotic spirits, 0 halves. Chen Luo's eyes lit up instantly, and he was incredibly excited. Without any hesitation, Chen Luo went in front of the crypt spider and extended his left hand, pressing it onto the crypt spider's body. A black light burst forth, and the crypt spider vanished. Chen Luo looked at the necrotic space again. The crypt spider had already entered that void world and was sleeping, and the wounds on its body, which had been nearly impossible to heal, were slowly recovering. Seemed to have taken off. Chen Luo was so excited he nearly jumped up, and his handsome face was filled with a smile. He then went before the nightmare centipede, reached out and pressed his hand on it, and also stored the nightmare centipede into the necrotic space. The nightmare centipede seemed somewhat reluctant, but everything was up to Chen Luo. After entering that void world, the nightmare centipede did not fall into a deep sleep like the crypt spider, but instead stayed quietly in its place, seemingly increasing its strength at an extremely slow speed. Injured necrotic spirits can be healed when entering the necrotic space, while necrotic spirits in good condition can slowly increase their strength. Though the speed of improvement is a bit slow, it should be related to the necrotic spirit itself. This is too powerful. Chen Luo felt that after stepping into the spirit elder rank, his overall strength had improved by more than just one level. Chen Luo did not linger in place for too long. Xiao Wu was still the most important person in his heart. As soon as his own matters were handled, he immediately embarked on the journey to find Xiao Wu. While continuously moving forward, Chen Luo took the opportunity to summarize his strength after advancing to spirit elder. His current spirit power rank was 33. If he activated Undying, he estimated he could have strength around the Spirit King level, and as for combat power, it would naturally double. His physique had once again received a huge boost. Beating up a spirit ancestor with his bare hands was not a problem. Chen Luo even somewhat suspected that his spirit, Death God, was primarily manifested in his body, granting him abilities comparable to a body spirit. Besides his own improvement, the necrotic space within the Death God bracelet had opened, capable of storing 2 necrotic spirits. Chen Luo also happened to have harvested 2 10,000-year spirit beasts, the crypt spider and the nightmare centipede. They were both stored in the necrotic space and could be summoned at any time when needed. They were Chen Luo's true trump cards at the moment. After a spirit beast dies, using awakening to resurrect it will heal all its wounds and increase its strength. If their spirit ring is still present, they can also absorb the spirit ring, allowing their strength to increase once more, and they also seem to possess a certain level of intelligence. After making a simple summary and review of everything in his mind, Chen Luo opened the task panel. He had successfully obtained his 3rd spirit ring, and the new sign-in tasks had been reorganized. Main task: go to Heaven Do Imperial Academy to sign in, join the new Shrek Academy. Side task: 30 consecutive wins at the Soto Grand Spirit Arena. This time, it actually reorganized and generated a side task again. It seems I can do the side task first. After Chen Luo obtained his 2nd spirit ring, the reorganized sign-in tasks only included the main task, but this time he saw a side task again. The main task had a total of 2 conditions: go to Heaven Do Imperial Academy to sign in, and join the new Shrek Academy. The former was easy. With his current strength, even if he set off for Heaven Do Imperial Academy now, the other party would be very welcoming. It was the latter part, joining the new Shrek Academy, that required the entire Shrek group to move over. In Chen Luo's memory, the new Shrek Academy was rebuilt based on Luerlong's Spirit Master Academy. The name was of course still Shrek Academy. The word, new, was just for convenience in distinguishing it. According to the normal plot progression, only after the Shrek little monsters all graduated would the Shrek group go to Heaven Do Imperial Academy together, and then because of some accidents they would finally meet up with Luerlong and reopen Shrek Academy. It seemed the main task could not be completed for a while, but Chen Luo was not in a rush for success. His current strength was completely sufficient, perhaps even a bit too powerful, and he needed some time to adapt to it. Furthermore, Chen Luo wanted to stay by Xiao Wu's side. His growth was indeed ahead of schedule, but Xiao Wu still needed to grow slowly. Accompanying the girl he liked as she slowly grew up and slowly became stronger was a dream in the hearts of countless boys. The main task could be set aside for now, and he could complete the side task. Completing the side task was merely a matter of time. Passing through a thicket, Chen Luo arrived at an open area. There were many fork roads ahead, and for a moment, he did not know what choice to make. Just as Chen Luo was hesitating, he suddenly sensed a familiar aura coming towards him. Chen Luo stayed in place, waiting silently, until a beautiful figure walked out of the thicket and came before him. Brother Chen Luo, why are you here? The person who arrived was none other than Xiao Wu. Chen Luo did not speak, he pulled Xiao Wu into his embrace. I finally found you. Chapter 46, The Journey Home. Under the dappled tree shadows, the boy and girl looked at each other. That feeling of reuniting after death was something no amount of words could describe. Chen Luo very gently tidied up Xiao Wu's slightly messy hair, while Xiao Wu began to recount her own thrilling encounter. Hearing a roar like a bull, the Titan giant ape put her down and ran off, and she had also broken through to level 30, just in time to obtain her 3rd spirit ring. Chen Luo naturally knew Xiao Wu was making it up, but he still pretended to believe her. It's good that you're all right. At this moment, Xiao Wu also noticed the spots of blood on Chen Luo's body and the many tattered places on his clothes, and immediately asked with concern, Brother Chen Luo, what happened to you all later? Why did you run here all by yourself? And you're injured. Chen Luo shook his head with a smile. I'm fine. Back then, I wanted to stop the Titan giant ape to buy you some time to escape, but I ended up being blasted away by the Titan giant ape. It was too reckless of me. Hearing this, Xiao Wu looked pained and reached out her small hand to gently stroke Chen Luo's chest. Chen Luo grinned and said, it's already fine, it wasn't a serious injury. It was indeed not serious, it had only cost him more than half his life. If not for the Death God technique, he would probably still be lying where he was injured. Chen Luo continued, later, when I saw you being taken away by the Titan giant ape, I immediately went to chase after it. Tang San seemed to have moved too, I don't know where he is now. Xiao Wu said softly, why are you so silly? You knew the Titan giant ape was powerful, yet you still went to chase it. What if something happened to you? The journey here was also very dangerous. While speaking, Xiao Wu's watery big eyes were full of self-reproach. Chen Luo gently rubbed Xiao Wu's head and said seriously, I said I would protect you well. If anyone wants to hurt you, they will have to step over my corpse first. If you were gone, my living would have no meaning. Xiao Wu's watery big eyes turned slightly red, and she stared straight at Chen Luo. Chen Luo smiled slightly and continued, later, during the pursuit, I broke through to level 30 and obtained my third spirit ring along the way. This experience was somewhat similar to Xiao Wu's, except Chen Luo's was real, while Xiao Wu's was made up. Hearing this, Xiao Wu's eyes lit up, and she asked with a smile, what spirit beast's spirit ring is it? Crypt spider. Chen Luo then recounted the process of how he happened to run into the crypt spider and then killed it, omitting the matters regarding the awakening and the death god bracelet. After hearing this, Xiao Wu's originally happy smile disappeared, replaced by a trace of worry and blame. Brother Chen Luo, you were too impulsive. A 10,000-year spirit beast is an extremely dangerous existence, yet you dared to hunt it. Even more dangerous, you absorbed its 10,000-year spirit ring. If any part of that went wrong, the consequences would be unimaginable. In the future, never do such life or death things again. Chen Luo grinned and said, aren't I perfectly fine? Have you forgotten that your brother here absorbed a 1,000-year spirit ring for his first spirit ring? A mere 10,000-year spirit ring is nothing. That crypt spider was also seriously injured, which is how I got lucky. Although he said that, only Chen Luo knew the danger involved. Even though the 10,000-year spirit beast crypt spider was severely injured, he had used all his strength to complete the kill. And when absorbing the spirit ring, if it hadn't been for the earlier awakening extracting some of the crypt spider's soul, it probably wouldn't have gone so smoothly. Xiao Wu didn't speak, just silently hugged Chen Luo. Being a spirit beast herself, how could she not know the dangers of spirit beasts? She knew Chen Luo was deliberately making it sound so easy because he didn't want her to worry. Chen Luo was a bit surprised, but quickly returned to calm, gently stroking Xiao Wu's back. After a long time, the two finally separated. Let's go find Tang San and the others, Chen Luo said. Xiao Wu nodded, When they reunited with Tang San and the others, Tang San had just finished absorbing the man-faced demon spider's spirit ring and had also obtained the external spirit bone, 8 spider lances. Some things after entering the Stardow Great Forest differed slightly from Chen Luo's memories, but the final result had not changed. Tang San also completed his breakthrough on the road chasing the Titan Giant Ape, and the subsequent encounters with the man-faced demon spider and the peerless dragon and snake couple were all similar to what was in Chen Luo's memories. Seeing Chen Luo and Xiao Wu return, everyone's hanging hearts were put to rest, and the same went for Tang San. For Tang San, Chen Luo and Xiao Wu were both extremely important people to him, otherwise he wouldn't have lost his reason and crazily chased after the Titan Giant Ape. Now everyone was safe and sound, and everyone was happy. Time to go home, little freaks, Zhao Wuji said, his tired face filled with a smile as he waved his arm. Everyone cheered in unison, looking at each other. Having experienced life and death together several times, an invisible tacit understanding had already spread in everyone's hearts. Now that everything was resolved, they could finally go back and have a good rest. Zhao Wuji looked at the scene before him with gratification. He was very satisfied with these students. Monsters are monsters after all. Whether in talent for cultivate or talent for combat, they far exceeded ordinary people. They could always maintain a calm mind, make the most accurate judgments, value relationships, and fear no life or death. He really looked forward to what they would become in the future. Chen Luo, you come and clear the path with me. Zhao Wuji beckoned to Chen Luo. Chen Luo immediately stepped forward. Everyone already knew about him obtaining his third spirit ring. Because Zhao Wuji had activated his martial soul avatar, he was still in a weak state, able to exert at most 50% of his strength. They were still in the Stardow Great Forest, and danger still existed. No one knew what would happen in the next second. Chen Luo had obtained his third spirit ring, and it was even a 10,000-year spirit ring. Everyone had witnessed his previous strength, and now he had truly become a major available combat force in the team. With Zhao Wuji and Chen Luo clearing the path, they did not encounter any more trouble on the way back. This was likely related to the Titan Giant Ape coming to the edge of the forest. If nothing unexpected happened, those weak spirit beasts wouldn't dare to come out for a long time. After walking out of the Stardow Great Forest, the Shrek group rested in a small town for 2 days. Daimubai was as generous as ever, taking on all the expenses for everyone. No one cultivate, and they relaxed properly for 2 days. After returning to the academy, Tang San specifically called out to Chen Luo and Xiao Wu. I have some more hidden weapons here, you take them first. Rest well today, and when there's time tomorrow, I'll teach you how to use them. As Tang San spoke, he took out 2 Godly Zoo crossbows and some other hidden weapons. They can still play a certain role at some critical moments. Tang San said, I originally intended to make some stronger hidden weapons before giving them to you. After the incident in the Stardow Great Forest, having more hidden weapons means more chances. Chen Luo and Xiao Wu immediately thanked him with smiles. Many thanks, third brother. No need to be so polite, we're family. After handing the hidden weapons to Chen Luo and Xiao Wu, Tang San returned to his dormitory. Chen Luo and Xiao Wu looked at each other and smiled, then returned to their dormitory. I didn't expect third brother to be so generous, Xiao Wu said with a smile. Chen Luo said, when has he ever been stingy? In the future, wherever he needs help, we must try our best to help him. Xiao Wu nodded, that's only right. Lying on the bed for a while, Chen Luo looked at Xiao Wu and smiled, will you cultivate later or rest? Xiao Wu pouted, let's just sleep, I'm so tired. Chen Luo smiled slightly, looking at the ceiling, thinking to himself, I do need a good sleep. Calculating the time, Grandmaster should be arriving at Shrek Academy soon. Chapter 47, Special Treatment. After breakfast, the bell rang, and everyone went to the Academy's playground to assemble. The Headmaster Flender and Vice Headmaster Zhao Wuji were both there, and besides them, all the Academy's teachers had also come to the playground, making it exceptionally lively today. Sweeping his gaze over all the students, Flender then introduced the Academy's teachers one by one. Teacher Li Yusong, Spirit, Dragon Patterned Rod, Level 63 Spirit Emperor. This teacher was the old man previously responsible for Shrek Academy's admissions. Teacher Lu Qibing, Spirit, Star Luo Chess, Level 66 Spirit Emperor. He was a bit older than Li Yusong, around 70 years old. Teacher Xiao Xin, Spirit, Sugar Bean, Level 71 Spirit Saint. This teacher was much younger, around the same age as Flender. Regardless of whether it was Li Yusong or Lu Qibing, although they were old, their figures were still quite tall, and even though time had left many traces on their faces, their appearance was still much better than that of ordinary old men. However, Xiao Xin was somewhat unattractive. He was not tall, not even as tall as Xiao Wu, with small eyes and a big nose. Separately, his features were acceptable, but squeezed together, they always gave people a strange feeling. Appearance often cannot represent a person's everything. As long as the strength is sufficient, no matter how ugly, they come with their own aura. Xiao Xin was just like that. If it weren't for Flender's introduction, who would believe that the person in front of them actually possessed the strength of a spirit saint, and was even a rare food system spirit master? You cannot judge a book by its cover. This was most appropriate for Xiao Xin. The three teachers nodded at the students after Flender's introduction, and when their gazes fell on Chen Luo, they all unconsciously lingered for a while. Afterwards, Li Yusong was expressionless, Lu Qibing wore a faint smile, and in Xiao Xin's eyes, there was only Oscar. There was also a middle-aged man standing to the side, whom Flender introduced last. When that middle-aged man appeared, Chen Luo and Xiao Wu's gazes had already landed on him, while Tang San was not surprised, seemingly having already met him once. That person was exactly Grandmaster. He is the one who, relying on his own research, derived the 10 great competitiveness of spirits, and is hailed as the strongest in spirit theory, the wisest spirit master. At the same time, he is also Tang San's teacher, my old friend, Mr. Yu Xiaogang. Except for Chen Luo, Xiao Wu, and Tang San, the others were quite curious and expectant about Yu Xiaogang. Tang San's strength was obvious to all, and being able to teach a student like Tang San, this teacher would certainly not be bad. After the introduction, Flender gave the little freaks a few instructions and officially handed over the teaching duties to Yu Xiaogang. Yu Xiaogang briefly stated the future teaching arrangements and then ranked everyone according to age. Number 1, Dai Mubai, Number 2, Oscar, Number 3, Tang San, Number 4, Ma Hongjun, Number 5, Xiao Wu, Number 6, Ning Rongrong, Number 7, Zhu Zuqing. Huh, what about my name? The ranking of the Shrek 7 Devils had not changed, but Chen Luo had not heard his own name. Yu Xiaogang seemed to have noticed Chen Luo's puzzled gaze and said calmly, Chen Luo's strength far exceeds the others, so he will be arranged separately. Regarding this, no one had any objections. Chen Luo himself only felt a bit surprised, but he didn't have too many thoughts about it. Indeed, Chen Luo's strength far exceeded others. If they were trained together, it would likely severely affect the training balance of the others, and ordinary training would not be able to help Chen Luo grow either. Assemble here tomorrow morning, do not be absent for breakfast. The consequence of being late is special training. Dismissed. After saying this, Yu Xiaogang left with Flender and the others. Oscar and the others gathered around Tang San to discuss Grandmaster's arrival, and then everyone's eyes fell on Chen Luo. Good brother, you really were treated specially, Oscar said with a smile, looking as if he had expected it all along. Dai Mubai also laughed. This is something that can't be helped. Who told you to be too strong? Ma Hongjun seemed a bit disappointed. I was hoping Chen Luo could train with us. He is so strong, we could slack off a bit or something, but now that beautiful dream is shattered. If he were with us, could you handle the amount of training he does? Dai Mubai rolled his eyes at Ma Hongjun. Ma Hongjun chuckled. That's true. Everyone did not distance themselves from Chen Luo because of Yu Xiaogang's arrangement. They could all understand. After all, Chen Luo was truly too strong. He was only 12 years old, a spirit elder in strength, with 3 spirit rings, 2 purple and 1 black. He had even once fought against the immovable bright King Zhao Wuji alone. Dai Mubai had once been beaten up by Chen Luo, so he knew Chen Luo's strength even better. At that time, Chen Luo was only at the spirit grandmaster level. Now, Chen Luo had already stepped into the spirit elder level and had even obtained a 10,000-year spirit ring. All impossibilities had been realized on Chen Luo, and no one knew how strong Chen Luo had become now. Perhaps, the 7 of them might not even be able to beat Chen Luo alone. And in fact, that was indeed the case. Chen Luo did not have too many thoughts about this either. He was destined to be the one who didn't fit in. If they were forced to stuff him into the Shrek 7 Devils, he might actually feel a bit uncomfortable. Being singled out for special treatment was actually quite good. Chen Luo came to Shrek Academy originally to accompany Xiao Wu to become stronger. Although Shrek Academy was not the best, it was the most suitable choice, at least for Xiao Wu. If he could also gain something at Shrek Academy, that would of course be the best result. After chatting a bit, Ma Hongjun was about to drag Dai Mubai to Soto City to find some fun. Dai Mubai of course chose to refuse. After the trip to the Stardow Great Forest, having finally established a good image in front of Zhu Zuqing, he could not ruin it because of this. What was somewhat surprising was that Tang San actually wanted to go to Soto City. Tang San of course did not have the same purpose as Fatty, he mainly wanted to find some reliable blacksmith shops in Soto City to craft hidden weapons. On the way back from the Stardow Great Forest, except for Chen Luo, everyone was very interested in how Tang San defeated the man-faced demon spider, and Tang San naturally told them about the hidden weapons. Ning Rongrong, knowing the benefits of hidden weapons to their sect, had already placed a large order with Tang San on behalf of the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School. Things were basically the same as in Chen Luo's impression, except that Ning Rongrong was not the demoness character from the book, she looked more like a strong career woman. Xiao Wu, should we go to Soto City for a stroll together? Chen Luo suggested. Xiao Wu's eyes lit up immediately, but in the end, she shook her head slightly. Forget it, let's go back and cultivate. Since returning from the Stardow Great Forest, Xiao Wu had been more proactive and hardworking than before. That desperate way of cultivating made Chen Luo feel a bit heartbroken when he saw it. Take a half day off, let's go to Soto City for a stroll. Chen Luo said with a smile. Only then did Xiao Wu nod. Okay. Chen Luo knew that Xiao Wu's mindset had changed, though he didn't know exactly what kind of change it was. Effort is a good thing, but one should also relax properly when it's time to relax. Chen Luo did not want Xiao Wu to gradually lose her innocent and lively personality. If the sky fell, he could hold it up for Xiao Wu. If Xiao Wu stopped smiling, all his efforts would lose their meaning. Chapter 48, Exclusive Combat Training. The next morning, the Shrek group arrived at the cafeteria, where Grandmaster had personally cooked a nutritious breakfast for everyone. After finishing breakfast, everyone gathered on the playground. To everyone's surprise, Zhao Wuji had actually come as well. I have already familiarized myself with your respective spirits and abilities. Starting today, I will begin intensive training for all of you. Grandmaster wore a serious expression as his gaze swept across everyone, finally settling on Chen Luo. Chen Luo, step forward. Yes. Chen Luo stepped out. Grandmaster said, state your spirit and spirit power rank. Chen Luo, spirit, scythe, spirit power rank, 33. A flicker of surprise crossed Grandmaster's eyes, and he immediately said, you go directly with Teacher Zhao Wuji. I have already informed Teacher Zhao Wuji of your training content. All right. Chen Luo did not hesitate and walked directly toward Zhao Wuji. Zhao Wuji had a beaming smile on his face and seemed quite excited. Come with me. Chen Luo glanced back at Xiao Wu before following Zhao Wuji away. Grandmaster's gaze returned to the Shrek 7 Devils. Let us officially begin training. Chen Luo followed Zhao Wuji to an open space within the academy. This place was very familiar to Chen Luo. It appeared to be the same spot where he had fought Zhao Wuji during the entrance exam. Zhao Wuji said with a smile, little freak, Grandmaster originally planned for you to spar with those little ones, but I didn't expect your spirit power rank to have already reached 33. There's no helping it, I'll have to be your sparring partner instead. However, this is normal. Having absorbed a 10,000-year spirit ring, it would be unreasonable if your spirit power had only increased by 1 rank. You kid are truly impressive, absorbing a 10,000-year spirit ring for your 3rd spirit ring. Tisk tisk, I can't wait to see what your strength is like now. Chen Luo smiled slightly. I am looking forward to it as well. In fact, as early as last night, Chen Luo had roughly guessed what his training would be like today, but he hadn't expected Grandmaster to hold him in such high regard as to have him fight Zhao Wuji directly. Chen Luo's original guess was that he would likely act as a sparring partner for the Shrek 7 Devils. And what Zhao Wuji had just said seemed to confirm this. It was just that there was a slight mishap. After learning his spirit power rank, Grandmaster had decisively chosen another plan. As for the Shrek 7 Devils training, barring any surprises, it would be the same as the training in Chen Luo's memory, first combat training, then physical training. Zhao Wuji said, I knew you weren't afraid, and sure enough, you aren't. Ahem, your training is to fight me. Zhao Wuji began to explain the training content. I know your strength, so I won't go easy on you. Your goal is to force me to use my martial soul avatar. Understood, let's begin, Chen Luo said. Zhao Wuji chuckled. Are you in such a hurry, kid? Spirit manifestation. Zhao Wuji activated his spirit. 7 spirit rings pulsed up and down around his body, emitting a dazzling light. At the same time, his immense spirit power erupted, and a terrifying pressure bore down on Chen Luo. Chen Luo was completely unaffected by Zhao Wuji's aura and calmly activated his own spirit. A giant scythe appeared in Chen Luo's hand. A phantom image, visible only to Chen Luo, overlapped with his body. 2 purple and 1 black spirit rings slowly rose from beneath Chen Luo's feet, and his entire aura underwent a complete transformation. Undying. Chen Luo gave a low shout. Black flames rose from the Reaper side and instantly spread over his entire body. His 3 spirit rings suddenly lit up, and his aura climbed once again. As expected of the recognized little freak, you actually already have the aura of a spirit king, but I wonder how long you can maintain this state in battle. Zhao Wuji smiled excitedly, then charged straight at Chen Luo. There was no need for further pleasantries, the training began immediately. After activating Undying, Chen Luo was in an extremely special state. The feeling of possessing such great power was wonderful, as if he could overcome anything. This feeling of power gave Chen Luo absolute confidence, but due to his own personality, he remained in an extremely calm state. Watching the spirit saint Zhao Wuji rushing toward him, Chen Luo did not panic in the slightest, the corners of his mouth even unconsciously curled into a subtle arc. Not using your martial soul avatar. Hey, teacher Zhao, aren't you being a bit too arrogant? Chen Luo charged straight toward Zhao Wuji. His speed was faster than Zhao Wuji's. Clang. Chen Luo collided with Zhao Wuji almost instantly. Chen Luo's Reaper scythe came down, slashing at Zhao Wuji's arms. A movable bright king body. Zhao Wuji's first spirit ring flashed, anticipating Chen Luo's attack in advance. A strong golden light instantly erupted around Zhao Wuji's body, and the immense force sent Chen Luo flying away. Chen Luo had also timed his move very cleverly. Only after Zhao Wuji released his immovable bright king body did he activate his Reaper scythe, erupting with incredibly powerful black flames. Boom. The black flames instantly swept over Zhao Wuji's entire body, carrying the effects of poisonous flame and intense fire. Furthermore, with the increase in Chen Luo's strength, the damage of these 2 abilities seemed to have increased significantly as well. Most of the hair on Zhao Wuji's body was burned away, and there were several charred patches on his skin. On some wounds, black flames were still writhing in the flesh, making it painful just to look at. Hiss. Zhao Wuji's entire face twisted, and he couldn't help but let out a painful roar. He immediately channeled his spirit power to dispel the black flames clinging to his body. Following that, he did not feel angry because he was injured. Instead, a look of excitement appeared on his face. Very good. With the increase in your strength, your spirit ability has also become much stronger, causing me greater damage, and that damned black flame is even harder to dispel. Your combat timing just now was also very well grasped. I had originally calculated that you would use that special spirit ability and intended to use my first spirit ability to block it. I didn't expect you, kid, to be even more cunning. You didn't release it at the first moment, but instead waited until after I had released my first spirit ability. Very impressive, truly worthy of being a little freak. Zhao Wuji looked at Chen Luo, who had been knocked back more than 10 meters by him. On his excited face, a self-deprecating smile rose. My goodness, it seems my first spirit ability didn't even cause you any substantial damage. Your original plan was to immediately distance yourself from me after attacking, right? This just happened to go according to your wishes. Chen Luo steadied his figure. He had indeed not suffered much damage. He had completely gone along with the force of the golden light's eruption to retreat. Everything Zhao Wuji said was spot on. As expected of the immovable bright king Zhao Wuji, after just one brief exchange, he was able to discern so many details. The warm-up is over. Let's quickly begin the real battle. I can't wait. Let me see your 10,000-year spirit ability. After Zhao Wuji finished speaking, his 2nd and 3rd spirit rings lit up simultaneously. Chapter 49, The So-Called Monsters. Zhao Wuji's 2nd spirit ability is Vajra Palm. After activating it, his hands completely transformed into bear paws, and his power and aggressiveness instantly increased by several levels. Zhao Wuji's 3rd spirit ability is Gravity Enhancement, which Chen Luo had already witnessed during the entrance exam. Back then, it was precisely because Zhao Wuji's gravity enhancement restricted Chen Luo's speed so severely that Chen Luo gave up the fight. If Chen Luo could not gain an absolute advantage in speed, he would be nothing more than a slow-moving target in front of Zhao Wuji. After Zhao Wuji activated gravity enhancement, Chen Luo clearly felt the pressure around him increase exponentially. It felt as if he had many heavy objects tied to his body, significantly affecting his speed. It's not a big problem, I just need some time to adapt to this current state. Chen Luo calmly watched Zhao Wuji rushing towards him and immediately took action, though he did not attack Zhao Wuji but retreated instead. Activating 2 spirit abilities simultaneously meant that Zhao Wuji was already taking things seriously, so he needed to adjust to his best state to face him. After all, Zhao Wuji was a spirit saint level powerhouse, and his combat experience completely crushed his own. Zhao Wuji could afford to make countless mistakes, but he didn't have a single chance. As long as Zhao Wuji caught a flaw, it would mean the end of the battle. Not bad, little freak. After your strength improved, you actually have such great immunity to my gravity enhancement. You are worthy of being a student that even I, Zhao Wuji, can't help but admire. Zhao Wuji laughed. Chen Luo's speed was weakened significantly, but Zhao Wuji's speed suddenly increased. He had unleashed all his spirit power and had completely entered a combat state. The distance between the two quickly closed. Zhao Wuji increased his speed once more, leapt suddenly, and swung his bare paws toward Chen Luo. However, the result was that he swiped at empty air. You adapted so quickly. A look of surprise appeared on Zhao Wuji's face. He immediately twisted his body and swung his bare paw toward his back. Chen Luo happened to appear behind Zhao Wuji and swung the Reaper's side down. Clang. The Reaper's side was blocked by Zhao Wuji's bare paw, but the black flames, unimpeded, erupted once again. Boom. Facing the incoming black flames, Zhao Wuji remained calm. His spirit power surged wildly, protecting himself as much as possible. At the same time, his first black spirit ring bloomed with a deep black light, and his fifth spirit ability, Gravity Squeeze, was activated. Immense pressure attacked from all directions, and Chen Luo's body was pulled uncontrollably toward Zhao Wuji. Chen Luo's expression changed suddenly. He gripped the Reaper's side tightly with both hands, and the black 10,000-year spirit ring on his body also bloomed with black light. Shadow Bind. Countless shadows surged from the Reaper's side and instantly wrapped around Zhao Wuji, binding him tightly. When Chen Luo was half a meter away from Zhao Wuji, the effect of Gravity Squeeze finally vanished. Chen Luo immediately kicked Zhao Wuji hard in the chest, using the force to quickly distance himself from Zhao Wuji. Zhao Wuji could not break free from Shadow Bind for a moment, but this special thing could not trap Zhao Wuji for long. Almost at the same time Chen Luo left, all the shadows were shattered by Zhao Wuji and turned into nothingness. Is this your 10,000-year spirit ability? It can actually control even me. A look of surprise flashed across Zhao Wuji's face, and then he continued to attack Chen Luo. You better be careful, next time I won't give you such a good chance to escape. Zhao Wuji closed the distance with Chen Luo again, but Chen Luo was not panicked in the slightest and responded calmly. An inch longer means an inch stronger. The Reaper's side was a weapon after all. When facing Zhao Wuji's fists, it always had some advantages, and there was plenty of room to maneuver. Chen Luo did not give Zhao Wuji a chance to get close. He calculated the limit of the attack range of the Reaper's side, and as soon as Zhao Wuji entered it, he immediately swung the Reaper's side to launch an attack. Clang. The side blade and the bear paw collided again, and the black flames roared out once more. Zhao Wuji's face twitched slightly. Is your spirit power inexhaustible, little freak? And the speed of this spirit ability is too fast. Zhao Wuji had already resisted the black flames twice in a row. He had burns all over his body, and they were still throbbing with pain, stimulating his nerves. The moment the black flames erupted, Zhao Wuji finally chose to retreat, very decisively. Want to run? A faint smile rose on Chen Luo's face. It looked sunny, but to Zhao Wuji, it was terrifying. Shadow Bind. The instant the black flames swept out, the shadow surged out a step ahead, binding Zhao Wuji once again. Zhao Wuji, who was preparing to retreat, had no time to react. His figure became unstable, he fell directly to the ground, and was once again swallowed by the black flames. During this time, Chen Luo added another attack on Zhao Wuji, and the huge side blade left a gruesome wound on Zhao Wuji's waist. Having maximized his output, Chen Luo immediately retreated. His timing was just right. After he opened a safe distance from Zhao Wuji broke free from Shadow Bind. Damn it, is there no end to this? Zhao Wuji's face was full of depression, and his gaze toward Chen Luo was filled with shock. Doesn't your kid's spirit ability have a cooldown time? And it doesn't even need charging time, you just released it directly. Do you have to be so freakish? Chen Luo wore a faint smile. I used all my strength, and only barely managed to survive a few moves from Teacher Zhao. Zhao Wuji rolled his eyes at Chen Luo. Stop being humble with me, and don't try to change the subject. Do you think I don't know if you don't say it? That special fire spirit ability of yours also needs charging, otherwise, with your ruthlessness, you definitely wouldn't have just released it once. However, that big scythe of yours is truly sharp. Zhao Wuji wiped the wound on his waist, his bare paw stained with blood. But under the urging of Zhao Wuji's spirit power, the wound instantly stopped bleeding and was slowly recovering. Apparently, this kind of ordinary attack did not have a good effect on Zhao Wuji. Zhao Wuji's body was too formidable, his own defense was extremely strong, and his recovery ability was also terrifying. Only special spirit ability style attacks could make Zhao Wuji suffer real injuries. Zhao Wuji was not wrong. The black flames that swept out after Chen Luo activated Undying indeed could not be released continuously and required a certain amount of preparation time. At most, it could be released 3 times at once, and then one had to wait for about 10 seconds before it could be released again. 10 seconds seems short, but in a real battle, 10 seconds is enough to do many things. However, this could not cover up the fact that the black flame sweep was powerful. Even Zhao Wuji suffered because of it, and he was a spirit saint level powerhouse. If Chen Luo's opponent were of the same level, I'm afraid one black flame sweep would make the opponent lose their combat ability directly, or even cause them to die on the spot. As for Shadow Bind, it could also be released at most twice in a row, and then it required 30 seconds of preparation time. The controllability of this 10,000-year spirit ability was not for show, even Zhao Wuji could not break free for a moment. If facing someone of the same level, it could basically control them to death. On the playground. The Shrek 7 Devils had already completed their sparring training, and Grandmaster had finished reviewing all of them. The problems that everyone had were pointed out by Grandmaster without mercy. Now, it was time for the lecture. Grandmaster glanced in the direction of Zhao Wuji and Chen Luo, then looked at the Shrek 7 Devils and said in a deep voice, "You are not yet worthy of being called monsters, the monsters are over there. Your performance today has disappointed me greatly. Everyone has committed unforgivable mistakes. Now, all of you will be punished." Chapter 50, Terrifying Upgrade Speed. Boom. On the open ground, a golden giant bear slapped the ground with one paw, leaving a massive bear paw print on the ground while causing the earth to tremble. A figure retreated at extreme speed, avoiding the immense power radiating from the bear paw, and finally stopped 20 meters away. Golden light flickered, the golden giant bear vanished, and Zhao Wuji's figure appeared. His body was covered in various wounds, and he looked quite dejected. You kid are getting stronger and stronger. This time, you actually forced out my martial soul avatar in less than 10 minutes. A happy smile beamed on Zhao Wuji's face. Chen Luo smiled slightly. It is all thanks to Teacher Zhao's proper training. Stop giving me that useless polite talk. It is all thanks to your own hard work. Zhao Wuji laughed. It's just hard on me. As he spoke, Zhao Wuji glanced at the wounds on his body, then shook his head and smiled. It doesn't matter. As long as it helps you become stronger, everything is worth it. By the way, why is your spirit power improvement speed so exaggerated? Your current spirit power rank must be at least 35, right? Zhao Wuji could not see through Chen Luo's true strength. Only when Chen Luo used Undying could he sense the strength or weakness of Chen Luo's aura. After every battle, Zhao Wuji could clearly feel Chen Luo's improvement. Today, Chen Luo's strength had another qualitative breakthrough, which clearly meant his spirit power rank had increased. Fast, Chen Luo blurted out subconsciously. Zhao Wuji immediately frowned. Are you saying that you kid actually think it's slow? You must know that the higher the spirit power rank of a spirit master, the harder it is to improve. A spirit elder is even more of a watershed. After a spirit master reaches spirit elder, the improvement speed of spirit power cannot be determined by hard work, it mainly depends on talent. In just 3 months, you have risen 2 ranks. Not to mention me, even in the experience of Dean Flender and Grandmaster, you are definitely the first. Chen Luo said, maybe it's the spirit power brought by the 10,000-year spirit ring. After absorbing the 10,000-year spirit ring, there was still a large amount of energy in my body that hadn't been completely absorbed. These 3 months of combat training with Teacher Zhao allowed me to complete the absorption of that energy, which is why my spirit power rank increased by 2 levels. Hearing this, Zhao Wuji laughed. That is indeed possible, but you kid are truly formidable. You are the most outstanding little freak I have ever seen. Zhao Wuji was never stingy with his praise for Chen Luo. Alright, I'm going to rest. Activating Martial Soul Avatar is fun, but after it's done, it's uncomfortable. It will take another 7 days to recover. Zhao Wuji smiled. Your training is also completely finished, and my mission is perfectly accomplished. You should go see Grandmaster. Maybe he has other arrangements for you. Okay, thank you, Teacher Zhao, for this period. Chen Luo nodded, then said with heartfelt gratitude. Zhao Wuji waved his hand as he walked. No need to be so polite. Chen Luo looked at Zhao Wuji's departing back, his eyes full of gratitude. 3 months had passed unknowingly. In these 3 months, Zhao Wuji had accompanied Chen Luo in combat training without complaining about the hardship. Every time, Zhao Wuji would get injured, but he never said anything. The more severe his injuries, the happier Zhao Wuji became. That happiness came from the heart. Even after using Martial Soul Avatar, when Zhao Wuji would fall into a weakened state, he would still accompany Chen Luo in training without a single word of complaint. To have such a good teacher, Chen Luo was truly grateful from the bottom of his heart. Chen Luo's strength was indeed like a monster at the same rank, but facing Zhao Wuji, who was at the Spirit Saint level, he did not yet have the ability to knock Zhao Wuji down, unless he released the 2 undead spirit beasts from the necrotic space. It was precisely because Zhao Wuji was strong enough that Chen Luo could challenge his limits in every combat training session and then break through himself time and time again in those limits. In addition to the improvement in combat ability, Chen Luo's spirit power rank had also increased by 2 levels. This was not what Chen Luo had just said, because the improvement was obtained due to the benefits brought by the 10,000-year spirit ring. It was entirely achieved through his own cultivation. Of course, it also had a great deal to do with him challenging his limits every day. When in a limit state, the Death God technique would operate crazily, and Chen Luo's cultivation speed would also double. After breaking through the bottleneck of every level, Chen Luo's cultivation speed was already exaggerated. Cultivating in a limit state made Chen Luo feel that a 2-level increase in 3 months was actually a bit slow. The harvest from this training is quite fruitful. I am very much looking forward to the subsequent training. Chen Luo said with great satisfaction in his heart, then secretly thought, it is a pity that the method of crazily increasing the level by challenging the limits cannot be used often. Otherwise, my spirit power rank would increase rapidly. That method is fast for increasing spirit power rank, but it is not very stable. For the next period, I will properly consolidate the gains from this period. The road must be walked step by step after all. Achieving success overnight is counterproductive. If I want to go further, I must be steady and solid. Chen Luo had always been a very calm person and would never lose his rationality because of some achievements before his eyes, taking shortcuts that might destroy his future. Today's spirit power consumption is still acceptable. There is no need to deliberately cultivate anymore. I will go to Xiaowu to see the situation. I don't know how their training is going. 3 months have passed, and their training should be drawing to a close. Chen Luo patted the dust off his body and walked towards the place where Xiaowu and the others were training. Your first stage of training has been successfully completed. You did not disappoint me. I will give you 7 days to rest well in preparation for the second stage of training. When Chen Luo arrived at the place where Xiaowu and the others were training, Grandmaster happened to be speaking, giving his final instructions. After finishing speaking, Grandmaster prepared to leave. Passing by Chen Luo, Grandmaster looked at Chen Luo with some surprise. Finished? Yes, finished. Very good. Grandmaster, Teacher Zhao said that my current training is over, so what about my subsequent training? We will talk about it in 7 days. Okay. With a few simple words, Grandmaster left. Chen Luo walked towards Xiaowu and the others. Xiaowu discovered Chen Luo's arrival and immediately walked up to him. Quickly let me see, are you injured today? Xiaowu checked Chen Luo's condition with great concern. After 3 months of devilish training, Xiaowu's appearance had not changed in the slightest. Her little face was still rosy, without any traces of being tanned, and she was still as lively as ever. Chen Luo smiled slightly. I'm fine, just some minor injuries. Everyone is watching. Xiaowu then walked to Chen Luo's side, her pretty face slightly blushing. Looking at the other little freak of Shrek, the 3 months of time had caused them to change more or less. The biggest change among them was Ma Hongjun. He had lost a lot of weight, but he still looked relatively fat. Compared to his previous bloated appearance, the current Ma Hongjun gave people a feeling full of power. The other few also had corresponding changes. Chapter 51, Fatty gets beaten up.